Even as one of the most prestigious houses, House Astery still harbors a dark rumor, which is that it will banish even its own bloodline if they possess no talent. Everything began a month ago when the young master, who had remained unconscious from mana shock after muttering nonsense for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes and bolted straight out of the mansion. Instead of heading anywhere horrific, he plunged right through the rain to reach the edge of the forest. After clawing at the earth until both his hands were stained with blood, the thing resting within his fingertips, of all things, turned out to be nothing more than a weed. And ever since that day, without missing a single day for a whole month, Leon did nothing but weed. House Astery was originally a renowned magical lineage known for its incredibly rigid rules. They would cast aside members lacking in natural talent, even if they shared the same blood. However, unfavorable rumors had recently been brewing within the family. The maid Colette carefully lowered her voice while speaking with the others, asking if they had heard the news. It seems the young master failed to awaken this time as well. Helen hurriedly slapped a hand over her mouth to stifle her gasp. Seriously, this is already his third time suffering from mana shock. If things keep going like this, will the second young master become the successor to the head of the family? One of them hastily signaled Helen to watch her tongue. What if someone hears you? Colette quickly chimed in, right? We can't jump to conclusions just yet. The group of them were so absorbed in gossiping that they had no idea Sylvia had been eavesdropping all along. But failing the awakening ritual 3 times in a row is dangerous. No wonder the young master went crazy. Sabin shared Helen's sentiment. Exactly, he was already eccentric normally, but word is it's way more severe this time. Suddenly, Irvin spoke in a raspy voice. What are you girls talking about? Colette and Helen cried out in unison. You really don't know anything. The expression on Colette's face as she recounted the story looked utterly terrified. It all started a month ago. After enduring mana shock for the 3rd time, the young master had been bedridden for a long time. Until one day, he suddenly woke up, but the moment he opened his eyes, the young master started muttering a string of incomprehensible words. Then he suddenly sprinted straight out of the mansion, as if he had spotted something in the backyard. Word has it that the young master even dropped to his knees and dug into the earth with his bare hands, to the point where both his hands were bruised and bleeding. After digging blindly for a while, the thing resting in the young master's hands was, recalling Leon's distorted expression back then, looking as if he had just stumbled upon a treasure even though it was mere trash in the eyes of others. A single weed. Old Elvin and Sylvia both never expected to hear such bizarre news. A weed. Elvin brought his handkerchief up to wipe the beads of sweat dotting his face. He only pulled up a bush of grass. Why make such a big fuss over it? All 3 remaining people cried out in unison. That's not the point. One of them whispered, ever since that day, for a full month straight, the young master has only been weeding. Little did they know that Leon was merely completing a system quest to gather blue cinnamon herb. He kept pulling up bush after bush until they piled up into a heap in front of him before he felt satisfied. Harvest is enough for today. Leon's hands were caked in mud plus. He felt extremely bewildered seeing several figures lurking around him. Why are so many people out here watching me today? Being the eldest son of a major magical household really isn't all that great. His name was Leon. No, to be more precise, he was originally Being Heir, a Korean. In the past, Leon used to be a team leader at a very ordinary small to medium enterprise, but unable to stand the oppression from the company and his superiors, in a fit of rage, he handed in his resignation letter on the spot. Once he quit, the only thing Leon had an abundance of was time, so he went back to playing the game he used to grind like crazy back when he was applying for jobs. When he logged back into play, he was hit with a harsh reality check. Which bastard is this cruel? They wiped all my characters. Even the money I topped up was completely cleaned out. What kind of lunatic is this? All the characters Leon worked so hard to grind up were wiped out. Honestly, it was a pity because he had a bunch of max level characters. But since he had already cleared all the endgame content, he didn't have any lingering attachment. So Leon created a new character and immediately bought the crafting job package, choosing 5 job packages at once to get right into it. A player's luck really is different. They grew instantly. Leon whistled cheerfully. Well, I've got free time anyway. Let's try living a peaceful production lifestyle to heal my soul this time. That was the last memory he had as Being Heir. Because after waking up, he had become Leon Asteria in the world of In the World. Furthermore, the current time was 50 years after the conclusion of the main storyline. Right now, Leon was focusing on gathering sea rosemary while recalling old, painful memories. Thank goodness this body still retained the previous owner's memories, otherwise adapting at first would have driven him insane. The system stated that sea rosemary was an herb with a salty, bitter taste like seawater. Gathering it meant he had completed the apprentice herbalist stage and received 1,000 shillings, and the exclusive shop would unlock once he had enough money. Leon was quite surprised. That's pretty fast. There's even a personal shop. He mentally estimated it probably takes about 100,000 shillings to unlock. If I grind diligently, who knows, I might escape this situation soon. Leon swiftly uprooted the cluster of blue cinnamon herb and sea rosemary right in front of him. Thankfully, the system windows still popped up normally, and the skills he had bought in the game were also preserved. Speaking of which, this body seemed to have just failed its third awakening right. House Asteria was a place that valued strength above all else. Someone like Leon who failed the mana awakening ritual wouldn't find it strange at all if he were kicked out of the family immediately. If he wanted to go out and make it on his own, he needed money first. How could he earn money while safely getting out of this place? A crazy idea suddenly flashed through Leon's mind. What if I bribed the head of the house? The moment he thought of that, he instantly wanted to sweep the entire front for herbs, so I need to level up fast and find something really good to present to him. This blue light effect is. Leon darted toward the bushes like lightning. It's definitely a rare item. As Leon anticipated, that was indeed a solar red herb. Without a moment of hesitation, he yanked it out, got it. Immediately, the system popped up a notification detailing both the characteristics and uses of the new herb, solar red herb. Leon was happier than striking gold. Another new achievement unlocked. That floating sensation made him unable to hear the calls of the people around him. Young Master. Leon's eyes shone brightly like car headlights, and it's even a 3-star achievement, but the more he ignored them, the more persistent the newcomer became. Young Master. Finally, Leon heard the calls of head housekeeper Sylvia, whose gaze looked as if she wanted to swallow Leon alive. It seems the young master has been deeply obsessed with weeding lately. He replied honestly, I have my own reasons. Leon suddenly snapped up and asked the other person about the solar red herb in his hand. Oh right, Grandma Sylvia, did you see this? She observed it for a moment and replied, looks like a top-grade medicinal herb. However, Sylvia's answer didn't match Leon's expectations. Not that one, it's glowing, can't you see it? He began to grow flustered. You really don't see it at all. She looked at him as if looking at a complete moron. It seems the servant's rumors are true. She calmly spoke, yes, I don't see anything. Leon was made awkward by her gaze. He looked at the solar red herb sparkling with blue light in his hand and muttered, so only I can see it. Leon was just confirming whether the light surrounding the herb was visible only to him. Sylvia couldn't bear to watch Leon in such a wretched state any longer. Please return with me, young master. You've been awake for quite a while but still haven't come to pay respects to the head of the house. He's been having people look for you. Leon was startled. He's looking for me. Asteria was a family that subscribed to absolute meritocracy, where even inside the house the law of the jungle prevailed, and the outstanding got everything here. The head of House Asteria was Patrick, whom Leon absolutely had to butter up first before running away. Leon felt anxious about his bleak future, thinking that since he was useless, the old man wouldn't bother paying attention to him anymore. Never expected him to send people calling this early. What should I do? I haven't even prepared a bribe yet. It seemed he had just thought of a brilliant strategy to deal with Patrick. Leon messaged back to the person in front of him, Grandma Sylvia, could you tell him I'll come meet him later? Also, I'd like to ask you a favor. Sylvia actually helped Leon pass the message to Patrick. Oh really? He calmly toyed with a blazing red magic flame in his hand. That brat still hasn't regained his senses yet. Kondo quickly answered, yes, ever since waking up, the young master goes out weeding every single day. Patrick continued to question him, is there anything else? Kondo lowered his head and reported truthfully, he still can't sense mana, but his health is completely normal and his memories have no issues. Patrick grew so angry that the wrinkles on his face looked as though they were about to fold into each other. Dismiss yourself. Kondo knew this was a chance to escape death, so he quickly bowed and withdrew. Patrick's voice became ice cold. Sylvia, what on earth is that brat doing right now? She calmly replied, still weeding. Everyone in the mansion knows about this. Obviously, this information didn't get through to Patrick at all. Sylvia added fuel to his burning anger. Lately, the young master's weeding range has even expanded to the forest outside the mansion. Smoke began to billow from Patrick's head. I didn't ask about that. It seemed Sylvia wanted to drive Patrick up the wall. Oh right, the young master also said he'd come pay respects to you later. Sure enough. Patrick broke down. What later? Later as in later. He said he's coming later. Has he got a death wish? He sprang to his feet and cursed loudly. No way. Tell him right now. If he doesn't crawl over here immediately, I'll level that entire forest. Sylvia seemed too used to the reactions of the family members and remained composed. Understood. I will convey your exact words. After she left, Patrick was finally able to boldly regulate his breathing. He used a magic orb to search for Leon's whereabouts. Oh lord, this insolent brat. Patrick tearfully chided his young grandson Leon. Now that he's woken up, he should have rushed over to report to his grandfather saying, Grandpa, I'm healthy again, right? Instead, for weeks he only knew how to bury his head in weeding. Upon returning to his own room, Leon was startled. No way. On the table were placed many brewing flasks that looked like equipment from a chemistry lab, along with aluminum and metals. He cheered joyfully. What is this stash of high-end equipment? Just because his grandson wanted to brew some medicine, the old man brought out treasures of this caliber, as expected of a wealthy, noble family. Leon quickly opened the system panel to review his skill attributes. Well then, if my guess is right, the quest to level up the alchemy crafting profession is probably another repetitive grind, just like gathering. Proficiency levels are divided into 3 tiers, with the master tier achieved by only 1% of players. He tossed a sprig of herbs into the clay pot. the higher the proficiency, the more refined the technique, and the better the quality of the finished product. Stirring the medicine, he grinned idiotically like a fool. Why don't I just casually make 100 bottles of potions and drink them all myself? Thinking of that, Leon immediately placed his hand over the rim of the steaming pot. He shouted loudly, "Extraction." The very next second, a thick red liquid bubbled over inside the pot. Guided by Leon's magic, that liquid found its own way into the test tube on the table, and the system chimed with a notification announcing the successful crafting of a stamina recovery potion. Leon was thoroughly satisfied with the stamina recovery potion before him. Success. Without even bothering to test for poison, he chugged a bottle of that herbal extract straight into his stomach. Having high-end gear really is true love. Right at that moment, the system notified him that he had used a potion and become an apprentice alchemist. Leon grinned foolishly, just as I thought, Grandpa. The entire room and even his mind at this moment had lost all light. Wait for me. The more he drank, the higher the system progress went. Leon drank potions with total disregard for his life, until finally he was down to his last shred of strength. I can't drink anymore. The table was littered with nearly empty potion bottles. His stamina was already at 100%, yet he was forced to drink extra recovery potions. How was that any different from torture? Just one last gulp, hang in there. Leon forced down the final drop of potion, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Yet the sweet reward of 1,000 shillings truly belonged to Leon. Finally, he had successfully unlocked a new recipe. Leon muttered to himself, "Awesome, I've skimmed through the contents, now let's begin." He frantically tossed the herbs he had gathered into the cooking pot. While gathering herbs, he had always been pondering what kind of gift would be appropriate to give the old man. Since grandfather possessed a colossal amount of mana, giving him mana recovery potions made no sense. And as for stamina recovery, the household always had master healing mages on standby, so giving that would be awkward. Then he thought of a type of potion that helped dispel mental fatigue. Right now, Leon was focusing on brewing it, since the old man had to deal with mountains of work every day. Word has it that archmages could use mana to continuously maintain their physical state, so working overtime was fine. But mental fatigue was a completely different story. Leon was truly earnest about creating this meaningful gift. The medicine in the pot sparkled brightly just as the recipe described, and the scent was so fresh and soothing. He quickly poured it into a bottle. I have a really good feeling about this. In the game it was just trash loot, yet in reality it felt completely different. Leon once again placed his hand over the newly brewed bottle of herbs and shouted, "Extraction." Sparkling droplets of water continuously transformed under his magic. Contained within them were countless fond memories of Leon when he was still Bikihyon. The system chimed, activating the alchemy specialization trait, and Leon successfully crafted a mental recovery potion. He never expected the result to far exceed his expectations, 2 stars. This was something that required at least level 8 proficiency to create. Amazing, with this stuff, it's definitely qualified to be used as a bribe for the old man. He had been utterly exhausted, but just smelling the scent cleared his mind instantly. It had effects even before drinking it. He had successfully crafted a potion that exceeded his current skill level. The system informed Leon that a mana ring had formed and activated mana coordination. Now he could manipulate mana with greater subtlety. Leon quietly waited for the new skill to stabilize, keeping a firm grip on the new potion bottle. Now Leon had successfully awakened his mana. He was overjoyed. Is this mana? Leon involuntarily burst out laughing, but that smile grew increasingly inhuman. He had no idea someone had been waiting outside for who knows how long. Finally, turns out Kondo had been secretly observing him through the crack of the room's door. Displaying no excess emotion, he ultimately turned away. Kondo briskly walked away from the perimeter of that room. For Leon, everything that happened today was entirely too smooth. This body originally couldn't even sense mana, but now he had both mana and money. Absolutely wonderful. Looks like the plan to leave the family will go very smoothly. Harsh sunlight streamed through the window into the room. He hurriedly closed his eyes to savor the pleasure he had just attained. Yet the very next second, his mouth immediately twitched into a grimace. Wait, did I forget something? After pondering for a long while, Leon let out a deep shout, "Grandpa." Patrick furrowed his brow slightly and asked, "Why hasn't Leon arrived yet?" He shook his head and sighed heavily, "Just brewing a few potions. Why is he making such a fuss out of it?" Patrick slowly spoke in an imposing voice, "Who am I? I am Patrick Asteria." He continued with profound pride, one of the pillars of the hero party. Patrick's gaze sank, his voice full of dominance. "The head of House Asteria can found an independent nation whenever he pleases. Those are all titles attached to me." He thought helplessly of his only grandchild. If only this kid would just stay put, I'd let him live out his entire life in wealth and luxury without a single worry. Wonder what he's planning to do with that frail body of his. Patrick let out a cold huff and retorted, "Does our family lack money or lack power? Sylvia smiled and gently replied, "It's only natural for the family head to be worried." She hesitated for a moment before continuing, but Sylvia curved her lips slightly, her gaze softening. The young master looked genuinely happy while crafting potions. He immediately dismissed it in a heavy tone. What use is happiness if he has to face death? Patrick gripped his armrests tightly, his expression distressed. This is his third time suffering from mana shock, you know it too. Just once is already hard enough to survive. His voice grew increasingly weighed down. I can't keep waiting for a miracle for the kid to survive another time. Outside, Kondo walked while speaking. Young master, the family head has been waiting for a long time. Leon smiled faintly. I knew it. Patrick sat frozen, sorrow flashing in the depths of his eyes. I just wish the kid could live a bit more healthily. He bowed respectfully and announced, "Excuse me, family head." Kondo raised his head and slowly reported, "The young master has arrived." Leon stepped into the room and bowed his head in apology, asking him to forgive him for being late. He gazed at him intently and let out a mild scolding, nodding that it had been quite a while since he left his sickbed. So why was he only coming to see him now? Hearing Patrick say that, Leon let out a soft, worried sigh. He fell silent for a moment before speaking up, admitting that after this mana shock, he had been thinking a lot. Leon calmly stated the truth that everyone in the family knew he had no magical talent, prompting her to step forward anxiously and call out to the young master. He smiled softly to reassure her, saying it was fine, Lady Sylvia, as he was well aware of that fact anyway. Leon lowered his gaze and calmly confessed that he couldn't accept being someone unable to control mana, or rather, it was more like he refused to accept it. He clenched his hands slightly, his voice dropping because the moment he accepted that truth, he felt like he would no longer have a place in this family. Leon raised his head, his gaze gradually growing determined, but now things were different, and this was the fruit of his study and hard work. He wore a confident smile, ready to accept himself and become a young master who wouldn't bring shame to the Asteria name. Leon suddenly changed his tone, speaking sincerely as he added that besides, he figured Grandpa must have been very tired lately. Patrick froze for a brief second, wondering what on earth this was about. He quietly observed the person before him, thinking to himself that the boy seemed completely different, whether it was his expression or his aura. No, it was something even more fundamental than that. Patrick remained silent, his gaze lingering on the item placed in front of him. A wave of emotion stirred within him as he silently wondered if the boy had really been making this for him all this time. Patrick nodded slightly, silently praising him and muttering that it was truly commendable. He let out a soft sigh and muttered to himself that he had long since surpassed the limits of an ordinary mortal anyway. Patrick shook his head inwardly, thinking that even normal deadly poisons had no effect on him, let alone a bottle of medicine like this, while Leon smiled sincerely and said he had thought of his grandfather while working hard to make it. He gently pushed the gift toward him, telling him he absolutely had to try drinking it whenever he had time, causing Patrick to smile softly as a hard-to-hide joy welled up in his heart. He pondered for a moment before asking if he was done talking, to which Leon responded with a polite bow and a quiet yes. Patrick nodded gently, his voice composed as he said he understood and told him he could take his leave. He bowed slightly and turned to leave the room. Sylvia smiled and remarked in a low voice that despite saying all that, he looked awfully happy, causing Patrick to clear his throat and try to look nonchalant as he said, "All right, it was nothing." He cast his eyes toward the bottle of medicine on the table, wondering about this specific potion. Patrick narrowed his eyes slightly, trying to recall where he might have seen it before. She stared closely at the potion bottle and spoke up, saying that if it were just a standard mana recovery potion, it ought to have some mana fluctuations, and suggesting they have it analyzed, but he immediately shook his head in refusal, saying there was no need. Patrick looked at the potion in his hand, his voice deepening as he said he wanted to feel this grandson's sincerity for himself. Sylvia smiled, let out a soft sigh, and looked over in his direction. She bowed respectfully and replied that she understood and would take her leave first. Patrick stroked the body of the bottle and smiled faintly, wondering how long it had been since Leon last gave him a gift. He quietly admired the gift and marveled inwardly, nodding upon closer inspection that the boy's craftsmanship was genuinely impressive, because even with top-tier tools, one couldn't finish something like this overnight without being well-versed in pharmacology and alchemy, leading him to think this kid was really something else. Patrick chuckled softly to himself, murmuring that even though it wouldn't do anything for him, it was a gift from his grandson, so letting it go to waste would be a shame, and he might as well see what it tasted like. He slowly unscrewed the cap and took a sip of the medicine. Patrick leisurely leaned back against his chair, half closing his tired eyes. He grew momentarily dazed, silently feeling his mind suddenly grow peaceful and deeply relaxed. Fragments of memories unconsciously surfaced in his mind, flashing past like shattered pieces of the past. Patrick found himself naturally reminiscing about the days gone by. He slowly drifted off to sleep, quietly sensing it before sinking into a deep slumber, though it was just a short nap, barely even worthy of being called sleep. In his dream, Patrick smiled faintly, finding the dream unusually peaceful and sweet. A moment later, he slowly opened his eyes and gazed ahead. Patrick sat there dazed, filled with nostalgia as he realized it was a dream of the days he always longed for, blinking in surprise and whispering to himself if he had fallen asleep, while quietly feeling the changes in his body and nodding that he didn't feel uncomfortable or empty at all. He clenched his fist in sheer astonishment, thinking how strange it was that his head felt so much lighter, and the headache that felt like it would haunt him forever had completely vanished. Patrick sat quietly in deep thought beside his desk, his gaze drifting far into the distance. He let out a helpless, dry laugh and muttered that the boy was truly as stubborn as ever. Patrick rested his chin in his hand, his expression growing determined as he thought that they couldn't just lock him in a cage forever simply because his body was weak, and that finding a way to prevent mana shocks was all they needed to do. He gently stroked the medicine bottle, filled with eager hope as he wished Leon good health so he could stay by his grandfather's side for a long time. In a corner of the courtyard, Collette's eyes widened in shock as she blurted out asking if the eldest young master Leon Asteria was actually dying. Helen leaned in close and replied in a whisper that it was true, and rumor had it he even gave a farewell gift to the head of the house, lowering her voice to sound like an expert on the matter and adding that must be why he'd been out pulling weeds every single day lately. Eska crossed his arms and sneered contemptuously, saying what else could it be, since he was probably just going out to pick his own burial spot in advance. A sudden loud noise echoed from behind him, making him shriek in startle. She flusteredly searched for an excuse to leave, stammering that right, someone had asked her to help take in the laundry, while Eska hurriedly waved his hand to scatter the crowd, telling everyone to get back to work. Kondo looked at the other person and softly asked if Hannah was all right, to which she responded with a gentle shake of the head and a sigh. She said she was fine, but heard that the eldest young master's personal attendant had quit again, causing him to widen his eyes in disbelief and ask if it was happening again, prompting Hannah to clench her fists in annoyance and agree that those people were awful, because back then they all claimed serving the eldest young master was the easiest job in the mansion, and rejoiced at landing such a sweet gig. The more she spoke, the angrier she got, adding that now just because of some ridiculous rumors they dared to quit without a single word of warning, and since they'd taken a job within the family, they should have shared both the good times and the bad to the end, calling them completely devoid of loyalty. Hannah gave a light snort filled with indignation, asking how many favors those people had received from the eldest young master over the years, only to throw all that kindness away over baseless rumors, right before Kondo turned pale and hurriedly warned her that Hannah was right behind her, as an unexpectedly calm voice spoke up from behind. Startled, Hannah whipped around and stammered out a greeting to the steward, while Sylvia wore a polite smile and asked if she could enlighten her on what those rumors were about. Maintaining her gentle smile, she slowly added that she was quite curious herself. Sylvia bowed slightly and apologized for arriving late. He waved his hand dismissively and replied calmly that it was fine, asking if anything urgent had come up, to which she smiled, shook her head lightly, and said it was nothing major. Sylvia leisurely stepped closer and continued slowly, saying it was just sorting out some household affairs, before asking why he had called for her so early in the morning anyway. Patrick looked at her quietly, a subtle hint of anxiety flashing in his eyes. He pushed the medicine bottle forward and said in a deep voice that with her witch's eyes, she might be able to take a look at this vial of medicine for him. Sylvia lowered her gaze and intently observed the vial sitting on the table. She frowned slightly, her voice laced with doubt as she noted that this didn't look like something the young master could possibly make. Sylvia paused, a flicker of hesitation crossing her eyes as she murmured that this was. Her eyes widening in undisguised astonishment, she asked if this wasn't the hero's potion. Sylvia slowly reminisced about the past, recalling the hero as the savior of the world who had ended the war with the demon race 50 years ago and suddenly vanished. She continued with a tone of deep reverence, stating that not a single labyrinth in this world could ever trap him. Sylvia clenched her hands slightly, her voice sinking as she mentioned a legendary figure whom even the gods had to treat with caution. And a spark of hope suddenly welled up in her heart, thinking that he might be the only one capable of finding the contract hidden within this mansion's labyrinth and setting her free, the only one. Sylvia took a light breath and asserted that only a hero could possibly possess something like this, though Patrick remained calm and slowly pointed out that they shouldn't jump to conclusions, because if this really were the hero's medicine, its effects should be far stronger than this. She grew pensive, still harboring a lingering doubt as she started to say moreover. Sylvia shook her head slightly, silently dismissing the thought and telling herself that Leon couldn't possibly be the hero. He looked at her and slowly expressed his intention to have the boy brew a better batch anyway, because he wanted her to experience the same relief he felt, prompting a surprised Sylvia to blurt out asking if he meant for her. Patrick smiled and explained calmly that indeed, hadn't she been living in a state of exhaustion for hundreds of years, so if this medicine worked for an 8-circle grand mage like her, he figured it would help her too, even if just a little. Hearing that, she merely offered a helpless faint smile. Immediately afterwards, Sylvia burst out laughing, her laughter echoing throughout the room. She shook her head slightly and spoke up, asking if he knew what the most useless thing in the world was, which was worrying about a witch since they were born with a 1,000-year lifespan, bodies immune to all diseases and supreme magic and skill. Sylvia gradually reined in her smile and continued in a softer tone, concluding that there was no need to bother their lovely grandson, though after a brief moment of silence she smiled and added however. Sylvia looked at Patrick with a tender gaze, saying she truly appreciated his kind intentions. He stood there silently, calling out softly to her in his heart as Sylvia. A moment later, Leon walked in from outside and asked why he looked like he had something on his mind. Patrick raised an eyebrow slightly and shot back immediately, asking what on earth he meant by having something on his mind. Observing the expression on his face, the young man kept probing and asked if he hadn't slept well last night. But when Patrick shook his head to deny it, Leon propped his chin up and thoughtfully suggested a lack of exercise, which the older man curtly dismissed with a firm no, prompting the youth to tilt his head in serious speculation and ask if old age was making him unable to handle greasy food anymore, causing Patrick to glare at the boy and call him quite bold. While Leon calmly continued that if none of those reasons were it, he cast his eyes toward the medicine bottle on the table and asked if it was because of the potion he gave him, making the old man freeze momentarily as he mentally confirmed that yes, that was it. Patrick dropped his playful demeanor and turned serious, saying all right, without wasting any time he would get straight to the point and ask if the boy could brew a higher quality batch of medicine than the one he brought before. Leon frowned slightly as he calculated mentally that under the current circumstances, brewing a 2-star potion was already hard enough, let alone. He frowned again in silent calculation, realizing he couldn't find any more 1-star herbs anywhere. Leon let out a soft sigh and continued thinking that last time was just pure luck, mostly thanks to his equipment, but he clenched his fist tightly, his eyes filled with determination, knowing he couldn't let this opportunity slip away while his sponsor was showing interest, and he had to seize this chance at all costs. Leon raised his head and replied calmly that it would take a little time, but he could do it, before asking if he might know what his grandfather planned to use it for. Patrick replied right away with a casual tone, saying he planned to gift it to the steward. The young man's eyes widened slightly in an expression of undisguised surprise. Leon blinked as a guess instantly popped into his head, thinking he could really feel it now. They were obviously flirting with each other. While in his imagination the older man nonchalantly said he just happened to find it lying around, and Sylvia blushed slightly and softly called out to the master, but a voice abruptly broke through his train of thought to say that wasn't how it was. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became of his theory, figuring of course he wanted to give the person he loved something better than what he carried, and thinking the old man must have been very lonely for a long time ever since she passed away, while the protesting voice chimed in helplessly once more insisting that wasn't the case at all, prompting Leon to take a deep breath and say seriously that Grandpa, please give him 2 weeks and he would make a higher tier potion by then. Patrick immediately stared in wide-eyed shock, exclaiming what on earth 2 whole weeks. Seeing his reaction, the youth paused for a second before changing his mind on the spot and declaring decisively that he would have it done in 1 week, telling him to just wait for it. He silently pumped himself up. This was his chance to max out his favorability points, so he absolutely had to succeed. The old man could only watch in stunned silence as Leon hurriedly rushed out of the room and headed toward the garden. The young man clutched his head in frustration, wondering how on earth he was supposed to craft a 3-star potion. Leon walked along with a splitting headache as he calculated that there wasn't enough time to blindly grind levels just to churn out a good batch. And even if he bought high-end herbs, he wouldn't know how to use them properly, making it better to just spend that money buying a pre-made potion instead. He suddenly remembered something and snapped his fingers, thinking that now that he mentioned it, he should check out the shilling shop since it might have some useful ingredients. A notification window popped up right in front of Leon's eyes, reading that previewing potions was unlocked and allowing him to view item lists and descriptions, which made him freeze and frown slightly in disbelief as he wondered what was going on, meaning he still couldn't buy them yet. Leon scrolled through the items, his mouth twitching as he asked, wait a minute, why was everything here so ridiculously expensive, questioning if it was inlaid with gold or something, and pointing out that since it was so battered it ought to be sold on clearance. He continued browsing the catalog, his expression stiffening in disbelief that the other categories were just as bad. Leon stared helplessly at the price tag before him, nodding that mere spices cost a whopping 10,000 shillings, and there was still nothing here that he could actually afford to buy. He let out a soft sigh and muttered to himself that if that method wouldn't work, his only remaining option was the traditional way. Leon silently weighed his remaining choices, noting that picking high-end herbs barehanded had its limits, and quickly pinpointed his objective for gathering superior herbs, realizing what he needed right now was. Leon nodded to himself, concluding he needed high-quality tools. At the nearby blacksmith's shop, the relentless sound of a hammer striking iron rang out continuously. Saul glanced over his shoulder toward the inside and shouted for the boss to come out, prompting Mudu to yell back irritably from the workshop that he was swamped and asking what all the shouting was about, which made the other guy urge him impatiently to hurry up. Sean pointed toward the front entrance with a wide grin, saying a big spender had arrived and telling him to come out fast, causing the smith to pause his work and instantly change his tone as he asked if it was really a big spender. Mudu muttered under his breath while continuing to work, saying if it was a big spender they should just rip him off and sell him everything, asking why they were bothering him with it. Leon stepped up to the counter and politely asked if he was the owner of this blacksmith shop. He calmly stated his purpose, asking if he could borrow a spot to try forging a few things himself, while the older man silently appraised the customer in front of him, nodding that he was obviously a wealthy young master and could easily be seen wearing expensive clothes. Mudu stared blankly at the person across from him and blurted out asking what he said, while Leon wore a confident smile and replied that of course he wouldn't refuse. He calmly laid out his condition, asking how it sounded if he paid him handsomely for the trouble. Strolling around the shop, Leon stopped in front of a counter filled with tools. He picked up the items one by one to inspect them, silently rating the quality as somewhat poor and figuring they wouldn't last long, wondering if craft blacksmiths simply couldn't be bothered making these trivial tools, or because their prices were hiked up so ridiculously high that he'd rather make one himself. Leon crossed his arms and continued calculating, realizing that even if he revealed himself as the eldest son of the Asteria family to place an order with a smith, they couldn't possibly manufacture top-tier equipment within a single day, so if that was the case. He walked over to the workshop entrance and politely asked if he could borrow a space to try forging a few items himself. Sean raised his head with a surprised look, asking if he meant self-forging, to which Leon calmly offered to pay him handsomely. The money pouch was opened, spilling glittering gold coins across the counter right in front of them. Mudu frowned and complained unhappily that the firewood was already acting up on top of having to babysit some aristocrat's playhouse game, causing Sean to turn pale and hurriedly pull on his sleeve to beg him to watch his tongue. Sean turned to Leon and explained politely that young master, you grew up in the lap of luxury so you might not know how things work, but this amount of money is more than enough to buy Mudu a shovel, so please take your money back. He offered an embarrassed smile and advised him that in any era there were swindlers lying in wait to prey on easy targets, so he had to be careful, making Leon blink in a mixture of amusement and exasperation as he thought that he had intentionally given extra money, prompting him to nod helplessly and say all right. Mudu crossed his arms and looked at him with deep suspicion, asking so, raising his eyebrow in disbelief and asking how a soft aristocrat like him could possibly want to forge a shovel with his own hands. Hearing those words, Leon involuntarily recalled some records he had once read about the dwarves, slowly reminiscing in his head about the race capable of touching fire without getting burned, along with the rest of the introduction detailing how they possessed extraordinary strength combined with meticulous precision. He looked at Mudu feeling a quiet sense of shock as he thought that rumors said only their descendants remained, and he hadn't expected to run into one here, before Mudu stared intently at the customer and asked for his name. Leon replied calmly that it was Leon, causing the older man to freeze momentarily and blurt out asking if he was the notorious madman of the Asteria family. Mudu glanced over his shoulder and shouted loudly for someone to prepare a spot for this eccentric customer, while Sean clutched his forehead in a sigh and frantically tried to stop him, pleading for his brother to please keep his mouth shut for once. The smith pointed toward the corner of the workshop and told him he could use the forge over there and boss that kid around to do whatever he wanted, causing Leon to nod gratefully and say thank you. He suddenly remembered something else and asked, by the way, what was your name, before letting his eyes sweep across the surroundings and pausing to find that he had already walked away. Sean walked over with a smile to explain that his older brother's name was Milan Mudu, so he could just call him Mudu while his own name was Sean, and invited him to follow him first. He politely bowed to lead the way, offering to give him a tour of the forge. Sean walked along with a smile, introducing things as they went, take your time looking around. He led him on a tour all over the workshop, enthusiastically introducing each section. Sean pointed to the display area up front and continued, and once the products products are finished, they'll be displayed outside. Leon silently observed everything around him. The equipment was wonderful, and the process was extremely meticulous, but he furrowed his brow slightly, his heart full of doubt. Why is the quality of the finished products so low? Leon suddenly turned his head toward the forge. What was that just now? The system voice immediately chimed in, low-level fire spirit, it's quieter than usual. He looked at the fire and asked Sean, are forge fires usually this weak? He hesitated and replied, right now it's not necessarily weak, but Sean sighed softly and explained, the firepower has definitely decreased compared to before, but how did you know that? Leon smiled and calmly answered, the fire told me. He continued speaking, then let me teach you how to make a shovel. Mudu's voice suddenly rang out from behind, wait, stop. He looked at his younger brother and gave a decisive order, Sean, go do your work, I have matters to discuss privately with him. Coming outside, Mudu slowly spoke, sir. He stared straight at Leon, his voice dead serious, you saw it, didn't you? He nodded slightly in confirmation, that's right. He intently watched him and asked in a low voice, can you fix it? Leon calmly replied, probably. Hearing that, Mudu hesitated for a moment before clenching his fists tightly. He took a deep breath and made his condition, if you can actually fix this thing, I will personally teach you blacksmithing. Mudu looked at him with utmost seriousness, I will grant you priority ordering rights for any custom crafting request. Leon was slightly moved by the offer. The smithy in this territory was so famous that it took orders from other territories. He instantly realized the value of this condition, and I get priority ordering rights. Leon smiled with quiet confidence, all right, leave it to me. Inside the forge, the faint fire flickered within the space, and Leon slowly walked up to the dying flame. Mudu watched quietly, his heart heavy. I've worked hard to turn this place into the largest smithy in the territory, but the fire spirit has run out of energy. He clenched his fists, thinking helplessly, without the spirit, relying solely on artificial firepower will ruin product quality. I'm reaching the limit of using skills to compensate. I'm a dwarf, so I don't even understand what the spirit is saying. At this rate, it's all over. Leon looked at the fire and calmly asked, so what if we just leave it there? Mudu mentally evaluated the person before him. He looked skinny and unreliable, but if he could really see the spirit. He listened for a moment and spoke, it says it's thirsty. The old man widened his eyes in surprise, thirsty. A fire spirit being thirsty. Mudu scratched his head, thinking seriously, should we pour some water on it? Leon immediately turned to object, pouring water on fire, are you crazy? He threw his hands up, looking deeply wronged. Hey, you're the one who said it was thirsty. What on earth do you want us to do? Leon took a breath and calmly explained, calm down, Mudu, we have to give it something a fire spirit can actually drink. Mudu looked at him with high hopes, if you can solve this, I'll give you my lifetime masterpiece or whatever you want. Leon raised an eyebrow to confirm, are you serious? He nodded without a shred of hesitation, yes, I'm serious. The corners of his mouth curved up into a confident smirk. Leon smiled and decisively said, great, I'll get to work tonight. Night fell and the light in his room was still glowing faintly. Leon rubbed his forehead and sighed softly. I never thought I'd still be working overtime even after coming here. The system voice suddenly rang out, low-level spirit is crying out, spirit essence is depleting, quench the thirst. He chuckled and replied, all right, I'll help you right now. Leon checked the info while analyzing silently. Right now, the low-level fire spirit is severely dehydrated. Normally, it wouldn't reach complete exhaustion. But the problem is this is the biggest smithy in the territory, dying from overwork or dehydration. Isn't that too ridiculous for a spirit? He quickly figured out the solution. Now I know where the problem lies. What I need is exactly see rosemary. A recipe panel popped up in front of Leon. See rosemary oil recipe. Reading while muttering, normally it's just an herb with a salty taste, but through a few processing steps, it turns into an oil that fire spirits can absorb. The system immediately confirmed, see rosemary oil finished product crafted. Leon looked at the finished product and nodded slightly, done. He carefully brought the bottle of oil close to the flame. There, drink up. The system voice rang out again, thirst has been quenched. The spirit's attributes and the sea rosemary oil harmonized. But the next notification quickly appeared, thirst is not yet satisfied. Leon exhaled and rolled up his sleeves. All right, I'll make more. Right after that, he set to work processing more ingredients. Leon briskly completed each step without a moment of delay. The system issued another notification, thirst has been quenched, essence has been restored. Another line of text continued to appear, the spirit is grateful, communion experience increased. He smiled softly at the flame, thank you. Mudu stood silently for a long time before blurting out, this eccentric brat, you actually pulled it off. He looked at him with an expression of deep admiration, you really are an amazing person. Mudu's expression shifted when he saw Leon sway, are you alright? He waved his hand and forced a smile, I'm fine. Leon maintained a calm facade and explained, it's just from staying up all night, nothing to worry about. He immediately shook his head, panicking, no. Mudu caught him saying frantically, "You can't just drop dead like this, kid." A short while later, in a kitchen filled with the aroma of food, lovely Thorn and Leaf curiously leaned close to the dining table to ask, "Big brother, what's your name?" Before the young man could answer, the two kids chimed in competitively, "I'm Thorn made of gold and I'm Leaf made of jade." The cuteness of this pair made anyone smile. You two are really close. Seeing them so close, he suddenly felt a pang thinking about his own sibling. Come to think of it, I wonder if I have any brothers or sisters. What would they look like? If I recall correctly, they're quite prickly, and above all, I don't think they like me very much. Pondering for a long time, he brushed it off to comfort himself. Oh well, as long as we don't cross paths, we should be fine. Anyway, I have no interest in the family head position. A loud shout from behind startled Leon into turning around. Oh my, kids. Rhea rushed over to scold the two mischievous little ones. Go play over there. The young master is eating, so he's the young master. He smiled gently and reintroduced his name. My name is Leon. Thorn looked excited because he preferred nicknames, but calling you young master sounds cooler, so I'll call you young master. Sure, call me whatever you like. Chased away, the two children ran and teased each other playfully. These two really stopped disturbing the young master's meal. Young master, young master. Leon sat having breakfast with Mudu's wife. I'm very sorry, young master. We're still too young. It's fine. Seeing the kids this energetic is actually a pleasant sight. By the way, this soup is delicious. I'm so glad the food is to your liking. She couldn't hide her anxiety when recalling old events. Young master, you have no idea how shocked I was when my husband brought you back this morning. Rhea expressed deep gratitude for his help. I heard you went through so much trouble because of him, and on top of that you stepped in to solve the problem. I don't know how we'll ever repay this debt. It's nothing, you gave me a place to rest and fed me too. Let's call it even. Right at that moment, a child's voice echoed, Daddy's back. The children swarmed out to joyfully welcome their dad home. Daddy, did the young master cure the spirit? Your face is covered in soot again, you little rascals. Leon smiled gently and suggested, getting ready to depart. If you're done eating, let's go. Mudu broke into a confident, refreshing smile. I've got everything prepared. He was extremely surprised by the sight before his eyes. Leon was completely stunned by a luxurious gold-rimmed wooden board placed beside some newly finished sharp farm tools. What is this? Like I said, whatever you request, I'll always prioritize making it first. If we're both busy, just write what you need here. I'll make it and deliver it right to you. Mudu walked ahead cheerfully to lead the way for the young master. Anyway, that's not the important part. Come on in. He was astonished to see pure blocks of iron in front of him. Mudu explained his thoughtful preparation. Is this iron? Looking at your stamina, I guess starting from ore smelting would make you pass out, so I prepared the materials in advance. Iron crafted by a descendant of the dwarf clan. He realized the blacksmith's seriousness in teaching. You're teaching me more seriously than I expected. What, don't tell me you plan to just slack off and wing it. Leon eagerly wanted to start his first blacksmithing lesson right away. Of course not. I want to learn right now. What should I do first? The blacksmith decided to demonstrate for him first. That's right, that's the spirit. Let me show you how it's done first. The first lesson was mastering the temperature of the metal. First, the most fundamental part of blacksmithing is the temperature of the iron. You have to gauge the temperature precisely, not too cold and not too hot. It's not just about making it glow red, but if you overheat it, it turns into liquid iron. The fire spirit appears. When the iron glowed red just right, the moment for forging had arrived. Right now. The sound of the hammer striking echoed thunderously. Strike force determines the shape of the weapon. Strike force is extremely crucial. Hammer the blade thin and keep the rest thick so it's sturdy. Finally came the filing and sharpening to finish the piece. Once the basic shape is formed, you file it down further and use a whetstone to sharpen the edge. He was putting the finishing touches on the hoe, finally fitting the handle to the hoe end. The hoe was completed, emitting a dazzling radiance. The hoe is done. How's that? A piece of cake, right? Mudu confidently asserted his craftsmanship. That's right. For an ordinary person, this isn't easy at all, but with legendary Mudu here helping you out, don't worry. Can I use up all of this iron? He was extremely surprised by the young master's actions. Of course, go ahead, really? I understand. Leon tossed the iron straight into the fire, making him panic. What do you mean you understand? He calmly faced the blazing fire. I'll give it a try. The sound of hammering iron rang out powerfully and decisively. He wiped his sweat tiredly after the first few hammer strikes. I expected this, but it's way harder than I thought. The system notifications continuously popped up with challenges. Hoe incomplete. Status cannot be restored. Oh man, this needs to be remelted in the fire before it can be used again. Hoe incomplete. Completion rate 15%. Unclear if this hoe can even be finished. Leon didn't get discouraged and persevered with his training. This is tough, but I can't stop now. Repeating this over and over would somehow lead to success. The grueling training began with countless consecutive failures. He began to grasp the secret of maintaining precise temperature. That's it. Leon confidently delivered powerful hammer strikes down onto the glowing red iron. Just keep it as accurate as before. Dazzling light radiated from each of his decisive hammer strikes. The system suddenly announced that he had awakened a brand new talent. You rascal. The blacksmith was astonished looking at the glowing red iron bar in his hand. right just now, try using that to make something. His astonished gaze felt a strange aura. It feels completely different from before. Leon broke out in a cold sweat, concentrating intensely on the hot iron. The sound of hammering echoed loudly. The basic shaping process officially began. He cheered joyfully upon completing his first hoe. Done. Handheld hoe crafted increases the chance of acquiring high-tier items. Mudu spared no praise for his talent. You're pretty good. This eccentric kid actually has a knack for it. Do you think it looks okay? It's way beyond just okay. This belongs to true innate talent. You should be proud. You finished one, so take a short break. Really? What should we do next? Leon eagerly proposed learning how to craft new tools. Teach me how to make a sickle. The abrupt request left the blacksmith completely dumbfounded. He burst into a hearty laugh at his determination and stubbornness. When it comes to stubbornness, you really are a true maniac. Mudu happily agreed to pass down all his secrets. All right, I'll teach you everything. I'll teach you everything. He silently promised his family as night began to fall. Wait a bit, Grandpa. I will definitely complete your love story. The hoe slammed heavily into the ground, kicking off a new journey. Close-up of detailed information on the newly harvested precious herb, finger ginseng, a plant with effects similar to ordinary wild ginseng but shaped like fingers, requiring extremely meticulous harvesting methods. When simmered and used correctly, it increases stamina. He was extremely surprised by the superior performance of the newly forged hoe. Switching to a better hoe makes this much difference. But he quickly realized this was only the beginning. There's more. The ethereal, glowing forest appeared with countless hidden herbs waiting. Equipping the hoe and sickle allowed him to gather even more types of herbs. Leon smiled with confidence, thinking about his future skill progression. If my digging proficiency increases a bit more, 3-star potions are entirely achievable. He eagerly dove straight back into work to train further. Why don't I try digging more to get used to it? New item information continuously popped up during the harvest. Banana sweet potato leaves, banana sweet potato vines. Discovering the tuber exposed under the deep dirt pit, he cheered with excitement. Just as I guessed, this shape is a sweet potato, which means beneath this layer of soil. The moment he swung his hoe down hard, a burst of bright flames flared up, startling him. A fragrant roasted sweet potato appeared along with a surprisingly triggered blessing notification. The low-level fire spirit's blessing hidden within the hoe had been activated. Received perfectly roasted banana sweet potato thanks to the fire spirit's blessing, a roasted sweet potato. Leon carefully read the guide and deduced the fire spirit's blessing has a certain chance of yielding a perfectly roasted item. I guess this works on anything edible. Simply amazing. I only swung the hoe once, and I already got a perfectly roasted sweet potato. The golden, fragrant roasted banana sweet potato in his hand made his mouth water. Without a second thought, Leon decided to eat it immediately. Eat first. Right after saying that, he took a huge bite. The very first bite sent him floating in a wave of bliss. It's hot, but that makes it even better. Sweet potatoes are best eaten when they're hot enough to burn your mouth. It was perfectly sweet with a rich, buttery flavor, feeling just like eating a regular sweet potato mixed with milk. In Leon's eyes at that moment, the roasted banana sweet potato was a heavenly delicacy. So good. The aroma of the sweet potato even attracted a small bird flying close. Seeing its sparkling eyes, he instantly understood. What's wrong? Do you want to eat too? He said, breaking off a small piece and offering it. Here's yours. It curiously lowered its head to take a bite, its gaze shifting from curious to sparkling just like Leon's earlier. Seeing its expression, he laughed. Delicious, right? Eat up. It fluttered around excitedly over the tasty food, bringing a tinge of nostalgia to Leon. I used to have a friend just like you when I played this game. I wonder how they're doing now. Ending his meal here, he gently stood up with the dawning sunrise behind him. Now that I have some energy, should I start gathering ingredients for potions? First, I should dig up a few more sweet potatoes. Meanwhile, at the mansion, a sorrowful sigh echoed. None other than Kondo, leaning one hand against a tree with an anxious expression. 3 days have passed since young Master Leon left. Why did he go to the smithy anyway? This is driving me crazy. Should I go look for him right now? Behind him, Sylvia showed no signs of worry. It seems the young master hasn't returned yet. He didn't know how long she had been standing there. Kondo turned his head in surprise. Head housekeeper. Yes, I'm worried sick over here. There are even weird rumors spreading all over the territory. They're whispering that the eldest young master is dying or that he'll be cast out of the family. The rambling was cut short by an enthusiastic voice. Oh look, it's Leon with a new friend on his shoulder. Is everyone waiting out here? Seeing the person he had been waiting for days return, he shouted, Young Master. Kondo hurried over to his side. Young Master, good lord, look at your state. He gently reassured, I'm fine. It's no big deal. But that brushing it off shrug displeased Sylvia. She frowned slightly. How can the eldest son of House Asteria possibly look like this? Kondo curiously pointed at the bird. By the way, what on earth is that bird? Leon only then noticed something perched on his shoulder. What the heck? When did you start following me? Suddenly Sylvia stepped forward to interrupt young master. You don't need to do that anymore. He instantly grasped the meaning behind those words. Grandfather told you everything, didn't he? He let out a helpless sigh. Old man Patrick really had no tact at all. This attitude left Sylvia completely frozen in shock while he continued. Anyway, the 1-week deadline I asked for hasn't run out yet, so please wait just a little longer. It's a bit late due to taking some time to gather the ingredients, but I've managed to find all of them. She was startled. You've already gathered the materials. Leon hurried inside while turning back to answer. So just wait a little longer for me. I'll craft it as fast as I can. Kondo, I'll be fine, so go back to your work. The boy wore a pitiful, hesitant expression and stammered, "But, young master, at least let me put some ointment on those scratches." Kondo ran after him, calling out, "Young master, you two are leaving Sylvia all by herself to dwell on this." She thought to herself, as a witch, almost all currently available medicines are useless on me. I don't know what Patrick said to the boy, but among all the members of the Asteria family I've ever seen, Leon is the most frail and the child who breaks my heart the most. Yet, seeing him do grueling blacksmith work all night long just to gather herbs. It's so foolish, but a faint, tiny sliver of hope has started to rise within me. The memories of him as a little boy are the exact reason why she truly doesn't dare to be sure if Leon can pull off this impossible feat. Can he really manage to craft that kind of medicine? A few days later, Sylvia went to see Patrick directly. You've been allowed in, you're here. Looking at your expression, I'm guessing the medicine worked. Sylvia no longer wore a gloomy look. Proudly, she explained, my mind and emotions, which had been fatting and withering away for decades, suddenly became crystal clear. I knew the boy had been working hard, but I never expected him to craft a medicine that would actually work on me in such a short amount of time. This should be impossible unless you did something, Lord Head of the family. He immediately denied it. Sylvia, I didn't do anything. I've been busy enough just preparing for Leon's coming-of-age ceremony, which ended up being cancelled because of his mana shock. Seriously, there's a mountain of paperwork behind all this. Sylvia seriously voiced her prediction. If Leon managed to craft a medicine of this caliber all by himself, that leads to a whole different issue. This is truly. It's just like a hero's potion. According to legend, the hero is an entity that appears alongside monsters to save the world before it is swallowed by darkness. But their personal life could never be called happy. They had to fight countless battles to save a chaotic world, constantly tasting despair and emptiness with every choice they made. Once peace was restored to the world, they suddenly vanished, like a single-use tool whose sole purpose was world salvation. Patrick agreed. That's right, they vanished without a trace, as if they simply evaporated. Their surviving companions and descendants tried searching for that hero, but we still haven't found any trace. If by some miraculous chance Leon really is the hero, what should we do? Losing the comrade who stood by my side on the battlefield was already enough. I don't want to experience that pain all over again with my own grandson. Sylvia paused for a brief moment. The next second, she broke into a smile. Then it's time to hide our precious child really well. This old woman Sylvia is officially retiring now. Hearing this, he was startled. What? You can't do that? That's absurd. You're willing to give up your own freedom just to hide Leon. You don't want to live bound to this house forever, do you? If it were me, I'd find that hidden contract and let you rest. Contrary to Patrick's vehement opposition, she simply replied calmly, Patrick, worrying about a witch is the most useless thing in this world. I already know the terms of the contract by heart. Witch Sylvia cannot leave this domain. Witch Sylvia can live like a human within this domain. At that moment, someone appeared by the window and spoke up, because our precious child helped me live a bit more like a human. It was another version of Sylvia. She smiled with amusement. So I'd be more than happy to stay by his side and protect him. Time ticked by until the White Castle was stained with the colors of twilight. In the study, cluttered with towering piles of books, a deep male voice rang out. A new maid has arrived. And she was even Master Leon's personal maid. That young man was Rixel, the second young master of the Asteria family. Rixel was an unrivaled genius and the next successor of the Archmage family. He was the youngest four-circle mage. He was also the descendant who bore the most striking resemblance to the head of the family, Patrick, in every aspect. His youth wasn't a weakness, but rather an extremely formidable weapon. For someone like him, getting a new servant was highly suspicious. He gave a slight frown. Before him lay Sylvia's resume, yet the portrait attached was that of a black-haired girl. He wondered suspiciously, having worked here for so long, yet she quits just because of a bottle of medicine. Her retirement didn't make any sense to begin with, and right as Sylvia left, a new servant appeared. Something definitely felt off here. Time rewound to last night. It turned out Rixel had met Sylvia yesterday. Sitting with his legs crossed, he found her resignation a bit hard to believe as she looked noticeably radiant. Are you really deciding to retire? Sylvia didn't reveal the truth and replied accordingly. Yes, I wanted to come and bid my final farewell to you before leaving. Young Master Leon's medicine has helped me a great deal. Naturally, he couldn't accept this reality. I still can't believe it. Sylvia then suggested, if you want to verify whether what I said is true, why don't you go pay a visit to the eldest young master? When you were little, you were always tagging along after him, weren't you? These words slightly eased the tension, and he blushed a little. That was when I was a kid. Sylvia repeated her sentiment once more. Young master, you might find it hard to believe, but everything I'm saying is the truth. If you get curious later on, just follow the eldest young master around for a bit. You've got nothing to lose. These words had been bouncing around inside Rixel's head from back then until now. He had taken them to heart. I can't argue with her, and she even looks more relieved than usual. Could all of this really be thanks to my foolish older brother? This makes zero logical sense, absolutely none, but still. With that, he grabbed his long coat and decided to go find Leon. I have to go see for myself. They said he usually goes to the Mimir forest, right? Night had fallen over the domain and the Mimir forest. Night had fallen. Rixel ventured deep into the forest alone, muttering complaints as he walked. This forest is as gloomy as ever, and there isn't even a decent path. What on earth is there in a place like this that makes him trudge all the way out here? If he needed herbs for alchemy, he could have just asked John to get them for him. Suddenly, a noise caught his attention. What was that sound? Rixel immediately tracked it down, drawing closer to the source of the noise. It turned out the sound came from a seated figure. It was Leon holding a roasted sweet banana yam, but in his eyes, that sight turned into a horror scene. Brother, what the hell are you doing? Right at that moment, Leon opened his mouth wide to take a huge bite. Rixel hastily cast a spell. You can't eat that. Don't eat filthy things like that. For about 2 seconds, everything seemed to freeze. Leon slumped to the ground. He let out a despairing wail as his meal was ruined right as it reached his mouth. He knelt and cried out loud over the ascended, mashed, roasted sweet banana yam. Leon turned around in anger and scolded, "Who did this? Why would you do such a thing?" But when he looked closely, he was dumbfounded to see his younger brother standing before him. Leon was surprised. "Rixel, why are you here?" Meanwhile, Rixel was panicking over his own actions. "Oh crap, I was just planning to peek and sneak away." Seeing his flustered face, Leon figured it out. "Wait, did you come here to see me? Could it be checking out your rival? No way." At that, Rixel gave a few light coughs in explanation. "First of all, I apologize for suddenly using magic, but you shouldn't eat something covered in dirt like that. It's not clean at all." Leon hurriedly corrected him. "But this is a sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are supposed to have a little dirt on them." Hearing that, Rixel felt a bit curious. "Sweet potato, you mean that starch-rich tuber?" This definition left Leon unsure of how to clarify. "That's right, but nobody's ever defined it that way before, so I don't even know how to answer." But this made Leon realize, are you serious? Have you seriously never eaten a sweet potato before? This question left him stunned. His blank expression was the answer. Leon felt pity for him. "Never eaten one before? You're really missing out on a fun part of life." Rixel looked confused. Is it really that deep? Naturally, as the older brother, Leon was definitely going to show his little brother what true earthly delicacies tasted like. "For now, go sit over there and rest. I'll dig up a few more around here." Rixel hesitated but didn't refuse. "Fine." After walking a short distance, Leon suddenly turned his head back and asked, "Come to think of it, you can use fire magic, right? Can you start a small campfire for us?" Rixel didn't understand but still complied. "That's not hard at all." While his brother went a dig for sweet potatoes, he finished starting the fire. Leon returned with his arms full of sweet potatoes. "All set," the boy softly replied. "Yes." He walked right over and tossed the pile of sweet potatoes straight into the fire. "In that case, now we just have to wait for them to cook." "Will they burn if we leave them like this?" "Don't worry, the outer skin is really thick so the inside will cook to absolute perfection." The atmosphere suddenly grew quiet. The two sat opposite each other without a word. Rixel kept his eyes glued to the roasting sweet potatoes, having seemingly forgotten the purpose of his visit. As for Leon, he was secretly glancing at his thoughtful expression. That was when he spoke up. "Sometimes, doing something out of the ordinary helps clear your head. Moving forward is great, but resting is just as important." Rixel followed up, "I think I get it." Right on cue, Leon noticed the sweet potatoes were done. "Man, that smells amazing. Looks like they're ready. Let's eat." Rixel held a sweet potato in his hand, looking at it as if it were some alien creature. Even so, he took a gentle bite. Immediately, its sweetness delighted him. Rixel blurted out, "This is actually really good." Seeing his little brother enjoying it, Leon felt relieved. "Right, they're called banana yam sweet potatoes." The domain was relatively warm with no winter, but there were still times when the weather turned chilly. This forest was particularly dark and windy, making the air quite cold. This kind of weather reminds me of something. When it's this cold, what do you crave? Exactly. Bunjiapang fish pastries, roasted sweet potatoes, along with fish cake broth and hottiok pancakes. That perfect combination of natural sweetness and warmth. Without these things, it's pretty hard to endure this cold. While Leon was lost in thought, Rixel diligently kept enjoying his food. This sight of him made Leon think to himself, the kid eats with so much enthusiasm. Well, kids that age usually had great appetites. Back when he was in school, he used to eat constantly: breakfast, snacks, lunch, more snacks, instant noodles. A moment later, the boy was thunderstruck, his eyes wide with shock, because under his feet were piles of sweet potato skins. Rixel realized he had eaten that much already. Leon cheerfully spoke up, "I'm glad you like it." Hearing this, the boy felt a bit awkward and stammered in response, "Well, you see. Yeah, it's rare for us to have a bonding moment like this," he said. "Eat as much as you want. You're working hard for this family in my place after all. You know, the sick person suffers a bit, but the person taking care of them goes through a lot too." Hearing that, Rixel denied it. "I don't consider it a burden. And I've never blamed you either. To be honest, I am a little jealous of you because you have things I don't. It's not that I'm unhappy with my current position. I'll keep doing my absolute best." Hearing this, Leon chuckled. "All right, I get it. The kid is still just a kid after all." Playing the role of an older brother, Leon offered advice that was also a form of comfort. "You're at an age where you're allowed to be a little selfish. If there's ever a time you get sick of studying, it's totally fine to just do whatever you like every once in a while." As he spoke, he stepped closer to Rixel and gently patted his shoulder. "You've done well." These words made him feel warm, and all the pressure of succession seemed to lift significantly. It was only then that he understood the implication behind Sylvia's words. Just like Granny Sylvia said, "I'm glad I came to see you, big brother." Having eaten his fill, Leon quickly returned to his room. He excitedly opened the system panel to check his current balance. "I've saved up 71,500 shillings. The system store is almost usable. To make that medicine for Sylvia, I worked myself to death, but thanks to that, I leveled up quite a bit too." He then felt a momentary pang of awkwardness. Too bad old man Patrick got rejected by Sylvia though. Oh well, it's their business, there's nothing I can do. If Patrick heard this thought, he would undoubtedly freak out and correct him. "It's not like that at all, you brat." Leon's mood right now was exceptionally refreshed. "I've also gotten pretty close with Rixel. Right now, I don't need to worry about getting kicked out, so I can just relax and enjoy myself." From outside, a knock suddenly sounded. Leon gave a light cue, "Come in." Immediately after, a clear female voice rang out, "Hello." Sylvia, now in the guise of a maid, calmly introduced herself. "My name is Elvia, and starting today I will be the maid serving you, young master." Leon was momentarily stunned. What is this? What is this weird sense of familiarity? He pondered quietly. She must have some kind of mysterious backstory. No wonder Granny Sylvia suddenly announced her retirement, so this was the reason. It'd be weird if a fantasy world didn't have other races anyway. There are even dwarves here. Then Leon warmly stepped forward to greet her. "Take care of me, Elvia," Sylvia bowed respectfully in response. "Yes, whenever you need anything, just call me." At this point, he added sincerely, "Thank you. Thanks to you, my little brother and I have gotten a lot closer." Hearing this, Sylvia fell silent and stared at the other person for a split second. Afterwards, she returned to her calm yet puzzled demeanor and asked, "I apologize, young master, but I don't quite understand what you mean." Leon just laughed it off. "It's nothing." While packing his things, he skillfully broached the topic. "Let's talk later, all right?" With that, Leon excitedly stepped toward the door. "Today I have to go out with Rixel." Golden sunlight blanketed the bustling, crowded street. Rixel's eyes were full of confusion. No matter how he thought about it, this made no sense at all. Why? Looking at Leon walking up with an exhausted look made him wonder why his stamina was still this terrible, even though he climbed mountains every day. Leon had previously collapsed from exhaustion while walking 870,943 times, and dozed off while eating from sheer fatigue 34,963 times. Rixel tried to find the most logical explanation. Could this also be an aftereffect of mana shock? The mana in his body must have been completely depleted. I need to ask a priest to check on him. He couldn't help but worry. Mages and the temple didn't like each other at all, but at this rate, his brother would collapse before the coming-of-age ceremony even happened. Rixel carefully stepped up to support him. "Let me walk slower." Leon clutched his chest in difficulty. "Why am I so tired today?" Rixel carefully calculated in his head. "So we have to avoid getting found out by both the family and the temple and make sure he can safely see a priest. It might take some time, but the most reliable way to meet a priest is through volunteer work." Rixel quickly drew up a plan in his head. "Since temple doctrines encourage volunteer work, I can naturally approach the priests that way." Leon quickly stabilized himself and asked, "Rixel, where are we going now?" Rixel cautiously warned, "First of all, it's going to draw too much attention if people see a young noble wandering around, so we need to buy some disguise items first." Hearing this, Leon looked slightly awkward. "Disguise items, like a clothing store?" Rixel directly denied it, smiling cheerfully. "A magic tool shop." A moment later, the two stopped at a small magic tool shop. The moment Leon stepped inside, he curiously cast his gaze around. He excitedly blurted out, "I've traveled all over this territory, but I never expected a place like this to exist." Rixel walked leisurely ahead. Only people who know about it come here. There probably aren't any contraband items here, right? Saying that, he felt a bit guilty and looked away. Probably. Hearing that, Leon stiffened. What do you mean by probably? Leon continued to inspect the other items, but he noticed things like earrings and pens lined up on the shelf. A lot of cool stuff, but why do they look like kids' toys? Rixel gave an embarrassed dry cough and explained, back when I was studying at the academy, I happened to find out about this place. They might look like that, but a lot of these items have amazing uses. Leon showed an amused look of understanding. Ah, is that so? Right on cue, the store owner cheerfully stepped out to greet them. Of course they do. The man warmly pitched his wares. My shop has everything except hair growth tonic. My nasal decongestants and automatic shampooing magic tools are selling like crazy right now. Rixel cut straight to the point. We're looking to buy some disguise items. The shopkeeper happily led the two deep inside. Disguise items, of course we have them. They're right over there, follow me. Right after that, he pointed at a neat stack of glossy magic tools. All of these are disguise items. From slender party bracelets to height-boosting inner souls, he enthusiastically introduced. The ordinary items that slightly alter your appearance are over on this side. Then he pulled back another curtain. The high-end items that can even change your hair color are on this side. The stuff here is super effective, but the price is much steeper too. Rixel and Leon's gazes quickly landed on a shiny item. This is the ultimate disguise magic tool, capable of changing you from head to toe, guaranteed so thorough that even your parents won't recognize you. The two brothers exchanged a brief glance through their eyes, seemingly sharing the exact same thought. Immediately after, the door closed alongside the store owner's cheerful farewell. Come back again next time. Rixel carefully asked, what do you think, is it good? Leon smiled with delight and answered, this place is really interesting. I'll come back later to check it out more thoroughly. Saying that, he looked back down at the heavy pouch in his hand. Could it be that because we bought expensive items they threw in some extra goodies? Rixel speculatively guessed, nothing special. They aren't known for liking to give gifts anyway. Leon lowered his gaze and suddenly spotted something. This is an item repair kit that allows you to fix gear below the master grade, Leon thought in astonishment. They threw this in for me. It's way more valuable than the hairpin, probably because it's too old, huh? Rixel noticed his reaction and calmly said, I have no use for these anyway, you take them all. Leon asked in disbelief, items this good? Seriously? Rixel nodded in confirmation. It's fine. Leon eagerly handed him a hairpin. Awesome, so let's go use our disguises first. Rixel carefully looked around. This alley looks pretty quiet. Let's go in there. Right after that, their golden hair quickly shifted color, and their eyes turned a bright turquoise hue. Leon immediately marveled as he looked at his own reflection. Amazing. Disguising like this makes it completely flawless. Rixel strode outside comfortably. With this, we can walk around without a single worry. Shall we head out now? Leon enthusiastically replied, let's go. A moment later, Leon's voice echoed amidst the rushing sound of water. Rixel, you said we were going volunteering, so why are we at a flour mill? He stared at the scenery before him in bewilderment. Aren't we supposed to go volunteer? Rixel calmly explained, that's right, flour is on the donation list, so we have to drop by and check it out. Stepping inside, he continued, and the fun part is this mill also bakes bread to sell. I heard the bread made from freshly milled flour here is exceptional. Leon was enlightened. Oh nice, I thought mills only ground grain or pressed oil. Deep down, Rixel felt a slight pang of guilt. Of course I had another motive for coming here. A man named Nicholas immediately stepped forward to greet them. Welcome. I've been waiting for you two for a while. Rixel had planned this all along. The reason was to meet this man, who was one of the few devout believers in the Asteria territory, famous for being generous, charitable, and well-connected. If I build a relationship with him, I can naturally gain access to the temple, and who knows, I might even get a chance to meet a priest. Then Rixel quickly probed, is the order done, sir? Nicholas warmly replied, of course it's done. He excitedly turned around and pointed at the sacks inside. It's been ages since I got to grind high-quality wheat like this. I'm thrilled to death. The wheat doesn't have a single bug in it, but... Pausing there, Nicholas grew curious. Why do you need so much flour? Rixel explained the situation. I happened to see some starving children and felt so sorry for them that I decided to donate a little. Hearing that, Nicholas grew even more excited. What a wonderful decision. Have you decided where to donate yet? Rixel conveniently asked for his advice. I'm still thinking. Do you have any suggestions? Nicholas stroked his chin in thought, while Rixel silently prayed, please say the temple, please say the temple. Right after that, Nicholas offered, if so, would you be interested in donating to the orphanage managed by the temple? Deep down, Rixel was thrilled beyond words. Absolutely, outwardly maintaining his composure. Is it the temple's side? Rixel calmly inquired, how many kids are there? Nicholas estimated, not that many, I think around 30. Rixel expressed doubt. I thought the temple's facilities would be better. Nicholas hesitantly explained, well, it used to be, but times are tough now. I heard the temple's subsidies have been cut down too. Knowing it was a sensitive topic, he grew a bit awkward since this is the Asteria territory where magic comes first. they face a lot of difficulties with donations, and given the status of prestigious magical households, they probably feel hesitant to support an orphanage directly affiliated with a temple. Then Nicholas's gaze silently shifted back to assess the person before him. Pondering to himself, looking at such a huge flower order and his demeanor, he must come from a very prestigious family. I hope this connection helps improve the orphanage's situation. Leon suddenly interrupted, wait, you said you bake bread here too, right? Even if we donate flour, it will take time for them to make something out of it. He eagerly rolled up his sleeves and proposed, how about we bake a few loaves of bread for the kids right now? Leon continued to persuade, even with flour, the kids probably lack other ingredients. Plus, wouldn't it be amazing if they got fresh, hot-baked bread right away? Nicholas didn't hesitate to happily agree. Is that so? Of course, my shop is famous for baking the best bread in this region. Rixel only then snapped back to reality, realizing he had been too focused on his own agenda without considering the orphanage's actual situation. I can't believe I overlooked these small details. Then he looked at Leon with deep admiration. Big brother is always so thoughtful. Rixel quickly chimed in, that idea is truly brilliant. Nicholas immediately perked up, awesome. The three of them headed inside to get to work. Well then, let's start baking right away. On the table were whole wheat flour and premium olive oil. Leon thoughtfully observed, let's see, we have plenty of flour and olive oil. The flavor is going to be exceptionally great. Nicholas introduced briefly, the bread we're making today is basic barley bread, very popular. It's simple to make yet extremely delicious, and kids love it. Saying that, he proactively rolled up his sleeves. First, I'll demonstrate a small loaf, okay? Nicholas began pouring out the ingredients, mixing a specific ratio of flour with salt, yeast, and milk in proper proportions to make the dough, then placing the dough in a tray greased with olive oil to ferment. Explaining while kneading skillfully, next gently press the risen dough to push out air bubbles, finally mix in some crushed sunflower seeds, and a smooth ball of dough quickly formed and we're done. Rixel followed the instructions and quickly produced a few pieces, evaluating to himself, this is easy compared to magic. This is unbelievably simple. Then Rixel curiously glanced at Leon beside him. Are you done yet? Nicholas also asked out of concern, is the young master still not done? Meanwhile, Leon was still struggling with his dough. I think I need a bit more time, I can feel it. Nicholas was speechless and replied, all right, I understand, then I'll bake your younger brothers and mine first. The soft dough pieces were promptly popped into the oven. A moment later, Nicholas excitedly opened the oven. Let's see how the results turned out. Seeing a pitch-black lump of charcoal sitting inside left both of them frozen. Nicholas flusteredly explained and comforted, oh my, if you put too much flour the bread burns like this. But since it's your first time, we can't blame the young master, though this is actually pretty decent. A rich aroma suddenly drifted out. Nicholas immediately looked toward the other oven. It seems the eldest young master's bread is done baking too. He quickly pulled out the tray. Let me take a look. Right after that, a dazzling radiance suddenly flashed, forcing all three to shield their eyes. Wait, what is this? A whole wheat loaf made by Leon with supreme quality. His cooking proficiency also leveled up to 2. Nicholas stared in disbelief at the golden, crispy, perfect loaf. How on earth could you bake a loaf of bread of this quality? He admiringly inquired, how did you even do that? Leon scratched his head awkwardly. I didn't do anything special. Then he gently confessed, this bread is for the kids. Even if we can't give them this every day, at least today I want them to eat plenty of good bread. These sincere words from Leon left Nicholas startled a second time. Plus, if it looks appealing, the kids will love it even more, so I scored the top of the dough. Didn't expect the result to exceed expectation. The image of the two Leon brothers in his mind instantly shifted. At first I thought they were just wealthy nobles using charity as a facade to experience commoner life, but I was completely wrong. Rixel also expressed amazement. Big brother, you really have a knack for this. Leon laughed heartily. Thank you. Nicholas continued his train of thought. These two young masters are baking bread for the kids with all their heart in that case. He suddenly proposed, young masters, would you mind continuing to bake here for a moment? There's somewhere I must go right now. Rixel was slightly startled before hastily agreeing. Of course, you must have your own business to attend to. We've kept you here for too long anyway, Nicholas replied comfortably. It's fine. Saying that, he hurried off. I'll be back as fast as I can. Leon watched Nicholas's rushed figure in confusion. He looks awfully busy. Did we inconvenience him by asking to learn how to bake? Rixel calmly reassured, it'll be fine brother, he'll be back soon, so let's keep baking. Right after that, he regained his spirit. I'll work hard too so I don't fall behind you. Leon laughed cheerfully. Well then, I can't lose either. The two of them went back to working on the fragrant loaves. The achievement progress for the apprentice baker title continuously rose. Under Leon's dedicated guidance, Rixel also began producing delicious batches of bread. Before long, Nicholas's voice echoed, I'm back, young masters. Leon turned his head and blinked in surprise. You're back. but behind Nicholas were many other people. Leon awkwardly asked, "You didn't come alone?" A woman warmly explained, "Nicholas isn't normally like this, but he told us how deeply moved he was by the young master's kind hearts, so we came to lend a hand." Ria unexpectedly came to help out too. "That's right, my husband wanted to come for the kids' sake, but he was too busy at the smithy, so I came in his place." "Oh dear," Leon quickly raised a finger to his lips to signal her. Ria immediately stopped in confusion. "Oh well." Then she suddenly placed down a large storage chest. Everyone else quickly followed suit, pulling out all kinds of ingredients. There was even a girl who left the crowd wide-eyed when she slammed down 4 gigantic heavy sacks, shaking the ground beneath them. Everyone marveled and exclaimed, "What is that? Look at her biceps, that's every farmer's dream. Excuse me, miss, rumors say she once wrestled a bear barehanded." Rixel witnessed this scene with great excitement. "I didn't expect them to donate so many daily necessities. Things are going way too smoothly, brother," Leon deeply appreciated. "That's right, the people in our territory are so kind-hearted." Seeing the radiant smiles on everyone's faces, Rixel reevaluated to himself, "Is this the result when you put your heart into the smallest things? I only thought about approaching Nicholas to meet the priest. Thinking about it makes me feel so ashamed." Pondering that, he smiled, looking at Leon, thinking, as long as brother recovers his health, Rixel confidently believed he would surely accomplish great things. A few hours later, at the orphanage attached to the temple in Asteria territory, the donated goods were delivered very quickly. "Thank you all so much." The director was moved to tears. "I don't know how to repay the noble young master's kindness," Leon casually replied. "Please don't mention it, sir. We're very happy to help." The curious kids ran over. "What is this? It smells so good, oh kids." The director flusteredly reminded, "You should greet them properly first." Right after that, the small courtyard was filled with the children's laughter. "Look at this. There are so many things. Let me see too. There are clothes as well, so pretty." The director gently proposed, "Young masters, if you don't mind, could you hand out the bread to the children yourselves? In the meantime, I'll move these donated items inside." Rixel enthusiastically agreed. "Of course, we'd be more than happy to." The two quickly pulled out the bread baskets. "All right, kids, come over here to get your bread." The little ones eagerly ran up. "Looks so good, thank you." At that moment, Leon's gaze was suddenly drawn to a small corner on the side. Under the shady tree, a little boy was standing alone. Noticing Leon's gaze, the boy immediately turned around and ran away. Leon inquisitively asked, "Director, who was that kid who just ran off?" The director quickly looked in the direction of his finger and replied, "That child is Peter." She softly explained, "I'm sorry if he was a bit rude. The kids are still young, so they don't always know how to accept kindness. Please don't mind Peter, young master." Leon thoughtfully watched the retreating small figure, Peter. Leon looked around at the kids who had all received their bread, cheerfully saying, "Looks like we've handed out bread to almost everyone." The director saw him walking past and asked, "Oh, where is the young master going?" Leon hugged the bread basket and smiled cheerfully. "Peter hasn't received his bread yet." At this time, Peter was hugging his knees, sitting all alone in a corner. He recalled everyone's stories about the kid. Peter had his adoption canceled up to 3 times because of his timid personality. Ever since then, the boy rejected all food and donations like that. Leon thoughtfully evaluated. The kid looks about the same age as Mudu's kids. He lamented, looking at Peter's skinny biceps. The kid really is thin. Leon called his name gently, startling him, "Peter." Seeing Peter not responding, he sat down and said gently, "Peter, I brought something really good. Do you want to try some?" The other kids finished theirs. This is the last portion left. Peter furrowed his brow, completely ignoring the noisy adult next to him. Leon held out a piece of bread with sparkling eyes to coax him. "Eating this right now must taste heavenly. It's made from freshly milled flour, so it's super chewy, fragrant, rich, and very warm." No matter how stubborn Peter's mouth was, it couldn't stop his traitorous stomach. Seeing the kid blushing deeply and leaning back made him internally celebrate. Turns out he really was hungry. Leon let out a sigh and chuckled, thinking if he was just acting shy, I would have kept teasing him, but to be this exhausted yet stubbornly refuse. Then I just need to give the kid a bit of time, until the sky gradually turned a golden hue. The others cheerfully said goodbye. "I'll head inside first. Thank you everyone for your hard work today." At this moment, Peter slowly opened his eyes. "I fell asleep." "Oh well, that's fine. Everyone must have gone home by now." The kid sat up, muttering maliciously, "Such hypocrites. They just want to satisfy their ego through charity. Once they achieve their goal, they'll never come back. Why bother coming here to annoy us with those volunteer acts anyway?" Before he could even finish his sentence, Leon, who had been sitting there all along, narrowed his eyes and asked, "You awake?" Peter was startled and yelled, perplexed by this baffling adult, "What the heck? Why are you still here? Why haven't you left?" Leon smirked and replied, "You looked like you were sleeping so well I didn't have the heart to wake you." Without letting the kid recover, he held the bread out right in front of him. "Aren't you hungry? I'm starving, want a bite?" Peter stubbornly furrowed his brow and turned his face away. "Are you sure?" Leon pulled the bread back and said, "Fine then, if that's the case." Right after that, he immediately tore the loaf of bread in half. Before Peter's shocked eyes, Leon decisively took a bite of one half. "What are you doing?" Leon gave a reluctant reply, "Eating bread, of course. You said you didn't want any, right? Leaving it behind would be a waste, so I have to finish it." Saying that, that, he continued to open his mouth to eat, leaving Peter flabbergasted. Wait a second. The kid hastily snatched the half-loaf from Leon's hand and yelled, "I'll eat it myself, okay?" Holding the piece of bread, Peter didn't hesitate to take a huge bite. The moment he swallowed the bread, his eyes lit up brilliantly. So good. He smiled gently, watching Peter's cheeks puff up as he ate. Until the half-loaf was gone, Leon pulled out another loaf. Here. He nodded refreshingly and said, "Actually, this was my portion, but I'll give it to you." Seeing the fragrant bread before him made Peter feel bewildered. Strange. There were clearly no special ingredients, just an ordinary piece of bread. Peter stood frozen, feeling completely baffled. Then why is it this good? The kid pressed his lips together in resentment. Things like this are usually just for show. Memories of being returned to the orphanage flashed back like a movie reel. Humans are like that after all. People who used to be nice to me end up abandoning me here anyway, making excuses that I didn't look at them like real parents, throwing me away one more time. Thinking about it made Peter feel a pang of heartache, pressing his lips tighter together. Chowing down aggressively, he coldly muttered, "Hypocrites, all adults are liars." Before the kid could finish, Leon cut him off. "Hey Peter, did you know?" Noticing the kid's gaze fixed on him, he continued, "When adults are upset, they usually skip meals, not realizing that only makes them feel worse and they'll regret it later. But even though you're very sad, you still ate deliciously without skipping a meal." The afternoon breeze gently swept away a few strands of Leon's hair, revealing his radiant face. "When I baked this loaf today, I secretly hoped someone would enjoy eating it, so I'm really glad you like it." Peter went still, his eyes holding 1,000 emotions as something within them seemed to shine bright. Before he could even be touched for 5 seconds, Leon narrowed his eyes and teased, "Oh, are you crying?" The kid's face flushed with a guilty blush as he retorted, "I am not crying. It's just that this bread is too good." He pretended to ask, "Is that so?" The kid bit his lip, looking away. "Yes." Peter hesitated for a moment. Looking shy, he said, "Thank you, big brother." Hearing this, Leon flashed a gentle, soft smile. He held out his pinky finger toward Peter and offered, "I'll make more for you next time. Come on, let's make a pinky promise." Peter stared in a daze, stammering, "Promise?" Leon added, "Let me tell you something, this eldest young master of yours has never broken a promise in his life." His gaze reflected absolute reliability. "Remember that, okay?" The kid gazed into those eyes, completely dumbfounded. Peter's finger finally lifted up. "Next time, I'll eat 2 of them." Hearing that, Leon playfully rubbed the kid's head and said, "Why only 2? You can eat 3. Judging by your appetite today, I'll probably have to bake a whole ton of them next time." Peter mumbled plaintively, "Oh, come on." Watching this scene from afar, the director couldn't help but be amazed. "Oh my." She looked at Peter's radiant face and lamented inwardly, "It's been so long since I last saw that child's smile. If only we had shown our sincerity like that before, the kids would have opened their hearts to us much sooner." From a distance, the director heard Leon cheerfully say, "Now, let's go see the other kids, shall we?" Peter replied with narrowed eyes, "Okay." That warm figure tugged slightly at the director's heartstrings. "I feel so ashamed for neglecting the kids for so long under the excuse of being too busy. Someone as sincere as him truly deserves to receive God's blessing." A moment later, the director politely bade farewell to the remaining guests. "Do come and visit us again next time. Thank you, everyone. Of course, see you all later." "Pardon me, young masters, if you don't mind." Just as Leon and Rixel were about to leave, they were suddenly called back by the director. "Could you 2 stay at the orphanage just a little longer? We can't just let you leave after you've done such a wonderful thing for this place." The director smiled awkwardly and offered, "I just checked, and it turns out someone from the temple is coming today to pray for the children. Therefore," facing their surprised looks, she continued, "How about the 2 of you receive a prayer of blessing from the priest before you leave?" Rixel politely placed a hand over his chest while celebrating inwardly. "It worked. Since sister is being this thoughtful, it would be terribly rude to refuse. We are honored to accept." The director reached out to lead the way. "Then please follow me this way." The hurried clatter of a carriage rang out. "The priest will be here very soon." The next day, Rixel sat alone in the quiet living room. He recalled the conversation from earlier. "Brother, how about you postpone meeting the priest this time? Since he's coming from the temple, I'm worried he might cause you harm." Leon easily agreed, "Sure." Rixel hadn't expected him to agree so readily and looked slightly surprised. Leon stood up and explained, "Actually, I just remembered I have some matters to take care of back at the estate." He was astonished and thought to himself, just like that. On the outside, Leon wore a radiant, cheerful smile while secretly celebrating with absolute joy inside. "So don't worry about me, go take care of your business. It's time for my baking lesson, I'll be going ahead." Snapping back to the present, Rixel let out a long breath. "This is fine too. What Big Brother needs is a prayer infused with divine power. It'll be troublesome if that priest holds a grudge against our family, so I need to meet him first to scout things out." Right at that moment, a low voice rang out alongside the opening of the door. "It is a pleasure to meet you." The man clasped his hands together, his lips curving into a slight smile beneath sharp golden eyes. May the grace of God always be with our anonymous benefactor. I am Licht, a servant of God. Rixel asked suspiciously. An anonymous benefactor? Licht calmly sat down. I heard about it from the orphanage director. You wish to keep your identity as the donor a secret. Yes, that's right. He mentally appraised the suspicious man before him. He's younger than I thought. I heard young priests usually stay strictly inside the temple, yet he went out of his way to come out here and bestow prayers. He's definitely not an ordinary person. Licht expressed his gratitude with utmost politeness. Thanks to your noble deed, the temple has received tremendous help. On behalf of all the priests, I sincerely thank you, Rixel politely replied. It's nothing. This success is thanks to everyone chipping in together. But the person who truly poured their heart and soul into this was my older brother. Even the idea of baking bread for the kids was his. Hearing this, he looked up in curiosity. Your older brother? Licht seemed to remember something and asked, is he the one who returned home early due to health reasons? Rixel gave a slight nod. That's right. Twirling his fingers, he recounted, my older brother has had an extremely frail body since he was a child, and to this day, he is still fighting a severe illness. Rixel raised his eyes and said hesitantly, to be honest, I didn't come here purely out of kindness or a desire to do volunteer work. I deliberately arranged this so that you could examine my older brother. Licht smiled with narrowed eyes. Please calm down, benefactor. It is truly a tragedy that someone so upright has to suffer the torment of illness. However, I also came here in secret to avoid the eyes and ears of the temple. Watching Licht adjust his glasses, he thought, is he rejecting me? I completely can't read his expression. Yet the man suddenly spoke up, 3 days from now. The priest clasped his hands in front of his chest and curved his lips. At this exact time, 3 days from now, would you mind coming here once more with your older brother? Returning to the estate, Rixel shouted loudly, big brother, good grief. He looked at his sitting brother with dissatisfaction. Why are you still not asleep at this hour? With your health, how are you supposed to handle it if you keep staying up late? Leon awkwardly lay down to evade the topic, because I just can't sleep. Leon unnaturally deflected the conversation. Anyway, what's wrong? Why did you rush into the room like that? The boy happily delivered the news. That priest agreed to examine your body. Hearing that, he sat straight up. My body? Rixel nodded in explanation. Yes, he said he wanted to lend a hand since he also received a great favor from you. Leon thought to himself, but right now I'm only slightly tired. Calling it an illness is a stretch. Ever since the mana awakening last time, the mana shock symptoms have completely vanished. Besides, I never had any chronic illness to begin with. He recalled his recent activities. In fact, I've been running around so much lately that my stamina has actually increased. Still, this isn't a bad offer at all. Should I accept it? Leon decisively agreed. All right, I'll go. Hearing that, Rixel beamed. Really? He then lowered his lashes slightly. But there's one thing. That priest asked to meet at dawn. Hearing this unusual request, Leon asked suspiciously, at dawn, when is that? Rixel replied, 3 days from now. 3 days later, at the orphanage belonging to the temple, Leon, now in disguise, glanced over at the bottle of water on the table. High-grade holy water, he mentally appraised it. To be able to create something like this at such a young age is quite impressive. Not knowing when he had slipped up behind him, Rixel called out, big brother. Leon hurriedly answered, I'm here. He placed a hand over his chest and bowed slightly in greeting. It is a pleasure to meet you, priest. Licht also clasped his hands together. May the grace of God always be with the two of you. I am also honored to meet such benefactors. First of all, why don't we sit down and chat for a bit? Once the three of them were seated, Leon voiced the question on his mind. Come to think of it, priest, there's something I'm quite curious about. Licht easily replied, please feel free to ask. Hearing that, Leon asked, if you don't mind, could you tell me why you asked to meet at dawn? He hesitated slightly. Well, actually, I recently had a dream about the two of you. Leon and Rixel were startled. A dream. Licht extended a hand and curved his lips in explanation. That's right. Sometimes, priests with exceptional divine power receive divine revelations through dreams. It is also known as a prophetic dream. Rixel cautiously probed, might I boldly ask what kind of dream it was? He smiled faintly. It wasn't anything major. Children sleeping peacefully in a field and the two of you standing right beside them. Your appearances at the time looked a bit different from now, but it was definitely the two of you. After waking up, that dream gave me an immensely warm feeling, which is why I wanted to meet the two of you in person. Licht added inwardly, besides, I also need to confirm something. He observed the two before him. I want to see what kind of people the ones appearing in my dream actually are. Licht cast a sharp, perceptive gaze toward Rixel. First, the younger brother is a mage. He speaks quite politely, courteously, and looks very young, so young that he has to use a disguise like this. He must belong to a prominent family. Considering this region, there's a high chance he's from the Asteria family. Is his goal truly to cure his older brother? It would be troublesome if mages are trying to steal information from the temple. I'll find out as soon as I examine the older brother. Licht spoke to Rixel. Now then, as we agreed, may I begin the treatment? The boy nodded gently and stood up. Yes, I'll step outside for a moment. I'll leave him in your hands. Once Rixel left the room, Licht walked over to Leon. I shall begin. He politely responded, thank you. The very next second, a blue radiance emanated from Licht's hands, which gradually converged upon Leon. Sensing an outcome different from the usual, Licht raised an eyebrow in puzzlement. He stared at Leon in disbelief. The blessing was executed perfectly, yet why is there not the slightest change in his body? My divine power isn't that weak. Thinking this, he continued to channel more divine power. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Even after casting it twice, Licht was utterly shocked by his condition. His face darkened and his jaw dropped. Leon turned to him cheerfully and said gently, I actually feel much better. He massaged his previously stiff shoulder. Satisfied, he continued, Priest, I think receiving a blessing like this is more than enough. Licht was startled and hesitated. No. His initial confident look was now tinged with anxiety. There are only 3 reasons why a body wouldn't react to a high priest's blessing. First, a mage of a higher rank than the priest is blocking the treatment. Second, they are already completely healthy and have no need for a blessing. And finally, they are terminally ill by birth. Leon nodded gently, smiling brightly with gratitude. Thanks to you, I feel extremely refreshed. Licht suddenly changed his tone, speaking softly, my friend, if you ever need my help in the future. He stepped closer and tightly grasped both of Leon's hands, then raised them together with deep sympathy. Please come to the temple and look for me when the physical pain becomes unbearable and you cannot close your eyes to sleep. A fiery passion welled up in his heart. I will definitely help you no matter what. Do you understand what I mean? Leon, who still understood nothing, could only say yes. He opened the door, not forgetting to say a few parting words. Thank you so much for your kindness, priest. It is nothing. Well then, I hope we meet again. Watching Leon's retreating figure, Licht dropped his smile. He watched on devoutly and prayed, may the grace of God be with you for the rest of your days. Leon gently scratched his head and muttered, why do I have such an uneasy feeling? Scene cuts to the Asteria estate. The carriage brought both brothers home. Rixel said happily, brother, I'm so glad you look a lot better. Today's early morning trip was truly meaningful. Leon agreed, I think so too. He massaged his shoulder slightly, thinking cheerfully, since my body is already very healthy to begin with, I couldn't really feel the effect of the divine power, but it really is a very useful energy. Casting it just once would have been enough, but he kept doing it over and over. Thanks to that, my sore shoulders from baking all night are now completely fine, and the muscle aches are gone too. Yet looking with concern at his younger brother, he asked, by the way, Rixel, your complexion doesn't look too good. Are you tired? The dark circles under your eyes are so deep. Rixel smiled with narrowed eyes to reassure him, I'm fine. He turned as if to leave. I must be going now, I have mana training this morning. Leon was startled. What? He sighed and muttered, you pulled an all-nighter again last night, didn't you? If you keep pushing yourself this hard, your body is bound to revolt sooner or later. From behind, Sylvia appeared and spoke. An heir's training schedule is always harsh, but lately he seems even busier than usual. Leon rubbed his chin and thought, true, I'm worried he's going to ruin his health. She stepped closer and said politely, if you're this worried, why don't you try talking to the head of the family? After all, you'll need to meet him soon anyway to discuss the coming-of-age ceremony. You can bring this up then. Besides, the head of the family must have a lot on his mind lately too. Hearing this, Leon brightened up as a plan formed in his mind. Sylvia smiled faintly, or perhaps I should bring him some sweets. A moment later, Leon and Sylvia arrived at the kitchen. He skillfully picked up a rolling pin to flatten the dough below. Leon turned to her cheerfully, good idea, thanks Sylvia, cookies aren't too heavy and they have just the right amount of sweetness. Even Grandpa, come to think of it, I wonder if Grandpa likes sweets. With an expressionless face, she corrected his address, I am Elvia. Who is Sylvia? The head of the family doesn't particularly care for sweets, but he will eat anything you make, young master, so you don't need to worry. Hearing this, Leon said with slight awkwardness and shyness, even so, if he's going to eat them, I want him to truly enjoy them. Suddenly, Leon let out an ah, as if remembering something. Sylvia paused slightly, guessing, don't tell me. Seeing Leon reach for a sweet potato on the table, she asked, are you planning to use that? Leon picked it up and replied, that's right. Watching Leon peel the sweet potato, she hesitated and remarked, that is certainly a strange combination. He cheerfully replied, this is the perfect opportunity for him to try it and see how good it is. Leon gradually sliced the sweet potato into thin pieces. Instead of using sugar, I'll chop up some banana yam sweet potato and put it on top of the cookie dough. With the natural, gentle sweetness of the sweet potato, Grandpa will definitely enjoy it easily, right? Once he finished preparations, he reached for the cookie molds. Next, like this. Every piece of dough was pressed into molds shaped into all sorts of cute figures. They look so cute. Next time I'll have to ask Mudu to make me some new cookie cutters. Leon put them into the oven and said cheerfully, next step, now we just need to put these shaped cookies into the oven and bake them. Looking at the glossy, fragrant cookies, he said eagerly, they're done, special banana yam sweet potato cookies. Leon looked at the newly appeared system panel. Why does food have the exact same effect as a potion? Sylvia expressed polite praise in surprise, you are truly amazing. I only shared the dough recipe, so basically you made all of this entirely by yourself. Frowning slightly, she said, the final step of cooking is tasting, so you should try one. He picked one up and said, I'll take a bite. Leon picked up a freshly baked cookie to taste it. The moment he tasted its sweetness, he beamed brightly. I think this tastes even better than chocolate chip cookies from my past life. Cooking proficiency increased, recipe saved. Sylvia also cheerfully advised, sweets help relieve fatigue and eating too much isn't good for your health, but since these aren't overly sweet, the head of the family will probably love them. Hearing that, he turned to her and said sincerely, thanks for your help, Elvia, you've been a huge help. She smiled faintly and shook her head. I'm just doing my duty. Shall we pack the cookies now? As if thinking of something, Leon refused. I'll handle the packaging myself. You can go take a rest. Sylvia looked slightly surprised. Pardon? He turned around and said secretively, I still have one more thing I need to make. Once Sylvia left, he nimbly operated the system and muttered, I couldn't just open the storage while Elvia was standing right there. Now that my cooking level is at level 3, I've unlocked plenty of recipes and have enough ingredients. He eagerly massaged his shoulder slightly. Next up is the drink. The system panel appeared, providing a resonance effect when consumed alongside the drink. Leon selected ingredients from storage. The next thing I'm making is a training support beverage. The red drink required a potion, fruit-flavored oil, and flower roots. He figured both Grandpa and Rixel will definitely like this. After staring at the ingredient list for a moment, Leon felt slightly puzzled. These ingredients look so familiar. Where have I seen them before? Oh well, whatever, it pairs perfectly with the cookies, so I just need to focus on checking the quality. After careful selection, Leon placed a plate of fruit on the table. Awesome, the ingredients are super fresh oranges and fresh lemons. Leon rested his hands on the table, full of enthusiasm. Let's begin. First, wash the fruit and slice them up nicely. Then, simmer the primary vitality recovery potions on low heat. When the oranges and lemons are slightly cooked, add the star anise root and wait for the fresh fruit flavors to blend completely. When you smell the aroma, strain the steaming drink through a sieve. Finally, add a drop of sea rosemary essential oil. One bottle of drink was completed. Alchemist's training support beverage. Looking at its effects, Leon sighed. No wonder it felt so familiar. This really reminds me of Vin's show. Tasting the flavor of the drink himself, he broke into a radiant smile. It tastes amazing too. Now let's pair this freshly made drink with the cookies. The tray was now fully laid out with both cookies and the drink, recognized by the system as one of Leon's special set meals. You have successfully unlocked an achievement. You received shillings. Leon happily accepted the reward, taking off his apron and leaving it on the table. Leon picked up the food tray and walked off. Now then, time to go see Grandpa. In front of Patrick's study door, Leon's voice echoed from inside his room. Grandpa, are you busy? As Leon pushed the door open and walked in carrying the tray, Patrick grumbled. What are you bringing in here? Did the servants let you carry things yourself? I'm going to punish them immediately. Before he could finish his sentence, Leon smiled and cut him off. It's not like that. I brought it myself because I wanted to hand it to you personally. He placed the tray on the desk and cheerfully introduced, this is a drink I made using the potion I crafted last time, and I also baked some cookies thinking they'd go really well together. Hearing that, his tone softened considerably. You mean you made these yourself? Leon replied, yes. He looked straight at him with confident expression and expressed, I thought it would be fun to show you my progress this way. Seeing Patrick pick up a bear-shaped cookie, he urged, give it a try. The moment he took his first bite, Patrick carefully tasted it, his eyes widening in astonishment. Patrick tasted the cookie and thought to himself how it melted in his mouth, releasing a subtle, sweet aroma of sweet potato, providing a wonderfully rich energy source that was completely different from a simple baked sweet potato, creating a unique flavor with a perfectly balanced sweetness. The system interface chimed with a notification that his apprentice cooking proficiency had increased. Leon smirked inwardly, thinking about the cooking talent requirement that someone had to enjoy the food to earn experience reward points. And seeing those experience points skyrocket like that, he must have really loved them. What a relief. After finishing his treat, Patrick turned serious and said, all right, spill it. Leon was suddenly stunned and replied, yes. Yes, the old man calmly put down his request and said, you didn't come here just to hand me this. Get straight to the point. Leon scratched his head slightly and said awkwardly, I really can't hide anything from you, can I? He hesitated and brought it up. The thing is, I heard that my coming-of-age ceremony will be rescheduled soon. Can we let Rixel rest until then? Hearing this, the old man wondered, why is that? Leon frowned slightly and said with concern, everyone in the family will be attending the coming-of-age ceremony, right? But Rixel's current schedule seems way too exhausting. Can you tone down his training intensity until the ceremony? I want our whole family to be there with bright smiles. Hearing this, Patrick rested his chin on his hand in contemplation. Outwardly, he looked like a strict and serious head of the family, but inside he was bursting with pride over his grandson. What a thoughtful kid, whose grandson grew up to be so well-behaved, who raised such an amazing boy. He looked at the grandson before him, liking him more and more. He had assumed they would fight over the sole position of head of the family, and he had been worried because they seemed distant lately, yet they had built such a tight brotherhood without him even knowing. He had one more thing to be proud of now. He had no reason to refuse. All right, I'll grant your request. I'll tell him to practice on his own until the ceremony. Leon happily obeyed. Thank you, Grandpa. Patrick suddenly asked further, is that all? Don't you have any other requests for your coming-of-age ceremony? He was slightly taken aback and said, Leon smiled with his eyes crinkled and said, nope, I don't have any other requests. Patrick frowned slightly in judgment, wondering who the boy took after since he had zero ambition, even though the highlight of a coming-of-age ceremony was supposed to be the gifts. A coming-of-age ceremony wasn't just a simple event. If that was what the celebrant wanted, they should get it, even if it was a one-of-a-kind jewel in this world. That was the most elegant way to flaunt a family's wealth. The old man was momentarily stunned and surprised that the boy said he didn't need anything, which meant he widened his eyes and pursed his lips, thinking, does he want me to figure it out myself and prepare something grand? Seeing that determined look, Leon broke into a cold sweat and said, well, if you'll excuse me, I'll take my leave. Patrick rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought as Leon's back disappeared. He pondered restlessly, how should I prepare the perfect gift? Leon walked with confident strides down the mansion's hallway. Ahead of him were towering piles of books and documents stacked haphazardly on the desk. Rixel was sitting with his head propped on his hand, intently reading a document at his paper-filled desk. He abruptly pushed the door open and barged into the office, shouting so loudly that it startled his younger brother, sending papers flying everywhere with a yelp. Leon walked in, looked around, and chuckled while the younger boy scrambled to pick up the documents from the floor. What's going on in here? I didn't expect you to be this messy. Rixel blushed, shyly covering his mouth to hide his embarrassment. How humiliating. I never wanted you to see this, big brother. What brings you here anyway? Leon cheerfully brought out a tray of pastries and said, I figured you'd want some snacks while working. I made these myself. The two brothers sat together on the luxurious sofa, and the younger boy popped a cute rabbit-shaped cookie into his mouth to enjoy. Rixel's eyes widened in surprise right after chewing the first bite. A crisp crunch echoed out. His stunned expression quickly turned into glowing praise. Oh my god, this is insanely good. I already knew it from the moment you baked that bread. You're really talented, big brother. Oh, come on now. Leon affectionately asked after him and advised his younger brother to take some time to rest before the important ceremony. Rixel, Grandpa gives you a lot of work, doesn't he? Just take it easy and rest until my coming-of-age ceremony, okay? He smiled and gently revealed that he had proactively talked to their grandfather out of concern for his health. I asked Grandpa for permission. You look completely exhausted. Rixel felt deeply warmed and moved by his older brother's thoughtful and affectionate care. I can't believe my brother cares about me this much. Thank you so much, big brother, but I'm not tired because of air training or family duties. His emotional moment was instantly crushed when his older brother misunderstood the reason for his fatigue. Don't tell me it's love letters. I knew I shouldn't have been curious. It's completely not that. The two brothers exchanged laugh-or-cry looks as Rixel hurriedly clarified the real cause. Right, at his age, starting to notice girls is normal. It's because of your upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. Leon understood upon realizing his worry, so it has to do with the family ritual. The Asteria family's coming-of-age ceremony had a ritual called the Library Labyrinth, a place that gathered skills and guided those who entered toward the magic they needed most. Although called a labyrinth, it automatically adjusted to the user's level so there wasn't a single fork in the road. If you tried to conquer it, it became an impenetrable maze, but if you listened to the guidance, it was simply a library. The secret of how the library operated and the dark memories of this body's previous owner were gradually unfolding. The original Leon had even used it as a hideout before he took over this body, and rumor had it that anyone who reached the end of the labyrinth was allowed to take a special item with them. Rixel probably thought this was dangerous for him because he had no mana. What a good kid. Leon spoke up to reassure him, but Rixel's hilarious practical reply froze him in place. It's all right, Rixel, that ritual is just a formality anyway. No, it's not, I'm worried about the clothes. Leon looked up with a blank expression, sweating as he asked back, the clothes. Yes, pointing at the office panorama. Rixel, holding a document, asked him, have you looked at the outfit the head of the family prepared for you to wear on your coming-of-age ceremony? No, I haven't seen it yet. Rixel decisively slammed the blueprints onto the desk. Here it is. The head of the family has one fatal weakness. The blueprint of the ceremonial outfit was revealed, a bizarrely bright blue bodysuit paired with green pants, a blazing red cape, and bright red high heels. He has zero sense of style whatsoever. This is bad, it's going to be a disaster. Forget the ceremony, it's all ruined. Both brothers broke out in a cold sweat, their faces darkening in despair. Leon spoke up. This outfit must definitely not be worn to the coming-of-age ceremony, especially considering his image as an 8-circle Grand Archmage. The younger boy nodded tremblingly. I completely agree. The two brothers clutched their heads and screamed in the chaotic room. Leon wondered. He used to dress pretty normally though. Why the sudden change in taste? Rixel explained. Because up until now, Sylvia has always stopped him every time. Leon was moved upon learning the truth about Sylvia. Sylvia, so she's been silently protecting us all this time. I'll find a way to stop this. Now you're grateful to me. I want our whole family to match. Proceed according to plan. The children cheered happily. It's the young master. It's the young master. Leon wore a simple cloak, warmly greeting the two local kids. How have you been lately, Thornley? He bent down to offer a bag of colorful cookies, smiling as he said, It's been a while, everyone. Here, please try some. I baked these cookies myself. The two kids happily hugged the bag of cookies and ate them with relish. Oh my God, something this precious. By the way, what brings the young master here? I want to ask you all for a favor. Ria looked surprised upon hearing the unexpected request from the other party. A favor? Do you remember the tailor who used to do volunteer work at the orphanage with us? Leon continued with his request to find the talented tailor of the past. Can you introduce him to me? Huh, what? The image of the brilliant tailor appeared impressively in his memory with exceptionally skilled hands. I caught a glimpse of his craft when we were volunteering, and he is truly incredibly skilled. He tailored clothes for every single child to fit perfectly right on the spot, and then quickly sewed new clothes from a few scraps of fabric, looking like a true master. Returning to reality, Ria thought for a moment before answering the urgent request to find a good tailor. I need someone with his skill level. Is this too difficult? Not at all, I can arrange it. But her expression grew hesitant and awkward. Noticing her hesitant attitude, Leon asked, Is there any other reason you're reluctant to introduce him? Well, once you get there, young master, you'll understand. Leon draped his hooded cloak, carried a bag of items, and traveled alone to a desolate and dreary wasteland. Standing before an old wooden sign covered in dust and cobwebs, he muttered, Is this the place? The wooden sign suddenly wobbled and creaked, almost falling off and startling him thoroughly, filled with utter confusion. Did I come to the wrong place? The door swung open, revealing a long row of mannequins lining a dark, rundown hallway, creating a somewhat gloomy and spooky atmosphere. This feels wrong. Why would someone so talented work in such a shabby shop? Leon timidly called out into the dark space, Is anyone here? Suddenly, a mysterious figure appeared right behind him, making him jump. Yes, a customer. Andrew brightened up, spreading his arms in excitement mixed with astonishment. You're a customer. The tailor was stunned to realize, Aren't you the young master I met at the orphanage? But your hair and eye color are different. Leon scratched his head awkwardly and explained, I'm really sorry I couldn't tell you the truth that day. I'm the eldest grandson of the Asteria family, but I had to disguise myself that day for certain reasons. Andrew smiled broadly, clasping his hands together to show respect. That's no problem at all. It's understandable for a young noble to have his reasons. He wondered, but with your status, why did you go out of your way to a place like this? Leon smiled faintly and replied, I'm looking for a good tailor. Andrew startled, breaking out in a cold sweat as he asked back, A good tailor? For someone from the Asteria family, you certainly don't need to patronize someone like me. Cutting through the awkwardness, the tailor remembered his manners and hurriedly led the way. Instead of standing here, please come inside. Shall we sit down and chat more properly? Right this way, please. He stepped inside and was captivated by a vast array of colorful fabric rolls, along with prestigious awards and gold cups placed ceremoniously on the shelves. Leon admired, blushing with excitement. Aren't those the highest awards from the Empire's most famous competition? Andrew said sheepishly. I feel so embarrassed hosting someone of your status in such a shabby place. Andrew invited his guest, Please have a seat while I brew some tea. He cheerfully replied, Right on cue, I brought some cookies. Let's enjoy them with tea. As the steaming tea was poured into the cups, Andrew spoke apologetically. I'm so sorry, I'd love to treat you to something higher end, but my current situation is a bit... It's totally fine. Andrew was immensely surprised by this unexpected gift. I baked these cookies myself, I hope you like them. Baked by the young master himself. Andrew looked at the cute little bear-shaped cookie with a sweet heart embedded in the center, recalling an old story. Thinking back, he said the bread donated to the orphanage was also made by him. That bread was shockingly delicious. He decided to enjoy the heartfelt cookie from the young master. I wonder how this cookie tastes. Thank you, I'll indulge. The moment he took the first bite, the explosive flavor of the cookie completely conquered Andrew's taste buds. Such an explosive flavor. The delicate sensory experience began with a crisp crunch followed by a soft melt, delivering an incredibly rustic and comforting sensation. It starts with a crisp crunch and instantly melts in your mouth, feeling at first like a rustic country boy. But immediately afterward, that flavor shifted powerfully and captivatingly like a dramatic romance story. Currently, a romantic scene flashed through Andrew's mind. A crown prince had his heart stolen by a country girl at first sight, and the bright, fluttering flavor was just like the thrilling feeling of first love. The ultimate sweetness left him immersed, unable to find words worthy enough to praise it. Too delicious, delicious doesn't even begin to describe this. Andrew gasped an exclamation, this is art. Leon sat calmly drinking tea, exuding a captivating, contrasting aura. Those contrasting images are just like the young master standing before me. Good, looks like he really likes it. He might be considered the family's good-for-nothing, but in reality, he's an enigma no one has ever decoded. The white porcelain plate had a slight crack, with only a few small cookie crumbs left on it. Andrew used a napkin to wipe his mouth and sighed with fulfillment. This is truly amazing, young master, thank you, Leon asked with a smile. Was it good? He clenched his fists, his face beaming with excitement. Definitely, I almost cried. This cookie has reignited the inspiration within me. Andrew turned serious again. Young master, you went out of your way to come here and gave me such delicious food, so I will speak plainly and hide nothing. Andrew looked toward the design mannequins and guessed, coming all the way here, you must want to commission me to make clothes, right? That's right, I can totally make them for you. He sat up straight on the sofa, his sharp eyes filled with confident declaration. I'm confident I can draft patterns, cut fabric, and sew better than anyone else, however. Andrew explained, if it gets out that I'm the designer, other nobles won't accept it. You might even be mocked for wearing them in public. He was surprised. Why is that? Well, it's because... Andrew clenched his trembling hands on his knees, his face revealing bitter anguish. Because I'm the illegitimate child of a noble family. I see, privilege really makes it easy for people to look down on others. They say it lowers their dignity that commoners must not touch clothing, which is a luxury reserved exclusively for nobles. Is that all? Leon wondered to himself, do I really need to suck up to these nobles? When the rumors spread, even the people who used to sponsor me gradually cut ties because many of them never wanted anything to do with me in the first place. Sitting opposite each other, Andrew suggested, so if you give me the job, it's better to claim these clothes were made by some nameless rookie. He interrupted, hold on a minute. Can I look at some of the clothes you've made before first? Andrew explained the current state of his shop and the items he currently owned. I threw away all the clothes I used to sell to nobles, so now I only keep things for commoners. That's fine, I just want to see your craftsmanship. If you say so, Andrew decisively pulled back the dusty curtain, revealing a secret display space behind it to the young master's astonishment. Andrew proudly introduced the passionate pieces he made with his own hands for the ordinary working people in the region. These are the items I sell to the locals. Unbelievable. Before Leon's eyes, a series of glowing item stat windows popped up, proving his outstanding professional-grade craftsmanship. Truly top-tier quality apparel, ready-made bolero jacket by a 2-star skilled tailor. Leon looked around the tailor shop. This is definitely the person I need. He assessed the tailor's exceptional skill. Ready-made cotton pants by a skilled tailor, ready-made ceremonial dress by a skilled tailor. If these get 2 stars with this fabric, it proves all other conditions are spot on. Leon began to spark a grand idea when looking at the stack of top-grade fabrics. What if someone like this were provided with top-grade fabrics? He made an unexpected proposal that left Andrew astounded. Andrew, I really want to wear clothes made by you for my coming-of-age ceremony. He anxiously advised the young master, but young master, this is a big opportunity for me, but you will definitely lose face. I guarantee not a single person will dare say a peep about it. Now just tell me whether you can do it or not. Leon casually raised 3 fingers, making a demand regarding the timeline. 3 outfits before the coming-of-age ceremony. The heavy pressure caused Andrew to break out in nervous sweat. Is this even feasible? He confidently boosted morale. I'll take full responsibility, so just speak your mind. Are you ready to go all out? Andrew clenched his fists as his burning desire to showcase his talent welled up. To create beautiful clothes using top-grade fabrics, to freely showcase my talent without having to worry about anything else. Is there any tailor in this world who could refuse such an enticing offer? Andrew blushed, bravely accepting the thrilling challenge. Just give the order, young master. Wise choice. He was extremely eager to prepare the clothing design. What kind of clothes would you like me to make? What details should I include? Leon began giving out tricky requirements. I want them to look refined and neat while maintaining a minimal sense of elegance. Since the whole family will match, I want unity, but each person should have their own distinct touch, and it shouldn't look too old or too childish, meaning refined yet elegant, identical yet unique. Andrew realized in shock, wait a minute, does that mean even the head of the family will wear clothes made by me? That's right, is there a problem? Are you really okay with this? He worried because he was hated by the nobility. Like I said before, I'm a tailor deeply hated by the nobility. What does that have to do with my family? Andrew further explained the supreme status of the Asteria family. Nobody dares talk back to the Asteria family, a family on equal footing with the royalty, right? Right. That affirmation froze him for a few seconds. Leon's recognition gave Andrew a massive boost of motivation. Andri, will give it my all to make them for you. Overflowing inspiration helped him quickly finalize the design sketch. Oh man, a precise design just popped into my head. Do you have a specific type of fabric in mind? Actually, I don't know anything about those, so I brought this. The family's treasure catalog left Andri astonished. This is our family's fabric catalog. This is the fabric catalog of the Asteria family, the legendary one whispered about among tailors. He excitedly asked for permission to open the legendary book. Just being able to lay eyes on this is enough to fulfill me. May I open it? Of course, take your time looking. The sound of turning pages echoed out. Andri couldn't help but be stunned upon seeing the sparkling pages. Oh my god. The catalog contained the rarest fabrics on the continent. All top-tier fabrics from across the land. Elf silk, famous for being made by only a handful of elves. Legendary materials that seemed to exist only in imagination. Fairy's breath, crafted from the devotion of archmages. I can't believe these fabrics actually exist in real life. Leon smiled and probed for Andri's satisfaction. Well, did you pick out any material? The problem is there isn't a single fabric here that I don't like, young master. Suddenly, he halted before a mysterious page. This is. Leon curiously leaned in closer when he saw Andri's expression. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with that fabric? Back in my heyday, there was a fabric a certain lady loved to use. Andri explained the strange disappearance of this fabric from the market. It was completely impossible to find, so it's astonishing to see it in this catalog. I never forget any fabric once I've touched it. I've always wondered what kind of fabric it was, but unfortunately, there's no information recorded about it here. Leon bent down to gaze intently at the fabric swatch. Let me take a look. The system info window popped up with astonishing stats about it. The deep love of the Grand Archmage. Could this thing have been made by Grandpa himself? Andri had definitely said a lady used this fabric to make clothes. He pondered thoughtfully as he looked at the fabric description. And the description says Grand Archmage, then that means, since it's matching couple family outfits, we simply must use this fabric. Leon immediately made his decision regarding the material for the attire. Andri, can you make clothes out of this fabric? Of course I can. Andri smiled and prepared to get to work. Then let's start by taking measurements first. A new character appeared, interrupting their work session. Big brother handling business. I heard some news, so I came a bit late because I was busy rounding up some supplies. The younger brother's appearance surprised the two people in the room. Supplies? Sounds like it's getting pretty noisy outside. Shouting echoed from outside, startling them both. Move it all inside. Understood, sir. Andri dropped his jaw in astonishment at the grand scene outside the courtyard. What on earth is this pile? A slew of expensive tools was swiftly brought over. I heard you found a tailor you like. If it's preparation for a once-in-a-lifetime coming-of-age ceremony. Rixel proudly introduced the grand support from the family. This level of support is only natural. Leon could only chuckle. You really prepared thoroughly. Well, can you use these? I figured you were used to your old tools, so I guess this pile is. Not at all. Andri suddenly hesitated, making a new decision. I'll use them. He was deeply moved by this sincerity. I'd be immensely grateful if you replaced this whole lot. He expressed his appreciation. Eldest young master, thank you for patiently waiting while we finished taking measurements. Andri, full of passion, promised to create a masterpiece. I will pour all my ability into creating a masterpiece. Take your time. Leon smiled and turned to make one final, small request. And there's one more thing I'd like to ask of you. The proposal to learn tailoring left everyone stunned. Could you teach me some sewing skills when you have free time? What? How could I ever dare to teach you, young master? Andri frantically tried to dissuade him out of fear that the young master would get hurt. No, I mean, if you're learning to sew for the first time, you'll end up pricking your fingers with needles constantly. Besides, sewing machines can cause unexpected accidents. It's fine. Leon reassured him that he only wanted to try it out for fun. I'm not planning to make anything difficult right away, I just want to try it out for fun. May I boldly ask the reason why? The young master's deep understanding deeply moved the tailor. The reason? After talking with you, I realized just how much skill and passion you possess, and how exquisite your meticulous sense of aesthetics is. It would be such a pity if I couldn't fully appreciate the hard work you put into making these outfits. That's why I figured I need to understand the techniques first in order to truly grasp the intention of the person who made them. Andri choked up with emotion at the young master's cherished words. I never expected you to think so deeply about it. It's true that with every single stitch, every technique applied, and the way the silhouette is constructed, a tailor pours a specific intent into it. Andri devoutly expressed his gratitude and loyalty. I am more than willing to teach you everything I know without holding anything back. He thoughtfully advised the young man before temporarily stepping away to prepare his work. First off, would it be all right if I go take the second young master's measurements before we start? If you have any questions about any of the things in here, feel free to look around and try them out. Thank you so much. The peaceful scenery of the wooden house as dusk fell, dyeing a corner of the sky in golden hues. Leon stepped into the tailor's workshop and couldn't help but marvel at the surrounding space. No matter how many times I look at it, it's truly admirable. He approached the desk and looked at a piece of rough fabric, while a system information panel popped up to evaluate the fabric quality. Journeyman tailor's worn cotton trousers pattern. Fabric quality is extremely terrible, stray threads are sticking out everywhere. How on earth is he able to make clothes with such low-quality fabric? He picked up the trousers to examine the structure and learn the tailor's cutting and sewing methods. Let's see, so you just need to piece them together like this. Should I try sewing it myself? Looking down at his still clumsy hands, he muttered to himself, I haven't been properly taught yet, nor have I mastered the basics, so using those convenient cheat items right from the start doesn't feel quite right. I suppose I should try hand sewing first. Suddenly, Leon remembered that he possessed a treasure perfectly suited for this situation. Thank goodness, I happen to have something that fits this scenario like a glove. Craftsman's repair kit. This is the repair kit I got as a bonus at the magic tool shop last time. His hands began to move at a blinding speed, pouring all his focus into completing the product. If I don't use it now, when else am I gonna wait for? Leon was utterly surprised when he saw the needle. Did its appearance change? He couldn't help but feel excited about this special magic item. It transforms to look brand new when you use it. Magic items are truly fascinating. It even threads the needle automatically. Sitting down at the workbench, Leon eagerly dove right into it. All right, let's see. The brilliant afternoon sunlight cast its rays over his focused figure as he sewed. The captivating nature of sewing took him completely by surprise. Why is this stuff so addictive? The more he worked, the calmer and more focused his mind became. I thought I'd get bored quickly with something requiring this much precision, but it's actually soothing my mood. The more focused I get, the more even my stitches become, and I'm starting to pick up speed. A magical guideline appeared to help him complete the work easily, and I can even see a clear guiding path right there. Is this also thanks to that magic item's ability? It's way easier than I thought. Cotton trousers pattern. Leon happily checked his impressive first-ever handiwork. Not looking too bad, huh? A sudden noise from behind startled him, making him turn around to look. You're done already? I'm sorry, I should have called out to you. Andrew was stunned in awe at the young master's innate talent. It's nothing at all. I saw how deeply focused you were, so I didn't have the heart to interrupt. You started sewing from this side, right? For someone trying this for the very first time, this skill is. He looked at the trousers with surprise and admiration. Though it's still a tiny bit crooked, this is genuinely impressive. Andrew suddenly remembered a sewing technique he had neglected. Good grief, how bizarre. This is precisely what I've been neglecting all this time. He enthusiastically dove into work, covered in sweat. Hand sewing has always been the core foundation of high-end bespoke tailoring after all. Lately, I've been so caught up in ready-to-wear clothes that I almost completely forgot about this. Andrew became engrossed in creation, no longer paying attention to his surroundings. That's right, I'll emphasize this part to make the outfit look more elegant and raise this section higher to create an even stronger focal point. It'd be wonderful if I secure that spot nice and tight. The old man is losing himself in his own world again, huh? The two young men decided to let the tailor keep working and head back first. Should we head back first? Let's do that, after all, today. Rixel said thoughtfully, the whole family has a dinner appointment with the head of the family, too. The butler stepped into the study, bowing respectfully to report, My lord, the young masters have arrived. Shall we head down to the dining room? Putting down his quill, Patrick let out a sigh after finishing his work. Very well. The two of them strode down the grand hallway, beneath the glow of the chandeliers. The butler spoke first to break the silence. It's rare for all three grandfather and grandsons to have a meal together. Indeed, we ought to have moments like this every once in a while. His expression suddenly turned serious when mentioning grand matters. It's not like I'm eager to work myself to exhaustion. I do it purely because it's the best way to protect them. Taking on even His Majesty's workload naturally makes you tired, sir. Patrick's sorrowful gaze looked out the window. Those damned royals, the war with the demons ended 50 years ago, yet they're still draining this old man dry. The butler hurriedly tried to reassure his troubled master. How much longer do I even have left? I just want to spend the rest of my time with my grandchildren. Please don't say such things, sir. An 8th circle mage has a lifespan on par with the elves, doesn't he? Let's assume so. He continued walking, reaffirming his supreme responsibility. Since our main family line is gathered in full as the head of the family, I cannot be absent. You are entirely right, sir. The doors of the large dining room opened. The servants chanted in unison respectfully. The head of the family has arrived. I don't know if it's because I'm getting old or because that bootlicking grandson of mine is melting my heart. Both brothers simultaneously looked up. Right now, I just want to live out the rest of my days in peace alongside the treasures my child left behind. But to make that happen, we must absolutely never let anyone discover that child's potential. Leon smiled. Good evening, Grandpa. He questioned the extravagance of the family meal. Is it really necessary to make such a big show just for a family dinner? Rixel explained why the meal was so special. It's rare for our family to be all together, so I asked the head chef to make a few special dishes. I see. He recalled the lonely meals of the past. Come to think of it, back then I used to skip meals entirely or only eat patient diets, while Grandpa always ate at the royal palace. Leon realized the loneliness his younger brother had to endure, which means Rixel probably had to eat alone. He looked at Rixel with a pensive gaze. He must have been so lonely. Leon resolved that the family needed to reunite much more often. That's right, we definitely need to have more days like this. He felt a pang of sympathy for his brother's solitude. Little bro, I knew it. He must have been so lonely. It must have been so hard enduring everything all by himself. He resolved to change that through gatherings. From now on, for his sake, I should tell Grandpa no, I'll propose that the head of the family organize more family gatherings. Leon smiled happily. Rixel, you won't have to eat alone anymore. Before the meal, the butler carefully helped Patrick into his chair. Everyone responded in unison to his invitation. Let's eat. Yes. The clatter of silverware broke the silent atmosphere of the dining room. Putting aside the initial silence, Patrick inquired about his grandson's work progress. Rixel, how is the task I assigned you coming along? Yes, everything is being handled flawlessly. Though he answered fluently, Rixel couldn't hide his tension. With a cold look in his eyes, Rixel thought to himself, after all, this is my big brother's coming-of-age ceremony. It got delayed by a whole 3 years before finally happening. Doesn't he even care to ask how he feels, or at least ask what kind of gift he wants? This atmosphere was definitely not what he had hoped for. I have to initiate the conversation myself, Grandpa. Leon mustered up the courage to ask a question. Did you used to weave fabric for Mom back in the day, Grandpa? Hearing the question, Patrick didn't answer immediately, taking a slow sip of wine instead. I have no idea what you're talking about. Leon cleverly observed his expression. I knew it. Whenever Mom is brought up, he gets annoyed. He gently began his story while continuing to eat his meal. I met a tailor today, and during our chat, I happened to see a very special piece of fabric belonging to our family. With a serious gaze directed at his younger brother for agreement. Rixel, you remember it too, right? That fabric glowing brilliantly among the things you brought back. Yes, I remember. Memories of Andrew rushed back. The tailor told me a story from his youth about a young lady who was extremely fond of a particular kind of fabric. Leon continued with highly persuasive arguments. He said the fabric in our house is identical to the one that young lady used to bring in. Since a fabric he hasn't been able to find anywhere else since then is right here in the Asteria estate. I wondered if that young lady was Mom, so I decided to ask. Patrick fell into deep thought at his grandson's unexpected question. I see, the topic of Mom. The dining room atmosphere suddenly turned heavy and gloomy. Perhaps this is the subject our family avoids the most. A close-up of the warm soup on the family's luxurious dining table. But we can't just bury it and ignore it forever. Being able to comfortably talk about the departed is the only way for us to truly comfort and heal one another. His confident smile upon hatching a reconciliation plan. What we need right now is a breakthrough to reconnect. So I'll use these matching outfits as an excuse to bridge the gap and help everyone open up. Patrick finally spoke up, agreeing with his grandson's idea. Leon, just as you said. The unexpected truth straight from his mouth made the dining room air freeze. That fabric was indeed woven by my own hands. Both brothers asked in astonishment. You wove it yourself, Grandpa, may I ask why? Holding his wine glass, he gently swirled it as if reminiscing about a distant memory. There was no grand reason. It's only natural for a father to worry about his only daughter. The past came rushing back to where every single thread was chosen with utter protection and love. I was afraid she'd trip and get hurt or catch a cold out in the cold rain. I selected the best magical yarn, infused protective magic into every single thread, and then had it woven into fabric. Yet, memories of his late daughter flashed through Patrick's mind. I never expected that fabric would still exist after all this time. Rixel looked down at the table, a wave of choked emotion rising within him at the mention of his mother. Mom's fabric. Rixel never showed it, but he must have always wondered about his mother. Caught up in my own broken heart, I left my grandchildren all alone. To break the gloomy mood, Leon spoke up in an enthusiastic tone. I'm planning to make a few suits out of that fabric. We won't run out of cloth, right? No need to worry about running out. Stop overthinking things. Thank you, Grandpa. But his grandson's next question once again left him stunned, nearly dropping his wine glass. So when are you free to visit the tailor together with us? What? Patrick showed utter surprise at his grandson's proposal. I thought only the two of you were going to wear them. What are you talking about, Grandpa? Of course you have to wear a set too. Rixel quickly spoke up to offer a reasonable suggestion. Big brother, while I agree that everyone should wear them, the head of the family has a very busy schedule. Why don't we invite the tailor to the estate instead? Good idea. The old man finally yielded to his grandson's clever persistence. Fine, as you wish. Since you're the one in charge of this project, Leon, I'll defer to you. Thank you, Grandpa. Leon secretly cheered inwardly as his initial plan succeeded. Great, with Grandpa's approval, I don't have to worry about his weird fashion sense ruining my design anymore. Everyone is starting to talk more naturally, too. He beamed brightly as the burden lifted. Now I can safely focus on preparing for the coming-of-age ceremony. The atmosphere within the estate grew warm and filled with light. Afterwards, everything went very smoothly. Andri arrived at the estate and began taking measurements professionally. Thanks to Andri's visit, preparing the suits went smoothly. The maids and servants in the estate bustled about preparing for the banquet. The decorations for the ceremony were also coming together. The family's solidarity made everything progress at lightning speed, plus they received wholehearted support from Grandpa and Rixel. Big brother, don't overwork yourself, just leave all the annoying chores to me. Are you seriously worried about the expenses under my roof? Strictly speaking, he barely had to lift a finger for anything. Needle and thread were prepared for the final stages. But thanks to that, determined to carve out time for his hobby, he began a tailoring training session. I finally have time to fully dedicate to practicing sewing skills, but something feels off. Everything seemed to proceed as usual until an unexpected notification popped up, usually at this hour. A new talent had to awaken right while he was sewing. New talent, tailoring. Tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 1. Instead of rejoicing, Leon felt suspicious. A notification like this should pop up, right? Why is nothing happening? Doubt quickly turned into fear. Why is that? While it's not quite on the level of when I was a blacksmith, surely the quality of what I made is pretty decent. I made it entirely with my own hands without using a sewing machine. Why hasn't the talent awakened yet? This time I didn't skip any basic steps. He quickly denied his fear and tried to find an explanation for the delay. Could it be that I don't have an aptitude for this? No, don't jump to conclusions. How much time have I spent sewing already? If I really lack talent, it's probably more likely in cooking. He began questioning the difference between these two skills. So what's the difference between tailoring and cooking? Is it the tools? Or do I need a guiding mentor like I had with Elvia when learning medicine? Doubt quickly escalated into absolute terror. But my alchemy depends more on tools than teachers. Where on earth is the catch? A servant suddenly walked in and spoke up. Young Master Andri has arrived. Sylvia rushed in to report the costume preparation situation. The clothes are done. It seems so, but his expression looks a bit strange. He looked blankly at her hesitant attitude. A strange expression, yes, it looked as though. Sylvia's face clearly revealed worry and intense tension. Something terrible just happened. Leon hurriedly strode down the hallway after hearing the news. Andri is here, but something feels off. I've temporarily invited him to the drawing room. Would you like to meet him now? He walked while wondering what on earth had happened. What is that supposed to mean? Leon pushed open the door to the drawing room and was stunned by the sight. What in the world is this? The room was overflowing with dazzling displayed suits. Did he seriously haul the entire dressing room over here? He couldn't help but marvel at the scale of these outfits. How on earth did he manage to bring all of this here by himself? I think everything looks fine, though. Leon cheerfully greeted his familiar designer. Uncle Andri, you're here. I've been waiting for you. Andri politely handed him the completed outfit to try on. This is the young master's ceremonial attire. Would you like to try it on right now? So gorgeous, the high-end ceremonial attire of a master tailor. Leon quickly slipped into the meticulously tailored coat. He glowed brilliantly as he stood before the large mirror. So gorgeous, the high-end ceremonial attire of a master tailor. But Leon quickly noticed the sorrow on Andri's face. Is something wrong? You don't look happy. Andri's expression flickered with hesitation. No, even I have to admit it looks gorgeous. It's just that there's one thing worrying me. The system notification popped up to deliver good news, only to immediately pour cold water on him. You have acquired an outfit of exceptional quality, however, it cannot be worn to a banquet. What? Something is missing. Find what's missing and put Andri at ease. He looked around for a moment before snapping to his senses. I get it. Leon touched the collar of his shirt. The collar area looks way too empty. Andri's face flushed bright red, his eyes shining as if he had just found a kindred genius. Exactly that, young master. All around him were sketched accessories. The outfit is perfect, but it lacks a focal point. Neckties, boaties, cravats, even a pocket square is missing. Leon rested his chin on his hand, pondering the dress code of this world. That's right, in this world those details matter a lot. Let's see. He imagined what Grandpa and his family would look like wearing his designs. If everyone's outfits in the house follow this style, Grandpa should wear a formal, elegant necktie. And since Rixel is still young, a youthful bow tie would suit him better. Andri stood in front of 3 mannequins wearing 3 unfinished ceremonial suits and hesitated. Young master, forgive me, but may I ask a favor of you? A favor. Andri stood in front of 3 mannequins wearing 3 unfinished ceremonial suits and hesitated. Young master, forgive me, but may I ask a favor of you? A favor. Leon's jaw dropped and his eyes widened in utter shock at the request. What? Andri offered to teach him everything. I will teach you everything from making neckties to embroidery. Hold on, leaving that aside. Leon expressed surprise and concern regarding the proposal. Wouldn't it be rude of me to arbitrarily alter a master's work? Andri began recounting a story from the past. Is there a reason you're asking me this? Well, Andri explained the connection between his mother and the clothes. Actually, before taking measurements for the head of the family the other day, I realized the young lady I used to make clothes for back then was none other than your mother. Though I was just a humble, unknown tailor back then, she thanked me. The profound meaning of clothes made out of love. That was when I realized, both back then and now, the clothes she made for the people she loved held an immensely profound meaning. Andri advised him to complete this outfit with his own hands. If the head of the family poured magic into every single needle and thread for his child, then the little young master himself should be the one to complete this outfit. Because this outfit requires something that Andri cannot provide. His happy smile and realization of the truth, that definitely wasn't an easy decision for a proud tailor, so making pretty clothes isn't everything. Leon clenched his fists, smiling with absolute confidence. He's being this kind and thoughtful toward me, I've got to give it my all, I understand. He took off the trial coat and said, I'll leave it all in your hands, uncle. Of course, let's start picking the styles, please have a seat here. Leon sat at the drafting table, immediately picking up his pen to sketch. Actually, I just had an idea. The sketchbook page displayed sharply hand-drawn illustrations of a necktie and a bow tie. I understand what you mean. You want the head of the family to exude refined elegance, while the second young master looks youthful yet luxurious, right? Yes, I want anyone looking at them to immediately know they're the heirs of the family. Splendid. Andri turned to ask him, what kind of style would the young master like to choose for himself? Leon made his decision, I'll decide after finishing everyone else's. I see, then let's start practicing with a basic necktie. A strip of silk to be used for a necktie appeared against a sparkling background. The structure of a necktie goes like this. The loop going around the neck is the protective fastening section, and the narrower end is called the tail. Finally, the wider, blade-like end determines the overall style of the necktie, so its details need to be handled with utmost care. Leon broke out in a cold sweat and asked, are all your terms sword-related? Did I use the wrong terms? Please don't use those words in front of Grandpa. He doesn't really get along well with the Swordmaster family. He remarked while observing the fabric. You aren't using an interlining. Andri praised him in surprise. You have such a sharp eye. Normally I would, but this time it's not needed. He explained while smoothing out the white silk. The silk we're using is top-tier fabric that holds its crease for a very long time. Expensive fabric really is different. This is awesome. Andri beamed with delight, ready for the upcoming work. All right, let's begin. Leon remained modest in response to his praise. There, well done. You don't have to flatter me so skillfully. The necktie is way too good for the maker's skill level. Now let's move on to the next step. They discussed the idea of embroidering the family crest onto the attire. Now we'll try embroidery. Do you have any ideas in mind? Yes, absolutely. I want to weave our family crest in. The profound meaning behind the crest symbol he chose. A family crest is basically like a brand logo. Give it a convincing meaning and it instantly looks luxurious. Look at these leaves attached to the branch. I did this to signify that our family will always stay tightly bound together. Good grief, what a profound meaning. Andri approved and encouraged the young master to start embroidering. Then let's embroider it with that meaning in mind. He guided the embroidery technique to create refinement. The most important thing in embroidery is surface texture. If you nail that part, the embroidery will look completely natural and exquisite. Leon confidently committed to finishing the job on time. I get it. Nothing beats hands-on experience and practice. Give me 3 days and I'll have everything wrapped up by then. Andri expressed absolute trust in his talent. Of course, I completely trust you, young master. A few days later, his finger was pricked by a needle, drawing a drop of blood accompanied by a yelp. Leon sucked on his injured finger and muttered to himself, phew, it's not too deep, looks fine. Over the next few days, I sewed like crazy and lost count of how many times I pricked my finger, quickly burning through the test samples Andri left behind and sketching out my own patterns. He resolved. I purposely refrained from using the miraculous repair kit because if I just rely on its guidance, I'll never improve. Call me stubborn if you want. Leon clutched his head helplessly, slumping over his desk with a sigh. It looks a bit better, but thinking about it, it's still pretty average. This is seriously no walk in the park. Getting poked by needles over and over makes me just want to quit. He threw his head back against the chair, complaining listlessly, my shoulders ache and my eyes hurt. He stared fixedly at the outfit laid out on the bed in front of him, standing in absolute silence without saying a word. Leon clenched his fists over the fabric on the desk, his eyes reigniting with determination. I can't give up, my speed is starting to pick up. A brilliant golden light suddenly enveloped his sewing hands. The glowing golden quest notification popped up, new talent, tailoring. Tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 1. Finally, Leon's sewing skills leveled up rapidly after handling the cutting stages himself. Now I can. Tailoring proficiency has reached apprentice level 2. Momentum building up, achievement unlocked, reward 3,000 shilling. He meticulously smoothed out every single fold. He continued to receive skill level up notifications from the system. He paused for a moment to reflect on the mechanics behind awakening crafting talents. Wait, does the awakening of crafting talents depend on? Looking at the fabric with a leaf embroidery sketch, Leon wondered about the necessity of the finished product for himself. How much do I actually need that item? He recalled past awakenings, where practical necessity was always the most powerful catalyst. For instance, when my blacksmithing talent awakened, I desperately needed a sickle and hoe to make medicine. When my cooking talent awakened, I also needed oil to make bread and cookies, releasing a refreshing sea rosemary aroma. New talent, cooking. Cooking proficiency has reached apprentice level 1. But with tailoring, no matter what I made, it only increased proficiency, while the talent itself never awakened. Pinpointing his current goal, Leon decisively prepared the necessary materials ahead to focus on completion. In that case, what I need right now is this. He executed confident, decisive scissor cuts without blindly following pre-made templates. Good thing I didn't use the repair kit right away. It still looks pretty good without the guide. High-end tie. The value of the tie is elevated by the artisan's touch. Leon prepared to carry out the decisive embroidery step to elevate the piece. Nice, the artisan touch has finally triggered, if I embroider on top of this. A white tie embroidered with leaf patterns using luxurious golden thread appeared amidst a sparkling aura. High-end tie. The system showered him with continuous praise. Unbelievable quality for an apprentice tailor's work, a masterpiece worthy of being displayed anywhere. The moment the tie was attached to the outfit, the system immediately notified that the two matching pieces had upgraded into a complete set. Resonance effect grants 1 bonus point. Leon looked at the brilliant result before him, cheering happily. I did it! Before him lay the high-end ceremonial outfit, looking utterly magnificent. He gazed at the finished product, thrilled as he muttered, my very first 4-star item. This ceremonial outfit can maintain stable body temperature regardless of external weather. Leon couldn't help being startled upon reading that. There's a bonus effect too. At the same time, the system notified him that the Great Tailor achievement was 1/3 complete. Seeing those words, he beamed with excitement and exclaimed, that's awesome. If Rixels and my clothes turn out this gorgeous, I'll clear the achievement in no time. Afterward, Leon picked up the scissors and cheerfully encouraged himself, stay calm and focus on the next one. Sharp scissor blades glided swiftly across the soft fabric. He used his deft hands to transform the white fabric into a bow, with a gemstone pinned in the center, flashing a streak of light under the lights. Once the bow was attached, the bonuses stacked up further. Now, it not only regulates body temperature but also grants immunity to a certain amount of physical and magical damage. Progress bar has reached 2/3. Leon smirked triumphantly. Nice, Rixel's clothes are done too. Next, he cast a troubled glance at the outfit beside it. Now, my own clothes are the real problem. Leon brought a hand to his chin in thought, furrowing his brow as he muttered. With our family's reputation, I can't dress sloppily, and it'd look weird if the star of the party didn't wear a tie, right? To avoid matching Grandpa's or Rixel's ties. Realizing something, he suddenly struck upon a brilliant idea. I'll shorten the long tie and turn it into a brooch tie. Leon picked up a pen, sketching soft lines on paper while muttering to himself, then the highlight of the tie will be the gemstone. Let's see. Next, he turned his head toward a box placed nearby. I guess I'll use one of Grandpa's old gemstones. Leon stared at the sparkling gemstones, thinking with delight, this one looks perfect. It looks exactly like the eye color of the people in my house. Then he gently pinned the purple gemstone to his collar, exclaiming in excitement. Pinning the gemstone here wraps it up. The moment Leon finished that action, the Great Tailor achievement quest was completed as well. Along with a generous reward, the system stated that because Leon had accomplished something extraordinary, he would receive extra cash. Leon couldn't hide his surprise, even extra cash rewards. Right at that moment, the system notified him that he had over 100,000 shilling, meaning he could buy out everything currently available. Reading those lines, Leon immediately lit up with enthusiasm. 25,000 shilling all at once. And the shilling shop has finally unlocked. I've got to go check it out right now. Leon was lost in bliss, completely unaware of the rapid footsteps echoing behind him as the door was suddenly flung open with an earth-shattering bang, startling him into a loud shriek. Leon looked at Rixel's frantic appearance and stammered in fear. Rixel, what are you doing here? Rixel marched in with a darkened face and a grim voice. Tomorrow is your coming-of-age ceremony. Why are you still sitting here sewing, big brother? I heard you've pulled 3 all-nighters in a row. At this rate, you're gonna pass out before the ceremony even starts. Leon's hair stood on end in pure panic as he wondered to himself, I was just caught in a deadline crunch and had no choice but to stay up, but how does the kid know about this? Rixel maintained an icy expression and dropped a chilling ultimatum, go to sleep right now. Leon probably let out a yelp, terrified by Rixel's glaring whiteout eyes. At that exact moment, Sylvia appeared out of nowhere with a blanket, wrapped Leon up in it, and beamed cheerfully. "The second young master is right. Come on, let me put you to bed." Wrapped up like a silkworm chrysalis, he let out a silent cry of despair. "No way, the shilling shop just unlocked. Why are you making me go to sleep before I can even take a peek? Just a little bit. Please, just let me look for 1 second." Outside, a magnificent, majestic castle basked in dazzling sunlight. At that very moment, a voice echoed from inside the castle, "Young master." Sylvia stood beside Leon, gently observing, "You look very dashing today, especially that tie. It suits you well." Leon breathed a sigh of relief with a smile. "Really? Oh, thank goodness." A stream of thoughts flashed simultaneously through Leon's mind. All that hard work finally paid off, even though I passed out the second my back hit the bed. The butler wiped away tears with a handkerchief and sobbed emotionally. "Young master." Sylvia tilted her head slightly, her lips curving into a smile. She looked at Leon's tall, grown-up figure and whispered to herself, "The fragile child of back then is having his coming-of-age ceremony now. I used to be afraid this day would never come for you. Time really flies." At the same time, Rixel walked over cheerfully. "Good morning, big brother." Leon blinked in surprise. "Rixel, are you waiting for me?" The younger boy looked at him with gentle eyes and nodded once, "Yes." Then Rixel raised an eyebrow and declared boldly, "From here on out, I'll escort you." The sound of doors opening echoed through the space, accompanied by his soft voice, "Because today." Inside the room, the party was buzzing with lively energy. Rixel firmly asserted with a serious tone, "You're the star of this party, big brother." Melodious music from a symphony orchestra flowed through the luxurious room. A young noblewoman blinked around in astonishment and exclaimed, "The decorations are so grand. Talk about the Asteria family style." A middle-aged man beside her chuckled, "This is even grander than a royal banquet." Another man with a glass of wine turned to speak, "I heard Marquis Patrick and his eldest grandson didn't get along, but turns out it was just a baseless rumor." A man with a mustache shrugged indifferently, "We'll see about that." Amidst the noisy clamor, a loud announcement rang out, "Marquis Asteria and the young masters have arrived." Hearing that, everyone immediately turned their heads toward the source of the sound. Whispers and murmurs immediately rippled through the crowd. "It's the Marquis, as majestic as ever." Walking beside him is young Master Rixel. And following right behind the two of them is Leon, with a gentle smile on his lips. Today's guest of honor, young Master Leon. He wore luxurious attire, taking measured steps forward amidst the applause of the party attendees. A woman caught sight of Leon and muttered mockingly, "He doesn't look as imposing as I thought. Feels a bit overshadowed by the air, young Master Rixel." A man beside her chimed in, "I heard rumors he's a bit of an oddball, too." Suddenly, Patrick frowned and called out to Leon. Leon greeted him cheerfully, "Yes, Grandpa." Then the old man looked toward the crowd of nobles ahead and warned sternly, "Listen up, don't go mingling with that crowd over there. They aren't the kind of people you should get mixed up with." Leon looked surprised and questioned back, "Are you worried about me?" Patrick sighed, furrowing his brow as he reminded him, "Remember, this is a crowded place and you have to give the opening speech later, so pull yourself together." Catching the stern look on the old man's face, Leon couldn't help chuckling out loud. "Don't worry, Grandpa, I won't do anything to shame the Asteria family name." At the same time, he thought to himself fondly, he really still cares about me in his own weird way. Leon adjusted his collar nonchalantly and thought to himself, I couldn't care less about chatting with a bunch of sycophants anyway. My sole goal is. Next, he bowed politely and introduced himself gently. "Hello everyone, I'm Leon Asteria, and I've officially come of age today." Continuing his train of thought, to leave a good impression of the family in everyone's eyes. Leon spoke up with utter confidence and zero shyness. "I sincerely thank everyone for coming today, especially the future heirs who will lead this country. Today Rixel froze upon seeing this image. He observed his older brother and asked himself in astonishment, "Big brother, has he always been this reliable?" Right then, a young noblewoman whispered, "Young Master Leon looks rather charming today, doesn't he?" The girl next to her broke into a sweat and hesitated. "Turns out I wasn't the only one who thought so. It's hard to put into words, he looks normal, but..." The noblewoman in the yellow dress raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't his outfit look unusually special?" Hearing that, her friend immediately realized, "Now that you mention it, it has this very refined, minimalist beauty." The other girl confirmed firmly, "It's not just the clothes, it actually makes the wearer stand out even more." The first girl agreed without hesitation, "Spot on, as expected of the most prestigious family in the empire." Then the noblewoman blushed and asked curiously, "I wonder what designer made that?" Another girl glanced over and replied, "I heard none of the usual tailors managed to land that order." After observing for a moment, Patrick crossed his arms and remarked, "The boy knows how to use his head." Rixel turned to him in surprise. Then, with flushed cheeks, the younger brother stammered, "Big brother, did he foresee things to this extent?" The old man thought for a second before his lips curved into a smile. "I'm not entirely sure, but he's always quick-witted. just like someone I know. Rixel still seemed to have lingering questions he couldn't figure out. Right then, Leon's gentle voice rang out. From here on out, everyone, please feel free to enjoy yourselves until tomorrow. Relax and have a wonderful time at the party. Once again, thank you all for traveling such a long way here. I'll take my leave now. With a bright smile on his face, he cheerfully added, wishing everyone a wonderful party. Crisp applause echoed throughout the hall. The moment Leon stepped off the stage, Rixel looked thrilled and remarked, Big brother, you were amazing. Looking at him with eyes full of admiration, he asked in disbelief, You've been so swamped, where did you even find the time to prep such a great speech? Did you practice in secret? Leon laughed awkwardly. Not really, I just kept it simple. But thanks for the compliment. Inside, a smug thought crossed his mind. That's years of corporate office experience in Korea for you. At that moment, Patrick walked over and remarked with satisfaction, that bloodline of ours really doesn't hide itself. Even without mana or a flashy aura, he still maintains such an imposing presence. Then he offered a gentle compliment. Well done. Leon smiled happily in response. Thank you, Grandpa. Then Patrick offered gently, all right then, we should go enjoy the party ourselves. On tables draped with red tablecloths sat mouth-watering dishes, accompanied by the melodious violin music of the orchestra. Red wine swirled gently in a glass, accompanied by a voice, so Leon. Then he looked at Leon with curiosity. Have you decided what you're bringing to the labyrinth ceremony? Leon raised his glass and took a gentle sip while Patrick's thoughts played out. I hear whatever you receive in the labyrinth depends on the item you bring along. Those who bring spellbooks gain new magical knowledge, while those who bring spell staves receive new attack spells. For a normal mage, the outcome is pretty predictable, but since you're not a mage, it's a complete unknown. In that case, Leon twirled the glass of red wine in his hand and hesitated. Then with a confident smile, he asserted, I'll probably bring the potion I brewed myself. As soon as Leon said that, a wave of inner frustration hit him. I don't have magical talent, and right now I don't even have any decent equipment. Even this 4-star outfit was made by Uncle Andrew, and I just added the tie myself. So I might as well just bring the best thing I crafted with my own 2 hands. Patrick paused in thought for a moment before letting out a sigh. True, that's a good way to look at it. The labyrinth will grant you knowledge suited to your current capabilities anyway. And I have one more thing to ask. Are you interested in politics or the heir position at all? Leon didn't even need to think twice to give a firm answer. Not at all. That left Patrick slightly confused. You answered that instantly? Sensing the other person hadn't fully taken in his stance, Leon hurriedly expressed his position as if he were on fire. I'm sure, not even a little bit. That is never going to happen, Grandpa. Besides, I figured Rixel would be taking over as the next head anyway. Meanwhile, Rixel was overflowing with emotion as he looked at his older brother, Big Brother. Patrick cleared his throat and addressed his younger grandson. If that's the case, Rixel, will you cherish your older brother as much as your own life? The boy quickly placed his hand over his chest to swear a solemn oath. Yes, I swear on the family's honor and by my own mana. Expecting a long-winded ceremonial lecture to follow, instead, the old man simply took a sip of wine to clear his throat and muttered with a nod. All right, settled then. Patrick completely ignored his grandson's puzzled looks and mentally set off fireworks. I can't believe the succession issue I was most worried about got resolved this quickly. It makes me just want to go brag about it to the whole world. As of now, the most threatening families to Asteria are the royal family and the Sword Saint family. Those wandering thoughts inadvertently annoyed Patrick, causing him to glance into the distance, where the 2 heir candidates were having dinner and chatting. Those old royal fogies are already tearing their hair out over their own succession fights, so we don't need to worry about them for now. Just when he thought it ended there, Patrick shifted his gaze toward a girl in the distance. The real issue is the Bidentes family. The bloody purge under the guise of their succession ritual just ended not long ago. I heard a young girl shouldered all that bloodshed to revive the entire family. I don't know what kind of barbaric era we're living in to let something like that happen, but thanks to that, them being tied up with family affairs works to our advantage. Still, since they're super touchy right now, it's best to avoid crossing paths if possible. Realizing he had stayed silent for too long, Patrick cleared his throat to start a conversation. All right, Leon, I understand your mindset. So just go ahead and live the life you want as a member of the Asteria family. When Leon narrowed his eyes and asked a polite question, what if I cause trouble though? The old man calmly gave a concise reply, go ahead and try if you want, however. The way he intentionally dragged out his sentence without getting straight to the point left Leon utterly confused. However, Patrick suddenly revealed his menacing underworld side. If you get hurt, I won't let it slide. That statement made Leon break out in a cold sweat. I'll probably get smoked by Grandpa before I even die from causing trouble. Leon quickly bowed deeply to express his determination. I'll live quietly, peacefully, and take very good care of myself. Having finally heard what he wanted, Patrick nodded happily and commanded, "Good, let's finish our meal." The party continued like that for a long time, until Leon had some time to sip his wine alone while keeping his eyes on where everyone was gathered. Thanks to the earlier conversation, he was lucky enough to be relegated to the side of the party, giving him time to space out and daydream. Grandpa and Rixel are both trying so hard, and dealing with these noble snobs is such a pain. He slowly handed his half-finished glass of wine to a waiter while his mind was still occupied. "But I have my own work to do." Alex walked up to him for reasons unknown and initiated a greeting. "Hello, Leon, I've been curious for a while now. Could you reveal who designed this stunning outfit?" That question triggered Leon's business instincts instantly. "My very first customer is right here." No matter how loudly he was screaming inside, on the outside he maintained the polished etiquette from his grooming lessons. Of course, absolutely. To Leon's surprise, right after he said those words, a bunch of other potential customers showed up, eagerly chiming in, "Leon, me too. Me as well, please share it with me too." While he stood there dazed and baffled, more people gathered than I expected. Is this the power of the 4-star item effect? Leon's mouth automatically went into service mode to capture the noble's attention. Everyone's curious about who made this outfit, right? However, I'm a bit hesitant. That off-script answer naturally left Alex and the others bewildered. "Pardon?" Leon suddenly put on an embarrassed expression as he dropped a fascinating piece of lore. As it happens, this designer is the illegitimate child of a noble family, and because they also sold clothes to commoners, they were ostracized by the nobility. Naturally, the nobles took the bait almost instantly without a single question. Oh, please, in this day and age, people still discriminate against tailors over that? Well, people tied to the first prince tend to be pretty uptight about those things. Hearing the royal family mentioned in the murmurs, Leon paused for a few seconds. Wait, come to think of it, the second prince is an illegitimate child too, right? Could Uncle Andrew have fallen victim to public opinion due to the shadow war between the two princes? Still, he quickly regained his momentum, adopting a friendly, corporate-smelling tone. "Anyway, because of that, I can introduce him to you all. But if that makes you uncomfortable," before Leon could finish his sentence, the nobles couldn't help laughing and chattering away. "Not at all, please tell us. We only care about the clothes themselves." Thanks to those definitive confirmations, he smiled gently and confidently before introducing the mysterious person. "Since you're all so enthusiastic, it would be rude of me to keep it a secret. Let me introduce him. The tailor who made this outfit is Andrew, and his shop is located in the southern part of our family's territory." Alex had been waiting forever to hear the tailor's identity and gasped in immediate awe. "I knew it, so it really was him. I kept wondering where he disappeared to. Turns out he was under the Asteria family's protection." Before anyone could say another word, Leon suddenly dropped a bombshell right in the middle of the party. "You guys should hurry up if you want to book an appointment. As far as I know, there are only about 3 slots left." This new info left the nobles stunned. Only 3 slots? Just as he intended to continue expressing his thoughts, Clarentia suddenly made her presence known. "Hold on." Completely ignoring the way people avoided her, she calmly dropped a question to Leon, "That tailor, does he really accept orders for any kind of clothing?" While the people around her were busy murmuring amongst themselves, "What is she planning to order? Probably a gorgeous dress, right?" He maintained his friendly service persona to reply, "Of course, Marchioness Clarentia by Dentes." While Leon was calculating in his head a clothing order from the Sword Saint family, his mouth smoothly steered the conversation to the main point. "If you don't mind, may I ask what kind of clothing the Marchioness wishes to have made?" Clarentia answered immediately without a shred of hesitation, as if she had anticipated the question. "I plan to order training gear and comfortable everyday wear." However, her next sentence made everyone's skin crawl. "My old ones are all torn up and unwearable now." The chilling aura radiating from Clarentia terrified the nobles into fleeing on the spot. "Oh man, my back suddenly hurts. Oh lord, my head. I forgot to turn off the stove at home. Oh gosh, I suddenly have an urgent matter to attend to. I'll definitely book an appointment next time." Thus, the massive banquet hall was left with only Clarentia and Leon, which left him slightly awkward. And just like that, they all ran away. Well, given the rumors that she's the sole survivor of that bloody purge, it's totally normal for people to be scared of her. But a customer is a customer, no need to mind those rumors. That rational mindset helped Leon calm down, turning on his salesperson mode as he began. "Since the quantity of clothes is quite large, it might take a bit longer than expected. Is that all right with you?" Clarentia agreed immediately without a second thought. "That's not a problem at all. Do I need to pay a deposit in advance?" Without needing a moment to think, Leon gave a fitting answer. "Let's sort that out after the banquet ends, all right." The moment Clarentia left, Leon couldn't help letting out a sigh of relief. To think it would end so unexpectedly simple. Now, what's next? He quickly turned around to address those who had fled earlier. The remaining slots were snapped up in the blink of an eye. Does anyone else want to put their name down on the waiting list? Just like that, he reeled in a whole batch of potential customers signing up for the tailoring service, resulting in a backlog of orders nearly as thick as a regular notebook. Before he knew how much time had passed, he looked at his ledger and couldn't help beaming brightly. Awesome. Uncle Andrew should be satisfied with this many orders. Suddenly, Sylvia appeared out of nowhere, delivering a soft notification. Young master, the head of the family has announced that the trial is ready. Without overthinking it, Leon nodded in reply. Right, I'll be right there. A moment later, Leon stood in a daze before the door to Patrick's study. Before he could open the door, Thuris abruptly appeared and struck up a conversation with Leon, as expected of the proud eldest grandson of the Asteria family famed for his magic. You don't look nervous at all, do you? That tone, 3 parts concerned and 7 parts sarcastic, irritated him to no end. This guy. He knows full well I can't use magic. But on the outside, Leon still had to force a friendly smile in response. Before he could finish what he was saying, however, Rixel immediately stepped in to rescue him. That goes without saying. Why should my big brother be nervous? His ability to stand toe-to-toe against an opponent with a much stronger backing made Leon break out in a cold sweat. This kid, Rixel, at times like this he looks exactly like the old man, totally different from how he treats me. Besides, the first prince was precisely the type of person Rixel loathed to his core. While the guy had some competence, his essence was that of a decadent hedonist living for pleasure. Unwilling to lower himself and lose face, Thuris immediately opted to retreat. I'll take my leave and return to my seat. After the 2 princes departed, Rixel anxiously turned to his older brother to offer advice. Big brother, the potion you mentioned is in here, right? Make sure you come back safely. Leon quickly nodded with an enthusiastic reply, completely contrasting his previous awkward stance. Yeah, thanks, little bro. He slung the bag over his shoulder, letting a wave of nostalgia wash over his mind. This place holds so many memories. He had diligently trudged out here ever since he was a kid. For someone like him who couldn't awaken any talent, this place used to be a sanctuary and a hiding spot. Rumor had it that the first head of the family left a treasure here after the war with the demons ended. But what on earth could it be, if even they called it a treasure? Then it was undoubtedly something supremely valuable, even within the game. Sylvia abruptly offered Leon a sharp dagger. Young master, he understood its function all too well, so he simply offered a soft word of thanks. Then he swiftly made a small cut on his finger, letting his own blood drip straight down onto the ground. The array beneath Leon's feet instantly activated, causing the massive mansion to shake continuously, leaving Thuris, who had just reached the main hall, unable to help wondering. To think just opening a door could cause a tremor like this. Meanwhile, oblivious to the guests' apprehension, Leon poured all his focus into the strands of spiritual power reaching outward. They tightly wrapped around his waist, before yanking Leon straight into the space behind that door, completely ignoring how panicked he was. The labyrinth library of the Asteria family. Depending on the labyrinth's will, it could be cleared without any trials at all. However, if an entrant harbored greed and deliberately caused destruction, it would instantly turn into an inescapable dungeon whose terrifying force could trigger an earthquake powerful enough to shake the vast estate as if it were about to collapse, sending the 2 princes and everyone else into a frenzy of panic. What on earth is happening? Everyone, be careful. At the same time, Leon, who had just opened the library, strained to open his eyes and gaze at the blinding light after being pulled inside. Something's wrong. The library doesn't usually open like this. What on earth is going on? Suddenly, the moment he saw what was right in front of him, he let out a startled shriek. Because Leon suddenly realized he was being dragged into some strange, dark void within the library. Seeing the panicked expressions of Patrick and Rixel squeezed his heart, forcing him to stifle any sound. Grandpa, Rixel, what is happening to me? Before he knew how much time had elapsed, Leon's entire body was floating in a strange, mystical space. The system here abruptly unleashed a lengthy notification, paying no heed to whether the user had regained consciousness. You have achieved the Book Labyrinth achievement. You have been granted permission to read all books in the library. Wisdom points increased by 10, mana permanently increased by 10. A high-grade pure mana circle has been formed. Returning to the banquet, the continuous shaking of the space had everyone screaming in terror. The swaying candles now shifted back and forth erratically. Wine glasses began tumbling uncontrollably to the floor as everyone scrambled to find an escape route to save their lives. Save me, where is the Marquis? Suddenly, the ornate chandelier overhead swayed wildly, causing the cable connecting it to the ceiling to snap rapidly. The massive chandelier plunged downward in free fall. Alex was the only one who noticed it and froze in horror. The chandelier is falling. Luckily, before the chandelier could crush her, Patrick's mana swiftly blasted it away. Having narrowly cheated death, Alex regained her senses and stammered, "We're alive. Dubert couldn't help crying out, "That's Lord Patrick's protective energy, he's protecting us." The chaotic scene within the Grand Asteria estate settled back down in a short span of time. Meanwhile, Patrick stood on an upper floor, channeling his magical power across the entire area. He anxiously issued orders. "Rickson, head out to the banquet hall and guide the people. I've already erected several layers of protective barriers." He hurriedly bowed in confirmation. "Yes, Lord Head of the family." Once the person left, a panicked Rixel rushed to speak up. "Grandpa, what on earth just happened?" Patrick couldn't help sighing as he looked at the ruined landscape around him. "The labyrinth has gone out of control. I've already told Rixon to evacuate the guests first." "What about the princes?" After the recent ordeal, Thuras dropped his flippant demeanor to reply seriously. "They're safe. Rixel deployed protective magic for them." Hearing that answer allowed Patrick to let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness everyone is safe and sound. "Rixel, send healers to the injured and prepare accommodations for the remaining guests. I will guard the entrance to the labyrinth. I leave all crisis management to you." Suddenly handed such a heavy responsibility by his grandfather, Rixel immediately looked panicked. "Sir, that's too dangerous, Lord Head of the family. I'll stay here too." Regrettably, Patrick didn't give it much thought before flatly rejecting him. "No. As the next successor of the family, you must fulfill your duty." Sensing the tense situation of the Asteria family, Thuras flusteredly spoke up. "Marquis, it's too dangerous. We don't know what the labyrinth is like right now." He abruptly turned around with his usual stern expression to reply, "Does this tiny bit of chaos expect to put me in danger? Or perhaps I never knew my esteemed guests cared for me so deeply." "Rixel, go." His tone brooked zero argument, leaving the boy utterly stunned. As the atmosphere grew heavy, the two princes cautiously spoke up. "Right, Lord Leon will probably be safe. Let's go, I'll lend a hand too." Completely ignoring the two of them, Rixel worriedly muttered to himself, "Big brother." With that, the three young men quickly departed from the dangerous floor, leaving Patrick alone with numerous lingering worries as he gazed toward the library door. The labyrinth's condition is fluctuating abnormally. If by any chance Rixel gets dragged into this too. Suddenly, a familiar, melodious voice rang out. "You're still staying behind in a critical situation like this." The moment Patrick caught sight of Clarentia's face, he blurted out, "Head of the Bidentes family, why are you staying instead of leaving?" She ignored the question altogether and leisurely changed the subject. "It seems you're quite certain he's still alive, huh? As if you already knew the outcome beforehand." Patrick didn't reply, but his pensive expression gave Clarentia her answer in silence. That was why she calmly spoke up, startling him. "I'll help." Patrick frowned in puzzlement. "Why, it would be much more beneficial for your family if you didn't help us." Clarentia fell silent for a few seconds before offering a somewhat logical reply. "Well, I just ordered some outfits from him, and I don't like my plans ruined. In that case, I'll wait nearby." No sooner had Clarentia left than Sylvia appeared right behind Patrick. She gently remarked, "That child's perceptiveness is nothing short of extraordinary," prompting him to nod despite himself. Indeed. "Sylvia, erect barriers around the labyrinth." Orders given, how could she refuse? Yes. While Sylvia busied herself channeling magical energy to forge a magical barrier, Patrick cleared his throat to warn her, "This matter must not leak out under any circumstances. From now on, we focus on restoring the area outside the labyrinth. That way Leon will at least have a way out." Meanwhile, entirely unaware of the chaos outside, Leon leisurely lay back to enjoy the surrounding fresh air. The gorgeous natural scenery put him in such a joyful mood that he began humming a self-composed tune. The melodious chirping of birds blending with the gentle breeze made Leon smile. Suddenly, he caught sight of the familiar system notification. "You have achieved the book Labyrinth achievement," he muttered to himself. "This is giving me a headache. Seeing this achievement pop up means I've cleared the labyrinth. Yet I have no clue what the heck I even did to clear it." Annoyed, Leon sat up straight to clear his head while recalling what he had seen in the game. This was the reward area. Since the labyrinth had been beaten, this place should be safe. So how do you claim the reward? In the game, you just had to click on it. Being stuck in such a passive position frustrated Leon to no end. Meaning Leon originally wandered in and out of this place without encountering any obstacles. Is the only thing that changed since back then my mana pool? No, probably not, because it only increased by a little over 10 points. If it just had to do with the mana pool, my relatives would treat the end of this labyrinth like their own living room. Besides, if anyone could enter this easily, Grandpa wouldn't have hidden his treasure here. Or maybe it had something to do with possessing this body. This new idea gave Leon a glimmer of hope to find a fresh line of reasoning for his vague plan. Come to think of it, Grandpa said the first head of the family hid a treasure here 500 years ago after ending the war with the demons alongside the hero. That hero suddenly vanished without a trace after the war ended. Leon paused abruptly upon thinking that far. This labyrinth was solved the moment I stepped foot in it. Unlike the original Leon who frequently visited the library, this is my first time here since transmigrated into this body. What if the labyrinth recognized me not as Leon Asteria, but as someone else? It sounded a bit absurd, but the war with the demons was the setting of the game, where players embodied the hero, fought the demons, and saved the world. If the treasure hidden here by the first head happened to belong to the hero, wait, then isn't this my character's item? Sitting on the grass, Leon rested his chin in his hand in thought while glancing around. If the hero's treasure hidden here was an item I once owned, the system probably marked it as a legacy item to be reclaimed. Then he slowly stood up and stated firmly, "Anyway, I can't stay here forever. With just one mana circle, I can't even touch tier 4 magic and above, so the only way out is to use brute force to break through this place." Next, Leon took a step forward. There has to be a way through, even though my level is low, but his marching foot suddenly halted. It seemed he had noticed something. Following that, Leon looked down at the white flowers growing beneath his feet. Come to think of it, these white flowers. Information on the rare pure white flowers popped up. This flower does not grow alongside others and is commonly used as ornamental foliage. Reading it, he raised an eyebrow and muttered, looking closely, they're planted according to a pattern. It seemed the entire map followed a certain order. Beside the pure white flowers were ordinary purple weeds, which also grew separately rather than mingling with other species. Leon surveyed the flower field once more and pensively analyzed. Every area has only one type of plant, but if they're all mixed up like this, that means. Crossing his arms, he confidently deduced, this area is broken down into sections, and these plants are artificially arranged. There's definitely one area planted against the rules, the spot holding the key to getting out. And the most abnormal spot is. The moment he saw what was ahead, Leon's jaw dropped in astonishment. Then he broke into a smug smile. So the spot where plants that shouldn't grow near each other gather is right here, huh? Following that, Leon gently closed his eyes. Powerful blue energy currents radiated outward around him. Standing there, he muttered to himself in thought, I close my eyes and focus on listening to my heartbeat. I let my consciousness sink into my body in sync with that rhythm. A magic circle materialized before his chest. Feeling it, Leon chuckled with amusement. A mana circle, how fascinating. Right then, the system notified him that the mana circle had been successfully targeted, and he could now view its data. Leon closed his eyes once more, murmuring to himself, all right, Leon, focus. Try funneling mana into your eyes. A surge of mighty energy welled up, and he suddenly snapped his eyes open. Skill Witch's Eyes activated. Duration over 10 minutes. The moment Leon spotted the red dots appearing across the flower field, he jumped in surprise. That was a close one. Areas containing all three types of plants are basically traps. Then he shifted his gaze to another floral area. Either there are no mana threads or it's rigged to trigger magic if touched incorrectly. Not this spot. Looking around, Leon smiled cheerfully. Guess I need to go a bit further out. The scene of him walking across the flower field appeared, with faint blue currents of power shimmering through the space. As Leon walked forward, he abruptly stopped in his tracks. Right then, the system announced that the Witch's Eyes skill had been enhanced and the area's hidden name was revealed. Spotting where the source of those illusory mana threads originated, he beamed with excitement. Found it. Kneeling before the energy source, Leon pondered doubtfully, do I need to dig down to check? Next, he cheerfully opened the system shop. If so, I need something to get rid of this mana thread. Let's check the shilling shop. Since Leon's assets exceeded 100,000 shillings, all items were unlocked and his current membership tier was bronze. Leon gasped in amazement. Everything's unlocked and there's even a new page. Swiping his hand across the system screen, he raised an eyebrow. Survival. Since this is what I need most right now, let's check this category first. Looking at the item before him, Leon blurted out in shock, no, wait. Wear and tier status results in low success rate. Success rate 20%. Remaining uses 1. Reading through it once, he put his hands on his hips in anger. What kind of items are these? Is this a scam? Price aside, I can't even use any of this stuff. Isn't this a bit much? Simultaneously, the system offered to apply a filter. Seeing that, Leon couldn't hide his joy. Awesome, there's actually a filter function. He excitedly requested, show me items under 120,000 shillings, sorted from cheapest to most expensive, including discounted items. The system instantly loaded the information. A chime sounded. Satisfied that the system was being helpful, Leon muttered, nice, filtering is way easier now. But when he saw the results on screen, a hint of disappointment crossed his face. Most of this stuff won't help right now. Afterward, he looked at two items, the magic detector and the sharp scissors, and hesitatingly analyzed. These two seem like the best choices. The magic detector is tempting, but too expensive. The scissors are definitely a more practical choice right now. With my current skills, I couldn't break through illusory magic anyway, even with a detector. Gritting his teeth, Leon made his decision and pressed to buy. I'll take this one. Right then, the system notified him that the sharp scissors had been permanently bound to him. Looking at the item, he raised an eyebrow and chuckled. I busted my tail saving up shillings ever since I got here, and they vanish in the blink of an eye. At least I like this permanent binding thing. Hope it solves the problem. Next, Leon enthusiastically declared, now, time to unearth the source of that mana thread. Pulling out a shovel, he proudly proclaimed, all those grueling daily crafting and gathering chores are finally paying off. Digging is a piece of cake now. True to his word, Leon immediately got to work, his hands rhythmically driving the shovel into the ground. At the same time, the system notified him that Witch's Eyes had 1 minute remaining. Startled, he blurted out, has it been that long already? Wait. Right then, the shovel blade struck something hard, accompanied by a harsh, grating sound. Seeing that, Leon widened his eyes in surprise. There it is. Unable to hide his excitement, he began digging with both hands. Hurry up. Leon gripped the item, emitting energy strands buried deep in the earth. Lifting the treasure chest, he remarked with amusement, it looks just like reward chests in video games. The system started a 10-second countdown. Using the scissors to snip the thread, Leon hurriedly replied, I know. Just as the timer hit 7 seconds, his sharp blade severed the mana thread. The enhanced Witch's Eyes skill ended. Staring expectantly at the glowing golden treasure chest, he whispered, it actually worked. The system asked if he wanted to claim the reward. Without a moment's hesitation, Leon answered, of course. The item was bound to him and stored in his inventory. Item cannot be identified here. Glancing at the glowing light, he smiled brightly. Getting bound proves it really was my item to begin with. Next, Leon furrowed his brow in confusion. Then what on earth is it that I can't check it here? Simultaneously, the system announced that because he had collected a related item, Leon would be forced into story mode. This is an unskippable memory. Leon broke out in a nervous sweat. With an incredulous expression, he widened his eyes and challenged, wait, what? What story mode? What's going on? Before him appeared the image of a door, adorned with luxurious patterns. Patrick and Rixel stood before the door, the current atmosphere seeming rather tense. Suddenly narrowing his eyes, Patrick sternly inquired, Rixel, I assume the fallout from the public rumors has been properly dealt with? Hearing that, the boy reported honestly, yes, Lord Head of the family. We blamed the chaos on an earthquake. There are currently no signs of other incidents. Afterward, Rixel broke into a sweat and averted his gaze. I also secured a cooperative commitment from the 2 princes on this matter. The head of the Swordmaster Bidenti's family has likewise promised to ensure no groundless rumors spread. Upon hearing that, Patrick nodded in assessment. Good. Thoughts raced through his mind. That will keep the rumors from spreading among the royal family and nobility. Who would have guessed the first prince's incompetence would actually come in handy for once? Next, he sternly demanded, what about the temple and the underworld? Breaking into a sweat, the boy replied, we took action in both places before information leaked. At least my big brother's whereabouts remain unknown. Hearing that, Patrick furrowed his brow. Good, well done. Meanwhile, he affirmed inwardly, no matter what happens, information must never leak to those 2 places. The temple and the underworld, one possessed a grand archbishop obsessed with everything related to the hero, while the other was founded by one of the hero's companions, having since grown into a massive faction. His thoughts aligned seamlessly. Unlike others, those 2 places possess enough intellect to uncover the core truth. If we aren't careful, they might realize Leon possesses special power. And in truth, Leon was indeed connected to the hero. The first piece of evidence was the hero's potion. The second piece was what was happening right now. Trouble started the very moment Leon stepped into the labyrinth, the sanctuary of the hero's treasure. There was definitely something there that even Leon wasn't aware of. Until I find out what it is, information must be kept completely hidden. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out, making both Patrick and Rixel snap their heads in one direction. The surrounding space shook violently. Right then, someone panicked and screamed, the labyrinth is moving. Patrick instantly raised an eyebrow and signaled, everyone, prepare for combat. Wearing a wary look, he hesitated before speaking. I can sense a massive power erupting from within. Seeing the light flashing across the door, Rixel panicked and blurted out, something's crawling out. Suddenly, something flew out and struck Patrick right on the forehead, to everyone's astonishment. After taking the hit, Patrick tried to suppress his anger until his whole body shook, while Rixel suspiciously held the object in his hand. This is. Looking closely at the object that had just been shot out, he exclaimed in surprise, a letter. After glancing over the handwriting on the paper, Rixel stated with certainty, although it looks hastily written, this is definitely my older brother's handwriting, and there are no bloodstains or signs of damage. Patrick asked with a bit of curious, sweaty concern, what does it say? With a pale face, he looked up and answered, Right at that moment, the system notified that Leon had successfully accessed the plot. After being knocked out for a moment, he slowly regained consciousness, sitting up while clutching his head. My head hurts. Have I entered the plot mode already? A short character plot segment appeared before his eyes, prompting him to speculate. Judging by the title, this looks like someone's memory. A man whose face was obscured handed over a small chest with a curved smile. I don't need it anymore, so... Patrick, take care of this. Hearing the familiar name, Leon realized in a start, Patrick, this is the memory of the day my grandfather received the item from the hero. The voices in the memory echoed back and forth, not yet, we haven't finished everything. Why right now, for a necessary day? Sweating profusely, Leon panicked and clutched his head. Damn it, such important info and I couldn't hear any of it clearly. And why is the perspective like this? I should have been more careful during character creation. I used random mode, so now I can't remember what that was. Patrick accepted the chest and stated with a solemn tone, understood, I'll be responsible for keeping it. At that moment, the system notified him that a stored memory had been observed, ending the plot mode. Staring with wide-eyed confusion, he blurted out, what, it's over. Sweating like a waterfall, Leon grimaced and complained, I thought I was gonna see something important, but I didn't get any info at all. Staring down at the small treasure chest in his hand, he muttered in a low voice, roughly speaking, this timeline was when the war with the demon race was still ongoing. Looks like that person left it with my grandfather to use on a rainy day. Inside the chest were sparkling pieces of jewelry, making him look at the item with some skepticism. Is this the skill-concealing accessory set? Then Leon slipped the bracelet onto his wrist and raised an eyebrow. Actually, this item wasn't too hard to get in the game. Only people who wanted to hide their power used it, but in reality, it's an accessory to help grind extra exp. I even equipped one on every single character back then just to squeeze out extra experience points. Anyway, who cares which character in my account it belonged to, but since they didn't need it, they left it here. Plus, it popped up right when I needed to mask my mana, so I gotta be grateful. Then he gently closed his eyes. Simultaneously, the system asked if he wanted to check the mana circle info, and without hesitation, he sternly replied, yes. After analyzing, the system immediately announced that the current excess mana volume was extremely low, startling Leon as he questioned in his head, that's weird. Can my very first circle hold that much mana? A man clasping his hands together to concentrate mana flashed in his mind. While he muttered to himself, everyone has to train and meditate day and night to expand their mana container before creating a second or third circle. Seeing this scene out of curiosity, Leon wondered, why is my first circle so big? His expression carried a mix of worry and bewilderment. But then Leon shrugged off the doubts nonchalantly. Whatever, as long as it benefits me. Next, he stood up slowly. Anyway, thanks to this item, my secret won't get exposed. Even though it's an event item, it's still treated as a treasure here. Big profit, looks like I'm gonna have an unforgettable coming-of-age ceremony. Suddenly, Leon looked up, sweating as he thought, the real problem is. He scanned his surroundings and gave a wry smile inside. I'm still trapped in the labyrinth. Leon's voice echoed through the quiet space. First of all, I need to move and find a way out. At that exact moment, his foot accidentally kicked a book on the ground. Right then, the system issued an access denied warning, stating he couldn't access it without the library owner's permission, except it then informed him that he was the library owner. Blanking out in surprise, Leon blurted out, I became the owner. With a slightly worried expression, Leon grimaced and muttered, must be because I cleared the labyrinth. This wasn't part of the plan. Words popped up on the screen. The labyrinth entrance is damaged. Automatic repairs are underway. The system then asked if he wanted to teleport to the endpoint. Reading that, he couldn't help being startled. What? The interior got wrecked and now even the entrance is broken. If I leave it like this. Sweating profusely with a pale face, Leon muttered, Grandpa is definitely gonna chew me out. I don't want to get yelled at. What should I do? An image of Patrick's furious face flashed in his mind, accompanied by an angry voice. You idiot, I told you you could do whatever you wanted, but who knew you'd cause a disaster like this? Suddenly raising an eyebrow, he wondered, wait, if I'm the owner, can I fix it myself? The system suggested repairing the labyrinth, but warned that bound items would return to their original spots. Reading that, Leon immediately refused. If I do that, the items I just grabbed will disappear, and the whole library of books I accumulated since building the labyrinth will vanish too. No way. Next, he curiously asked, is there any other way? The system promptly offered an alternative, manually adjusting the labyrinth to repair it. The repair resources for the entrance would be shipped over, which would take time. Reading through, Leon nodded to himself, feels a bit like editing a save file. The last time I added books to the labyrinth was a week ago, so excluding the treasures I'm currently holding, I'll restore it to its state from a week ago. Excitedly, he asked, how long will it take? The system replied that it would take 672 hours, and he wouldn't be able to leave during that time. Caught off guard, Leon stammered in disbelief, how many hours? The number 672 blinked on the screen, making him shriek in shock. That means a whole month. Sweating like crazy, he hesitated and asked, can I walk around inside the labyrinth during that time? The system informed him that he could move freely within the library. Not stopping there, Leon kept asking, is there any way to send a message outside while repairs are ongoing? The system mentioned an unused book delivery tube. Hearing that, Leon cheered up. Perfect. First, I'll send a note to Grandpa and Rixel so they won't worry. Then, sweating with a nod, he said, all right. Giving a stern signal, he ordered, fix it. the system immediately began the repair work. Books were lifted into midair by a surge of energy. Even the fallen wooden ladder and chairs shifted around. The interior of the library seemed to be shifting. Simultaneously, the system announced there were 671 hours and 59 minutes left to complete the labyrinth restoration. Putting his hands on his hips with satisfaction, Leon muttered, all right. Can you take me to the end of the labyrinth now?" A spatial portal instantly appeared before his eyes, prompting him to remark in awe, such a convenient feature. Then Leon calmly said, "From now on, I just need to try and survive for a month." To accomplish that, he suddenly paused, spotting something. Glancing toward a clear blue lake, he gasped, "Could that be it? A lake?" Leon's reflection on the water's surface rippled slightly. Stepping closer to the lake's edge, he marveled, "I never expected there'd be such a huge lake inside a labyrinth. Luckily, it doesn't look dangerous." Just as Leon was relaxing, a warning pop-up appeared from the system. The lake contains bilaterally symmetric aquatic animals and 10-legged crustaceans. Grimacing, Leon requested, "Can you explain that in simpler terms?" The system didn't give him a hard time and explained, "There are plenty of edible fish and crustaceans. If you try fishing, you can catch anything from common, high-end to rare grades." Without hesitation, he asked, "How many rare-grade fish are there?" The system replied, "Only one." At the same time, the system announced that the lake fishing feature had been unlocked thanks to the owner's authority. Startled, Leon blurted out, "Even if I hook one, I don't even have a fishing rod right now." "Oh wait, I have that." The fishing float bobbed up and down on the crystal-clear water, accompanied by his humming. Sitting by the lake's edge with his fishing rod, Leon cheered to himself, "Good thing I got fishing gear from the shilling shop, even though it cost me a fair bit. I thought I'd have to eat the bait if worst came to worst, but I actually managed to catch a few fish." Whistling casually, he chuckled with excitement, "Looks like I won't starve to death." Suddenly, the fishing float jerked violently, startling Leon into a shout. Sweating lightly, he stated with certainty, "This one's totally different from the ones I caught earlier." The fishing line pulled taut. Witnessing this, Leon gasped in awe, "This thing is strong. Could it be a big fish?" Grasping the fishing rod tightly with both hands, he tried to stay calm and reminded himself, "Easy now, don't rush." The head of a purple fish broke the surface of the water. Grunting, Leon shouted, "Come on up." Jerking the fishing rod hard, he yelled in excitement, "Gotcha!" Right at that moment, the system notified him that he had caught a labyrinth carp. Simultaneously, the system pop-up appeared, "You have caught a labyrinth carp." The introduction window for the species popped up immediately. No fine bones, no muddy smell, exceptional flavor. Gazing at the labyrinth carp before him, he exclaimed with delight, "It's huge." Finishing his thought, Leon looked at his sturdy hands and remarked with a relaxed spirit, reeling that in felt amazing. No wonder everyone loves fishing. Seeing his enlightened expression, the system cheerfully announced, "You have awakened a new talent, fishing. Proficiency has reached level 1. Tucking the labyrinth carp into his basket, Leon said enthusiastically, "Awesome, tonight's dinner is gonna be this carp. A nutritious labyrinth carp is exactly what this frail body needs." With that, he stood up, carried it past a field of blooming flowers and lush green grass, and wondered, should I set up a cooking spot first? Slowly, the necessary items materialized one by one: tables, chairs, a pan, and other household tools. Leon nimbly placed the labyrinth carp on the table, his eyes and hands focused on the system screen to select items. "I put this away earlier because I was worried Rixel might catch a cold in the forest, but looks like I can use it for something else now. I'll grab the alchemy set too." Glancing through the screen hesitatingly, Leon suddenly gasped in surprise, "Huh, what's this?" The system quickly explained, "Those are magic fire flints to help start fires easily." Breathing a sigh of relief, he remembered, bonus gifts. Thanks to these, I can start a fire with zero trouble." Tapping to select it, the flint immediately sparked a small flame. Standing before the blazing fire, he put his hands on his hips and sighed, "Having a fire instantly makes this place cozier. It gives me a weird sense of relief." Turning back toward the table, Leon adjusted his sleeves and muttered, "All right, time to prep the carp." Carefully gliding his blade across the fish's body, he praised, "When eating outdoors, nothing beats open fire grilling." The entrails of the labyrinth carp were neatly removed by Leon. At the same time, the system description popped up. Internal organs cannot be used as food and can be utilized for alchemy. Surprised and intrigued, he muttered, "Can be used for alchemy." Picking up the innards decisively, he said to himself, "Guess I gotta toss these into the alchemy pot." Wiping his hands clean, he looked brightly at the boiling pot beside him and wondered, is it because of the alchemy ingredients? It started heating up all on its own the moment I dropped them in. So convenient. Prepping and imagining delicious meals, Leon salivated. Skewered dishes are truly magical. It feels like anything put on a skewer just tastes better, or is it just me? Looking at the fresh skewers on the table, Leon pondered, fish skewers gotta be skewered head facing down. Pointing the head downward lets all the fat drain out. Picturing the labyrinth carp entering his stomach, he continued dreaming, while the juices are locked inside, making the outside crispy and the inside juicy. Following that rule, Leon skewered the fish alongside vegetable skewers and cheered, Awesome. The primitive-style grilled labyrinth carp is ready. Suddenly standing up, he glanced at the neatly stacked items under a tree and hesitated. While waiting for the fish to cook, should I set up a sleeping area? Acting on the thought, Leon quickly gathered some small stones, muttering, a bit tedious but excitedly setting up his bed, he encouraged himself. Who knows when I'll ever get to experience something like this again? If you want to enjoy romance, you gotta put in a little effort. Finishing up, Leon admired his handiwork with satisfaction. Not bad at all. Right then, a rich aroma wafted through the air, making him spin around to exclaim, talk about good timing. Leon peacefully sat down in his own chair. His eyes lit up as he stared longingly at the skewer in his hand. Simultaneously, the system reminded him, grilled labyrinth carp provides a low fullness satiety rate. But what caught Leon's attention was the final line, note, cannot be taken out of the labyrinth. Staring with wide eyes and an open mouth, he muttered to himself, this is the first time I've ever seen a warning like this. Does that mean this is just labyrinth-exclusive gourmet food? Shrugging it off, he raised the fragrant fish to his mouth and smiled. Whatever, bon appetit. Concentrating on eating while observing, he praised, the outer scales must be from the fat being roasted to a golden, crunchy crisp like deep-fried food, and the meat inside revealed through the slit belly is impossibly tender. Finally, Leon looked at the grilled labyrinth carp with contentment. Above all, that distinct charred aroma of grilled fish is a total stimulant for the appetite. Moved with watery eyes, Leon savored the moment. This flavor makes me crave a hot bowl of white rice with kimchi right now. Obediently enjoying earthly flavors like a happy cat, he noted, I heard carp usually has a heavy muddy smell, but the labyrinth carp has almost no odor and hardly any fine bones. Absolutely delicious. This flavor makes me want to share it with someone else. Suddenly, a pop-up startled him. What? My maximum mana increased. Staring at the magic circle expanding before his eyes, he couldn't quite believe it. No way. A gorgeous blue glow emanated from the magic circle, prompting him to wonder, did my mana pool actually increase just from eating? Frowning in shock, he realized, if mages found out about this, they'd probably wipe out all the fish in this lake. I wonder if it works for Rixel too. I definitely gotta let him try some later. Glancing suspiciously at the strange pot, Leon stood up, peeked inside, and said, let's see. A pink gemstone emerged from it, making Leon widen his eyes in bewilderment. What is this? The system announced, that is the labyrinth carp essence, capable of restoring mana. Holding the essence in his hand, he inspected it closely with a dazed expression. First time something like this popped up in my zone. Could it be some crazy effect? Pausing for a second, Leon calmed down and quickly broke into a sly smile. Tapping the system screen immediately, he said, this is getting too interesting. Besides, with all that went down, I still haven't had time to pay attention to alchemy, have I? He mused, better stow it away for now. Looking at the system display, Leon grinned to himself. I've been picking every herb I found lately, so I've got a ton now. In the distance, 2 little mushrooms were sprouting up, prompting him to comment, plus, the labyrinth is full of ingredients, mana is overflowing everywhere, and nobody is bothering me. Thinking about it, Leon smiled gently, scanning his surroundings as he spoke. Come to think of it, this place. Standing amidst a dreamy landscape of blooming flowers and vast green grass, he stated with certainty, isn't this basically a custom power-leveling hunting ground made just for me? A greedy expression bloomed on Leon's face as he licked his lips and rubbed his hands together with fascination. Good, very good. Looks like the end of this labyrinth has way more to mine than I thought. In the quiet night sky, shooting stars drifted past quietly, creating a breathtaking yet peaceful scenery. Remembering something, Leon muttered to himself, first off, I gotta finish eating this grilled fish. Dawn began to break, marking another day of survival in the labyrinth for Leon. Each day passed by with uncanny peace. Today, Leon continued his leveling journey with labyrinth crayfish boasting an exquisite sweet taste that delighted him. Caught 3 of these today. Raising them up with starry, excited eyes, he muttered, am I actually getting lucky? Tending them ashore for the system to store, Leon suddenly wondered, I still have flour left over from making cookies before. Should I make labyrinth crayfish soup? Walking barefoot peacefully, he stepped across the cool green grass, feeling a sense of harmony. I'm starting to get used to life in this labyrinth. Strolling along, Leon reflected, every morning when I wake up, I harvest the fish traps I set the day before, then check if the crops near the edge of the forest are growing well. Looking at the small tubers in the dirt, Leon praised, the sweet potatoes and bananas are growing great. Squatting down with a shovel, he said, all right. Today, he could leisurely harvest other things, obsessively gathering items from labyrinth chili peppers to labyrinth baby mushrooms and labyrinth garland chrysanthemums. Holding the chrysanthemum in his hand, he said enthusiastically, first time seeing a garland chrysanthemum here, it's gorgeous. Leon immediately widened his eyes in awe, thinking it would fit right in if he brought it back to place near the campsite. The system screen displayed a selling price of 300 shillings, leaving him astounded. What? This thing can be sold? Leon dazedly stared at the system description in front of him with skepticism. There's never been a notification like this before. Does the shilling shop double as a merchant stall now? Dazedly holding the bunch of garland chrysanthemums in his hand, he wondered, can I sell it right now? But the price on the screen dropped, making Leon anxiously knit his brows. What the hell? The selling price was 300 shillings just a moment ago. Why is it dropping now? Are you trying to haggle with me? Noticing that expression, the system instantly popped up a notification. The value has been calculated in real time. That made Leon scoff with disdain. Oh, is that so? Then he slowly raised a hand to his mouth, closing his eyes in thought. It seems I can only sell 1-star items right now, and the item description has to include the price. Does that mean if I want a fair price, I have to actively negotiate? Suddenly, large question marks popped up on the screen by themselves. Thinking this, Leon crept forward with a sly look and held out the bunch of garland chrysanthemums to persuade it. Look closely. If you dry these garland chrysanthemums and brew them into tea, it's great for your health. It's no exaggeration to say this is also an alchemy ingredient, plus anyone can brew it easily. Doesn't that make it more valuable? So I think it's worth more than the current price. Hearing that, the system seemed enlightened and began considering, makes sense, adjusting selling price. The new value quickly appeared as 280 shillings, leaving Leon dumbfounded. Gritting his teeth in anguish, he complained, I just provided you with brand new information and you only raised the price by a tiny bit while still charging a commission fee? Isn't that a bit too stingy? The system calmly displayed the text. Commission fees are mandatory according to the rules of the shilling shop. Seeing that, he sighed in disgust. Fine, since it's the rules, I suppose there's no arguing it. But then a gentle notification popped up. The shilling shop always listens to its customers' feedback. Following that, the system began proposing a new price of 300 shillings, while also offering yes and no options, making Leon think excitedly with a chuckle. Turns out it's not completely rigid after all. That means if I can negotiate, I can sell things at a higher price. Inwardly, he smiled slyly. If you lack knowledge, you'll get ripped off. But from now on, I can learn more. I'll definitely sell everything for the highest price possible. At the same time, on the outside, Leon wore a winning smile and said, agreed, I accept. The moment he finished speaking, the shilling shop instantly announced that the item had been sold for 300 shillings, while simultaneously coughing up a bag of money that he eagerly snatched up. Instant checkout, awesome. Right after that, Leon immediately looked at the system and pressed, can I sell processed items? The shilling shop quickly affirmed, yes. However, there are currently no items in your inventory that can be sold. It issued a further warning, fake or defective items cannot be sold. Hearing that, Leon put his hands on his hips and questioned further, so you mean if I want to sell, I have to prepare a new dish and make it the right way, right? Understood. The shop gradually faded away and Leon leisurely sighed in appreciation. Today has been a very productive day. Stretching his body comfortably, he said, I've gathered the ingredients from the forest, time to prepare something to eat. With that, Leon turned back and laid out all his acquired ingredients on the table, right as the system announced a recipe for a spicy, aromatic dish. Ignoring it, Leon excitedly picked up a red ingredient and admired it. Turns out this is chili pepper, and whole peppercorns at that. This is amazing. Finishing his thought, Leon tossed the gathered ingredients into the pot one by one while remarking, all right, first I'll put the meat and the spicy fruit into boiling water, then add the cleaned crayfish heads and legs to make the broth. Meanwhile, he nimbly prepared other things, speaking as he worked. Once the flour has been mixed with water into a pliable dough to my liking, I slam it hard against the table to increase its elasticity, then let the dough rest for a bit. In the meantime, I prepare the tender mushrooms and boil them thoroughly. Leon thoroughly enjoyed the whole process as he worked, slowly dropping the crayfish bodies in while muttering to himself, then add the crayfish bodies. And just like that, it becomes an unbelievably delicious seafood soup. Stirring evenly with his hand, Leon smacked his lips in eager anticipation. Smells amazing. Next, pinching off pieces of dough, he instructed, now that the broth has fully absorbed the flavors, I take the rested dough, tear it into thin pieces, and drop them in. Following that, he gently lifted a handful of small leaves and said excitedly, finally, add a large handful of labyrinth garland chrysanthemums and boil it for a little longer. A pot bursting with vibrant colors and rich aromas appeared before his eyes. Leon cheered excitedly, done, dig in. The broth carried a deep, rich seafood flavor that blended to perfection. He scooped some up with a spoon, brought it to his mouth, and said, let's try the broth first. Afterward, Leon couldn't stop praising it. This broth is unimaginably good. The piping hot broth washes away that greasy feeling instantly. Suddenly, he thought of a special dish. What about the sujibai? Leon visualized the entire process, each element harmonizing like a symphony. The dough pieces, varying in thickness, provided a unique texture when eaten, while the mushrooms and garland chrysanthemums mixed into every bite to create a delightful contrast. The sweet, fragrant flavor of the vegetables blended with the broth to create a whole new layer of taste. Thinking of this, Leon immediately exclaimed, "These familiar flavors are dangerously delicious." Afterwards, he scooped up another piece of meat and said, "Let's see, time to taste the crayfish meat." The moment he put it in his mouth, Leon felt his taste buds explode, his mind floating away as he endlessly praised it. "It's so sweet. The texture is firm and springy, just like blue crab." But the meat tasted sweet and carried the distinct flavor of blue crab. Realizing this, Leon immediately deduced, no wonder the broth was so good. It turns out it was thanks to the blue crab. Then he continued using his spoon to scoop up the next bite. A piece of crayfish, a piece of sujibai, followed by a sip of broth. Leon opened his mouth wide and savored this earthly delicacy, transforming into a food critic. "Whenever it starts feeling a bit heavy, I just take a bite of garland chrysanthemums to cleanse the palate. This combination makes it so I can eat endlessly." Finally, the pot was scraped completely clean. Leon leaned back comfortably and let out a sigh, unable to help marveling. That was truly too good. "I've loaded up on a huge amount of sugar." Then he leisurely lay down under the shade of a tree to rest after a fruitful harvest. Suddenly snapping back to attention, Leon mentally scolded himself, "No sleeping. Get up, I need to gather firewood before the sun sets." Looking around, he mused, "I think I see a suitable tree around here." Afterwards, Leon stood with his arms crossed in front of a tree, critically appraising it. This tree looks decent." The system introduced it, a tree with few branches, soft and fragrant wood while also possessing waterproof properties. After a brief inspection, Leon decided to purchase tools. "I'll try crafting a few tools. If I make something of good quality, I'll sell it at the shilling shop." Holding the tools in his hand, he cheered triumphantly, "I've saved up shillings for today." Then Leon excitedly picked up the axe and said, "Basic woodworking kit for beginners, prepared by a master woodworker for novices. Does not include high-end tools but still sufficient for use." The system instructed him to chop the red-marked tree trunk in a V-shape. Hearing that, Leon nimbly swung his arms. In no time at all, he managed to chop the tree trunk down. Leon cheered comfortably, "Done." At the same time, the system notified him of the collection of labyrinth wood ranging in size from small to large. Leon wiped his sweat away, his eyes sparkling with delight. Even just a small tree yields a ton of materials. He hesitated and calculated, "If I saw the rest up and bring it back." Before Leon could finish his sentence, he abruptly noticed something in puzzlement. Vaguely observing closely, Leon asked, "What is that? Is there something over there?" He stepped forward with his bare feet. Leon froze in disbelief before the small cabin and muttered skeptically, "Good grief, there's a shack in a place like this." Curiously peering through the window, he remarked, "At a glance, it looks totally normal." Leon hesitated doubtfully, "Can I actually use this? Inside, there's only some furniture and a bed." Seeing his hesitation, the system instantly popped up a notification. "Thanks to the Labyrinth Master's authority, you are permitted to use this cabin." Leon brightened up and cheered, "Well, it's still way better than having to sleep outdoors for a whole month." Leon suddenly froze in suspicion. "Wait." He questioned the system, "Can I move this shack over to my main campsite?" The system confirmed that he could. Leon smiled triumphantly and cheered, "Awesome. That's going to make surviving in the labyrinth for the next month way easier." The system asked a question, "Would you like to execute this right now?" Agility leaping into action, Leon bolted outside and replied, "No, wait a second." He sprinted over to his usual spot while thinking to himself, "Since I've got a proper house, I need to craft a few more tools. I gotta clear out space at the main camp first to place the cabin down." With his usual agility, Leon finished clearing the space in no time at all. Leisurely putting his hands on his hips, he gestured and instructed, "All right, place it here." The system announced that installing the cabin would take a little time and cause a loud noise. Leon hesitated momentarily. But then he stroked his chin and wondered, how is it even gonna move? Since it's a labyrinth, it'll probably use magic to summon it. From up above, a massive shadow suddenly appeared, leaving Leon dumbfounded. He looked up, his face filled with panic dread. "Don't tell me." Right as he finished speaking, that cabin was dropped heavily onto the ground, shaking everything around violently. Simultaneously, the system announced, "Cabin installation complete." Leon stared in shock at the hovering house. He had never imagined moving an entire house by making it fly, and the experience genuinely terrified him. But then he quickly broke into a smile. After a week of living inside the labyrinth, he finally had a house to call his own. He looked around the newly completed wooden house with satisfaction. Everything had been organized and sorted out while the sky was still bright. That meant he would have plenty of time to craft essential items before nightfall. He immediately set to work making wooden balls and wooden toothpicks. The system notified him that he had crafted ugly wooden toothpicks. They were made so poorly that they were very difficult to use, and perhaps using them as firewood would be more sensible. The system also displayed the ugly wooden bowl. It looked terrible, though at least it didn't leak water. The system repeatedly emphasized just how ugly it was. Leon felt embarrassed by the relentless criticism. Even so, he accepted the reality that no one becomes an expert on their very first try and decided to keep pushing forward. He continued crafting wooden bowls, cups, chopsticks, and other wooden utensils. The system announced that his ingenuity in rapidly crafting various types of items had awakened a new talent. You have unlocked the woodworking talent. A congratulatory message appeared. Your woodworking talent has reached apprentice level 1. Leon happily realized this was more than enough to help him survive while inside the labyrinth. Afterwards, the system informed him that items reaching 1 star and above could now be sold. It explained that regardless of usefulness, Schilling's shop would buy anything as long as it looked aesthetically pleasing. Leon wondered whether the shop would buy the items he was about to make. He proceeded to craft a flower pot out of labyrinth wood. The system described it as a flower pot made from labyrinth wood. It was crafted with high precision, though the system doubted whether it could actually be used as a flower pot. The initial estimated selling price started at 1,000 shillings. Excitedly, Leon decided to test his negotiation skills by selling it. The system brought up the trade window. It asked if he wanted to sell the 1-star labyrinth wood flower pot. The initial proposed price was 800 shillings, excluding the commission fee. Leon was shocked at such a low price. He asserted that the flower pot looked gorgeous and was crafted with extreme precision. The system acknowledged that it was well crafted, but explained that it held no special value and belonged to the lowest 1-star tier. The proposed price dropped further to 650 shillings, excluding the commission fee. Leon objected even more fiercely. He explained that this flower pot wasn't made from ordinary wood. It was crafted from labyrinth wood, a rare material that only grew inside the labyrinth. He argued that its rarity alone was enough to sharply increase its value. He continued to emphasize the greatest advantage of labyrinth wood. This type of wood was completely waterproof, while its hardness provided exceptional durability. He maintained that the flower pot was both beautiful and highly practical, declaring it a top-quality product that could sell well on its own. The system began recalculating the price. It announced that the price had been adjusted according to the new conditions. The proposed price rose to 1,500 shillings. Leon smiled with satisfaction as this new figure even exceeded his expectations. He immediately agreed to the transaction. The system confirmed the item had been sold for 1,500 shillings. The flower pot vanished and he received 1,500 shillings. Leon then asked if he could continuously sell the exact same item over and over. The system confirmed that he could, though it warned that if supply exceeded demand, the selling price would gradually drop. Leon concluded that producing a variety of different items would ultimately be more profitable, since he would naturally craft many useful gadgets anyway while continuing to accumulate valuable experience. He firmly believed that at this rate, reaching the expert level was only a matter of time. 3 weeks passed as Leon continued leveling up his various production skills. During a fishing session, he caught a labyrinth white cod. The system explained that this rare cod species only lived inside the labyrinth, its body resembling freshly fallen snow while its eyes shone like moonstones. This fish could hold considerable value. The system subsequently announced that Leon had completed the achievement of catching 10 different high-quality fish. He received the title Path of the Master Angler, along with 3,000 shillings, and his fishing proficiency increased to apprentice level 3. A congratulatory message popped up. The system also warned that his fishing rod had exceeded 95% wear and needed repairs. Leon breathed a sigh of relief knowing he had caught the fish when the rod was down to just 5% durability, and happily declared that all final preparations were complete. He knew there was an essential requirement to upgrade from apprentice to expert. Aside from the defining talent needed to become an expert, at least 5 talents had to reach apprentice level 3. The system displayed his current talent levels: potion crafting at apprentice level 9, fishing at apprentice level 3, gathering at apprentice level 7, cooking at apprentice level 6, tailoring at apprentice level 4, woodworking at apprentice level 3. Leon realized that leveling up fishing had fulfilled the final condition. Even so, he acknowledged that raising production talents demanded a massive amount of effort. When gutting the cod, a crystal suddenly fell out from inside its belly. Leon was astonished by this unexpected discovery. The system identified the item as a labyrinth cod eye. Though harvested from a fish, it was considered a genuine gemstone, with its greatest trait being an extremely high capacity for conducting magic despite not being a magic stone. The recipe associated with it required expert level 1 to unlock, and its selling price was 10,000 shillings. Leon was floored by its astonishing value. Though he wanted to sell it immediately, he hesitated. He realized unlocking its recipe required the expert level, just like the requirement for fish essence. The system confirmed he had to reach expert level 1 to view the recipe. Convinced this was an item he would need later on, Leon decided against selling it. He believed the recipe would become available soon enough. Right then, the system notified him that he had obtained the labyrinth cod essence. His specialized potion crafting talent had reached its limit. A congratulatory message appeared. Thanks to your innate talent and relentless hard work, you have achieved astonishing leaps in development within a short time. Your potion crafting talent has evolved into alchemy. His alchemy level instantly surged to expert level 1. The system announced that multiple new recipes had been unlocked. Leon was amazed by the sheer abundance of recipes. He immediately realized this level up felt completely different from previous ones. Instead of reading, the knowledge flowed straight into his mind. Many of the new recipes had nothing to do with ordinary potions, and some even included anti-curse techniques. He grew even more excited about leveling up. The system announced that the transfer of new recipes had concluded. Leon was surprised by how fast everything happened, realizing that the apprentice tier only granted knowledge regarding potions, whereas the expert tier provided comprehensive knowledge covering the entire field of alchemy. Satisfied, he decided to review the recipes, also wanting to explore what the fish essence could actually be used for, and searched for fish essence. The system displayed its description: fish essence must be swallowed whole. It produces an extremely strong fishy odor that may cause discomfort to sensitive individuals. Categorized under alchemy, Leon realized it could be consumed directly without processing and checked whether any recipes utilized it. The system confirmed there were locked recipes. The required ingredients included 5 special fish essences and 2 fish eyes. The system informed him he was currently missing 1 fish eye, while also warning that the crafting success rate would be very low. Leon breathed a sigh of relief that he hadn't sold the fish eye earlier, before realizing an even more alarming fact. The recipe required 5 fish essences, while the fish eye he had just obtained was the only one he possessed. That meant he had only a single chance. Despite worrying over the lack of backup materials, he felt excitement welling up inside him. To him, alchemy was the most fascinating profession. The thrill of fishing and the satisfaction of hard labor were both wonderful experiences, but nothing compared to the explosive rush of excitement whenever a special result materialized. Leon laughed with confident pride, believing that worrying over failure was strictly for beginners. The lower the success rate, the greater the satisfaction upon succeeding. When the mixture began boiling furiously in the bowl, the reaction suddenly turned abnormally violent, and Leon immediately realized something was off. The system announced he had acquired heat resistance thanks to the blessing of the fire spirit, while he firmly held the bowl lid in place. He knew that if the lid accidentally popped off, the entire process would fail since he only had 1 shot. Failure was not an option. Enduring the violent reaction, the crafting process finally succeeded. The system announced the creation of Alchemist's Fish Pill 2-star. Described as a pill created for the first time by an alchemist master holding considerable value. When used, it permanently increases a certain amount of mana. It smells like shrimp, but if you chew it or let it touch your mouth, it releases an unpleasant fishy odor, so it must be swallowed whole. Selling price 15,000 shillings. Categorized under fish. Recipe is now viewable. Leon looked at the finished fish pill. Despite the dramatic crafting process, he felt slightly disappointed that it only reached 2 stars. However, considering the low-quality materials he used, he accepted that avoiding failure was already a good result. Afterwards, he wondered what this item was actually used for, and the system revealed that a specific kind of fish would be attracted to it. Realizing its true utility, Leon attached the fish pill to his hook and began casting once more. Realizing this, he attached the piece of fish to the hook and cast his line once more. Raphael stared at the bait in his hand, finally figuring out why he had been fishing like crazy for all this time without seeing a single trace of a 3-star fish, realizing it wasn't because of his old rod or low level. If he used this to catch something rare and bargained with it, he could easily make a neat 20,000 shillings or so, he thought with a calculating smile. Raphael started plotting an upward progression in his head. Catch rare fish to make better bait and just march straight toward legendary status from there, feeling excited just thinking about it. But then he shook his head and told himself that money wasn't the issue right now, and eating it just for a little mana would be way too wasteful, so it was best not to sell it. His original goal wasn't about money or mana anyway, and since he was leaving soon, Raphael decided to go all out for one last time as he stepped down to the water's edge in his bare feet. He carefully hooked the specially crafted bait onto the hook, which represented all his accumulated capital after a month of hardcore grinding. A decisive cast tore right through the tranquil water surface, and Raphael stood firm, taking a deep breath to mentally prepare for his final relaxing session in the labyrinth. Meanwhile, back at the majestic Asteria mansion, the head of the family was sitting in deep thought at his desk, while Sylvia informed him that there were only 2 days left until the deadline set by the young master. The old grandfather could only sigh and admit he already knew, his face clearly showing worry while he tried to maintain the calm composure of a head of the household. He confessed that he normally couldn't bear to watch such things, but thanks to Rixel, the situation had gotten a bit less terrible, or rather, he was trying to handle it like an adult. He recalled back to the time when that child received a marriage proposal, when he completely lost his temper and demanded to grab his cane to settle scores with the crown prince for daring to target his granddaughter without knowing his own place. Sylvia smiled faintly, suggesting that if he was this worried, he should prepare thoroughly to welcome Raphael back, looking at her master with an understanding gaze. Hearing that, the family head took notice and asked if she had any good ideas, his expression losing some of its harshness. The maid suggested booking a full package at the newly upgraded luxury Esther Hotel, and upon hearing this, both nodded in agreement, feeling they had found the optimal way to compensate the young master after a month in the labyrinth. Sylvia promised to go prepare immediately and turned to walk away, leaving the head of the household still deep in his own calculations. The story about the labyrinth's collapse made the atmosphere suddenly grow heavy, and Sylvia looked toward the towering bookshelves with a heart full of thoughts. The family head turned to comfort her, telling her not to worry too much, as he seemed to understand the loyal maid's inner feelings. Sylvia smiled lightly, saying that even though the path to freedom had vanished with the labyrinth's collapse, she had been feeling so happy lately that she didn't care much about it anymore. Raphael's grandfather started to say something but stopped himself. He shook his head, his expression turning more serious as his thoughts shifted to something else. He admitted that Leon was indeed his grandson, but that kid specialized in causing earth-shattering troubles, with the image of Raphael smiling brightly amidst a pile of herbs flashing in his mind as proof. He had a hunch that over the past month, Raphael had definitely turned that labyrinth upside down, and this worry turned out to be completely spot on. He even suspected that his grandson might bring that thing back from deep inside the labyrinth, as an ancient contract floated around in his mind. Returning to reality, the sun had begun to set, dyeing the entire sky red, while Raphael patiently sat by the campfire with his fishing rod, waiting. With his worn-out rod and a single piece of bait, he figured he looked like a complete amateur if any expert saw this, as the sunset reflected brilliantly across the lake's surface. He told himself that the beauty of fishing lay in accepting the loss of bait and waiting patiently to finally catch that single fish, staring intently at the water full of hope. But the truth was that hours had passed without a single bite, making Raphael start to feel discouraged as the lake looked more like a dead body of water. Not a single fish surfaced, and this eerie silence made him feel uneasy, almost as if the lake water had frozen over. Suddenly, the water's surface bubbled, startling Raphael as his instincts told him a massive predator was lurking right beneath, prompting an exclamation of surprise. The float was yanked down forcefully, and it bit. Raphael focused all his attention, gripping the violently shaking fishing rod tightly. The power surging from below overwhelmed him, and he felt the sheer ferocity of the fish through every muscle fiber as his fierce confidence soared. The water's surface exploded as the fish fought back violently, creating large ripples, and Raphael immediately identified it. This was the 3-star rare catch he had been waiting for. He had to strain every muscle to hold onto the rod, as the terrifying pull almost dragged him straight into the lake, leaving him to grit his teeth and endure. A massive fish tail whipped violently against the water, kicking up white foam, and Raphael widened his eyes in shock at the sheer bulk of this monster, never expecting it to be this huge. If he let it drag him around like this, the fishing line would definitely snap, so he knew he only had one single chance to turn the tables, focusing with intense concentration. His hands turned bright red from friction, but he refused to let go, as this was the decisive moment of a whole month of grinding, muttering to himself, and that is. With one massive yank, Raphael hoisted the fish out of the water, a brilliant aura radiating from his prize amidst the young man's determined shout. The sound of the fishing rod snapping cracked through the air, its durability completely depleted after that lethal blow, leaving Raphael standing blankly at the debris left in his hands. The system announced that the fishing rod was completely destroyed, but the image of the fish reflected in his eyes was what mattered most right now, bringing a smile to his lips. The system congratulated him on catching a 3-star labyrinth rainbow sturgeon, an ultra-rare species with topaz sparkling eyes and immeasurable value. Raphael couldn't believe his eyes, hugging the massive fish thrashing on the grass and boasting proudly, "Did I really catch something this insane?" The surge of excitement made him want to take a snapshot for the ages right away, leaving him fumbling awkwardly with clumsy limbs around the fish. But then he slapped himself across the face to regain his composure, reminding himself, "Snap out of it, now's not the time for that," and prepared for the next harvesting step. Once you catch a fish, you gotta process it while it's fresh, so Raphael hoisted the huge fish toward his cabin, muttering to himself to hurry up. The sound of the knife slicing through was music to his ears, and as he gutted the fish with growing excitement, he praised how razor-sharp today's blade was, netting him a massive stash of 3-star sturgeon essence, making it a bountiful harvest. And there it was, his most precious loot, a 3-star rainbow sturgeon eye. He lifted the gemstone-like glowing orb high, grinning from ear to ear for finally bagging the good stuff. Wasting no time, he jumped straight into the alchemy phase, dropping the fish eye into the magic cauldron with high expectations for the outcome. But high-tier ingredients naturally required a wilder reaction, as the cauldron shook way harder than it did when making bait, making Raphael break out in a sweat from the heat. Thanks to the blessing of the fire spirit he had just received, his heat resistance skyrocketed, allowing him to keep his hands steady against the boiling cauldron. He gritted his teeth in focus, telling himself all that grueling effort to catch the fish meant he absolutely could not fail at the very final step. Night fell and gradually faded under the moonlight, and Raphael stayed up all night keeping watch over this crucial batch of medicine. The next morning, as the dawn light pierced through the window, he wearily let go, his arms feeling as sore as if they were about to detach after a night of continuous mana channeling. He slumped down beside the magic cauldron with dark circles under his eyes from sleep deprivation, unable to believe he had stayed awake all night just waiting for the mixture to cool down. Seeing everything stabilized, Raphael dragged himself up, his hands shaking as he reached for the lid, facing the most nerve-wracking moment after a whole month. The moment he opened the lid, a blinding beam of light shot straight up to the ceiling, and he squinted inside with a hopeful expression. Appearing before him was a top-tier 4-star rainbow elixir, accompanied by a system notification that his alchemy skill had leveled up to Master Level 2, a genuine leap forward. Holding the sparkling elixir in his hand, Raphael burst with joy, finally pulling off the impossible using only self-gathered materials. Reading the item description, he was even more shocked to learn it permanently granted a massive amount of pure mana, as its effects alone sounded mouth-watering. Without a single second of hesitation, he popped the elixir right into his mouth, muttering, "Only a fool wouldn't eat this," as he chewed up his loot ravenously. Instantly, an explosion of energy erupted inside his body, and he felt mana swirling and surging, enveloping him like a brilliant blue flame. He closed his eyes tightly, focusing his entire mind on guiding this massive torrent of energy, knowing this was the critical moment to fully absorb the medicinal power. Mana began to gather beneath his feet, forming complex magic circles as he poured all his effort into stuffing them into his central mana core. The system kept spamming notifications. "The first mana circle has been filled. Congratulations on mastering the first circle and gaining 3 basic spells, marking an unbelievable breakthrough in power." Raphael stared blankly at his hands, feeling this light and energized sensation was just too surreal, still unable to believe he had become a true mage. He screamed in triumph, clenching his fists in excitement, going from someone with 0 mana to officially possessing his first magic circle. It was totally insane. Right then, the system chimed again. "Labyrinth restoration is complete, and you are free to leave whenever you want," bringing a continuous wave of good news. Raphael felt like crying tears of joy upon seeing his name listed as the current master of the labyrinth, realizing all his month-long efforts and perseverance had finally paid off. Wiping away his tears, he quickly packed his gear into his bag, singing while he packed, thrilled to finally head back home after this stormy trip. He turned to take one last look at the wooden cabin he had built with his own hands, which looked peacefully surreal under the morning sun, completely different from its scary vibe when he first arrived. He was glad the labyrinth would preserve the current state of this cabin so he had a place to return to later, proving his carpentry skills and shillings spent on decor weren't wasted after all. He skipped along while cheering and celebrating the successful completion of the Survive in the Labyrinth for a Month challenge, marking a journey full of dopamine and surprises. Suddenly, the system popped up with another notice. During restoration, an unowned item was found and needs the master's confirmation. Raphael froze, curious about what it could be, wondering if it was another secret hero treasure, making his eyes light up at the thought, "Let's see." The item slowly materialized in the shimmering light, but it looked nothing like a treasure at all, leaving him disappointed when he realized it was just an old scroll. He picked up the scroll with a puzzled look, as it clearly wasn't equipment or a potion, but just some forgotten document. After reading just a few lines, his expression shifted, muttering with a suspicious tone, "A contract," upon seeing the strange clauses inside. The more he read, the more wrong it felt, narrowing his eyes with a dead serious expression as he dug deeper into the contents of the scroll. The contract clearly stated, "Witches are not allowed to use magic beyond the specified limit, must alter their appearance according to the master's lifespan, and must serve with absolute loyalty as a maid to the Asteria family, with severe penalties for violation." Raphael suffered massive psychic damage, screaming out, "Isn't this a blatant labor law violation?" unable to believe his Asteria family was such a ruthless, sweatshop-like exploiter of labor. Looking closely at the signature at the bottom, he was thunderstruck to find out the owner of this contract was none other than Sylvia, his close maid, who was actually a witch bound by these absurd terms. He wondered why a powerful witch like Sylvia would accept such an unfair and slave-like contract, leaving him filled with profound anger and sympathy. And then he read the very last line. All of this was just in exchange for a single chance. The chance to live as a human inside the Asteria mansion, leaving Raphael struck dumb by this harsh reality. There wasn't any detailed information. Even if this world treats witches like monsters, this is still way too harsh. He tucked the contract into his briefcase and kept walking, Let's just head back first and figure things out when he gets there. Leon stepped through the portal and returned to the entrance of the library. Living in the labyrinth wasn't even all that bad. But still, nothing beats home. He stepped into the teleportation circle and exited to the outside. At the same time, everyone was gathered in full force at the mansion. Everyone's faces were filled with extreme tension as the head of the family turned back to command his bodyguard swordsman, Rickson. Is everything prepared? It is ready, Lord Head of the family. If young Master Lion doesn't return today by the designated deadline, the elite squad will immediately set out. That was Rickson, captain of the Asteria family's Knight Order, who surpassed both the Royal Divine Guard and the Church's Holy Knight Order. The head of the family turned to the remaining person and said, Hoffman. Yes, Lord Head of the family, just in case of the worst-case scenario, get ready to transfer Lion. Understood. Sylvia looked at the man before her and thought to herself. Hoffman, who under Patrick's orders had long served as Lion's personal doctor. As the head of the family's magic tower, his healing magic was undoubtedly the finest in the Empire. Moreover, Knight Captain Rickson was a master on the verge of reaching the threshold of a sword master, so he could guard against any unforeseen circumstances. She gazed toward the library door with a look full of anticipation, hoping they wouldn't actually have to use them. A moment later, the library door slowly swung open. The door is open, everyone take your positions. A blinding pillar of light descended before everyone, forcing them to shield their eyes. What is this? Right as he stepped out of the library, Leon let out a sigh of relief. Phew, finally out. He looked around with genuine curiosity. Why is everyone gathered here? There was no need for such a huge welcome party. Before he could finish his sentence, the head of the family rushed over and pulled Lion into a tight embrace. Leon then asked Sylvia if it had taken him too long to get back, and she reassured him that he had arrived right on time. Leon smiled and tried to reassure his grandfather that there was nothing to worry about. The old man awkwardly denied being worried, explaining that he was just checking up on his grandson. The head of the family then ordered Hoffman to thoroughly examine Lion, while Hoffman silently wondered why he was asked to check Lion again when the head of the family had already checked him personally. Rixel, Lion's younger brother, also approached and asked if he was truly alright since the head of the family had been extremely worried. Leon reassured Rixel that he was completely fine and reminded him that grandfather had already checked his condition. Rixel pointed out that despite saying he was fine, Leon's face looked completely haggard, wondering if he hadn't been eating properly. Rixel explained he had been worried because Lion seemed to lose weight every time they went out, and couldn't help imagining how much suffering Lion had endured inside the labyrinth, since otherwise his brother's complexion wouldn't look so lifeless. Calmly, Leon revealed that he had actually been eating like a pig and gained a full 5 kilograms, laughing as he thanked everyone for worrying about it. Leon then made another proposal, inviting them to visit the labyrinth with him someday and explaining that he had lived quite comfortably there. The head of the family and Rixel immediately shot down the idea, both making it abundantly clear that they would absolutely not go. The head of the family then ordered Hoffman to conduct a comprehensive health checkup on Lion. Leon recognized Hoffman as his doctor, and recalled how painfully Hoffman used to fix his mana circuits whenever they went haywire from mana shock. The experience felt almost like having his teeth scraped, which was probably why Lion always instinctively thought of running away whenever he saw Hoffman. Hoffman calmly told Lion to hold out his hand, and Lion obediently complied. Wanting to prove he was completely fine, Leon let Hoffman examine him without any resistance. Hoffman was surprised by Lion's unusual cooperation and wondered what on earth had happened to him. He recalled hearing that Lion had changed slightly around his coming-of-age ceremony, wondering if he had simply matured or if something else had caused the change. As Hoffman continued examining Lion, his expression suddenly turned shocked, causing everyone to worry. However, Hoffman revealed that Lion was actually healthier than ever before. The mana circuits he had previously fixed were now completely stable, and Lion was genuinely in a state of perfect health. Rixel grew suspicious and wondered if Hoffman was somehow tricking them, but Hoffman assured them there were no tricks involved. Leon found their worry amusing and realized they truly were family because they worried about him just like grandfather did, smiling as he reminded them he had said he was fine. The head of the family finally accepted the situation, saying that as long as Lion was healthy, that was what mattered most, praising Hoffman and Rickson for their work and dismissing them. Before leaving, Hoffman invited Lion to visit the tower someday for a more thorough checkup. Leon agreed, while Hoffman privately thought that Lion had truly grown up. After Hoffman and Rickson left, Lion, his grandfather, and Rixel went into their private room. Once inside, the head of the family ordered Rixel to activate soundproofing magic. With the room secured, Leon revealed the treasure he had discovered in the labyrinth. Both Rixel and the head of the family were shocked. The head of the family recognized that the treasure was connected to the mysterious individual once associated with the hero, temporarily instructing Lion to keep hold of it. He explained that when he originally received this treasure, no one told him what it was for, only that someone who truly truly needed it would eventually appear. Leon acknowledged this, realizing that what he had seen in story mode had actually happened in real life. The head of the family then warned Rixel that letting this information leak would only bring them trouble, ordering him to shut down any possibility of a leak. Rixel agreed and decided to concoct an excuse covering the entire month of his absence before leaving to handle it. Once Rixel was gone, Leon turned to his grandfather and hesitantly called him Grandpa, revealing that he had obtained something else besides the treasure. He had accidentally seen the contents of a contract which, according to Lion, was signed between a witch and the previous head of the family. Leon explained his suspicions regarding the witch mentioned therein, believing she was actually old lady Sylvia, before realizing that the current witch was undoubtedly Elvia, leaving the head of the family shocked that Lion already knew the truth and demanding to know when he found out. Lion silently admitted he had known for a long time, seeing no reason to bring it up earlier, and simply told his grandfather he found out by chance. Leon then reminded him that when he had asked for a higher grade potion back then, he had genuinely thought his grandfather had found a new romance. Flustered, the head of the family quickly denied that was the reason and shifted to asking why Lion brought up the contract. Addressing him as the head of the family, Leon finally revealed his true intentions. Leon wanted to change the terms of the contract. Leon explained that he had now become the master of the labyrinth, and along with that, the contract now belonged to him. He deliberately avoided mentioning his grandfather and instead thought of Sylvia's plight. Sylvia was a witch, a half-human, half-demon capable of burning down an entire village with a single breath. To Marquis Patrick Asteria, she was a terrifying monster and a potential threat to the Asteria family and the entire empire, which made Lion realize this was likely why his grandfather couldn't help Sylvia no matter how much he personally wanted to. Even so, Leon believed the contract itself was the biggest reason, declaring that he wanted to take on both the rights and responsibilities regarding it. The head of the family understood that Lion realized he couldn't casually interfere in matters concerning his own aunt, and while Lion had found an official reason, the head of the family wasn't ready to yield so easily. He reminded Lion that even though he had become the master of the labyrinth, the contract strictly belonged to Sylvia and the previous head of the family. Leon acknowledged that he was also a member of the Asteria family, explaining that was why he could make this request, and reminded the head of the family that he had acquired the contract during his coming-of-age ceremony. According to Asteria family custom, anything acquired during one's coming-of-age ceremony permanently belongs to the person who secured it. The head of the family then asked if Lion was confident enough to take responsibility if anything happened, to which Leon confidently agreed. The head of the family understood that Leon was likely planning to speak with Sylvia and alter the contract, while Lion realized his grandfather seemed to be hiding something and pointed it out. The head of the family denied having anything to hide and simply told Lion to speak with Sylvia first before coming back to see him. Leon agreed, though he still felt something was being kept from him. Before leaving, Lion said that since everyone had worried about him so much, he was going to rest and laze around for a while, even promising not to step a foot outside his room, and the head of the family accepted his decision. After Leon left, he knew these events couldn't just be a coincidence. He didn't know the reason, but he was certain that from now on, a whole lot of trouble would center around Leon. 2 weeks later, Leon was happily lying in bed, enjoying the peaceful life he had missed so dearly, doing nothing except sleeping and having food served to him. Since Rixel had probably handled everything in the estate while he was away, Leon felt like things were going smoothly, with only one problem. Leon called for Elvia, but she didn't come. He was surprised since they hadn't seen each other since the night he returned. Leon was certain Elvia already knew he intended to modify the contract for the better, so he couldn't understand why she was avoiding him. After pondering it, Leon decided to go to the magic tower first, planning to cause enough trouble that Elvia would have no choice but to show up. When Leon arrived at the magic tower, he was awed by its countless floors. Every single brick was infused with protective mana, making it clear why the tower was the dream destination of every mage. Inside, Leon saw countless mages working under intense stress, looking almost like exhausted office workers. Leon wanted to get his business done and leave quickly. He had exactly 2 tasks to accomplish. First, he wanted everyone to understand that Rixel remained the rightful successor of the Asteria family. Second, he wanted to make it crystal clear to everyone that he was no longer sick. Leon believes that if he wanted everyone to take good care of their boy, offering bribes was probably the best method. He spotted a young mage and asked where Hoffman was. The mage pointed him to the floor where Hoffman was located. Leon thanked him and handed him a fatigue reduction potion, which the young mage gratefully accepted. While observing Lion, the mage noticed his purple eyes and realized he belonged to the Asteria family. Since Lion was looking for Hoffman, the mage quickly deduced that he must be Lord Lion Asteri. The moment the mage recognized him, the other mages grew excited and shocked, crowding around Lion and expressing surprise that someone from the Asteria family had come, while immediately asking about his health. An older mage grew so excited, he tried to leap down from the upper floor, but 2 younger mages quickly stopped him, while Leon calmly told the old man there was no need to rush. The mages continued showing care and excitement upon seeing Lion. Finally, Leon pulled out all the remaining red potions from his bag and handed them to the mages, telling everyone to drink one while continuing their work. A moment later, he finally entered Hoffman's room. The young mage bowed an apology. "I am truly sorry, my lord. I'm not usually someone who makes mistakes like this. Did I commit a grave offense? It's fine, it's nothing. Given this eye color, it was only a matter of time before people recognized me anyway, so this works out. Even so, please allow me to make it up to you somehow, if you will." "Well, in that case, it's been a really long time since I've been here, so I don't remember my way around very well. Do you think you could show me around the magic tower for a bit?" Leon toured the floors while distributing potions to everyone. "Good thing I prepared plenty of potions." After handing them out to everyone, he figured he had seen most places. "Lord Lion, the only place left is the top floor where Lord Hoffman is. I'll hold this large bag for you so you can lighten your load. Thanks." The two stepped into the elevator and headed up to the top floor. Whoa, an all-glass elevator. Are all the front walls made of glass now? This is dizzying. What are people who are afraid of heights supposed to do? Ha ha, pretty amazing, right? I've ridden it many times and still haven't gotten used to it. This is a vertical transport device equipped with both linkage and acceleration magic. They say making the front out of glass is so it feels like you're flying. How bizarre. Aha, but it gets you to the top floor in the blink of an eye. The apprentice mage hesitatingly spoke up. Lord Lion, to be honest, I've only entered Lord Hoffman's office a few times, so I'm shaking right now." Hearing that, Leon looked at him and pondered just how harsh the boss must be to stress the guy out this much. Con men use tricks to deceive consumers, let alone subordinate mages. Suddenly, the door stopped and opened. "Ah, we've arrived. Please follow me this way." The two walked up to a massive, colossal door. "This is Lord Hoffman's private office." "Then I will take my leave. Have a wonderful time. Thanks." Leon turned around, preparing to step inside. "All right, time to go in. Lord Lion has arrived. Come in." The moment he set foot inside, the sight before him thoroughly delighted Leon. Insane. All around were countless high-end, highly unusual tools, looking even fancier than a university hospital's general checkup center, and they were even custom-made specials. No wonder measuring his level accurately had failed before. Seeing the boy's surprised expression, Hoffman asked, "What is it, kid?" Memories of the past still haunted Lion's body. No matter how good the equipment was, his body instinctively remembered and loathed it, so he scratched his head and replied, "It's nothing, sir." "Well, first of all, how has your body been feeling lately?" "I haven't had any particular symptoms since back then, but I still wanted to drop by and get a checkup with you, Hoffman." Hearing that made him hard to believe. This kid used to only know how to cry, but he had truly grown up now. "We can talk about the details later. Let's do the checkup first." "Yes." Leon began strapping on the devices, quickly completing a general health check of his entire body. "All done. The test results will take about an hour, so bear with it and wait a bit. In the meantime, would it be all right if I look around a bit?" "Go ahead, just try not to break anything." "Yes, sir." Why did that sound like talking to a 5-year-old? Leon strolled around the room, gazing curiously at the magical instruments. This area must be for healing magic. What on earth is this spot? Suddenly, a nearby section caught his eye. It was an area dedicated to restoring lost potions. "I heard you've also started getting interested in crafting potions, right? There are project documents on that table over there. Feel free to look through them." "Thank you, sir." Well, since he got permission. The words appearing on the documents made him freeze in place. "Wait, the hero. Hold on, what is this?" The system data popping up beside it left Leon flustered. It stated that all the potions before him were fake immunities, knockoffs simulating a specific potion through effort and materials, which only worked once for disease treatment while losing 99.9% effectiveness on the second use. These were fake potions, just basic apprentice-crafted potions, yet they were knocking them off. Could these actually be circulating like this? Since it concerned the hero, acting like he knew about it would spell major trouble. There wasn't much he could do right now. Skipping meals made him hungry, so his brain wasn't firing on all cylinders. What should he do? Hoffman turned back to look at him and cheered happily. "Congratulations, Lion. There are no abnormalities whatsoever." "Really, sir?" "Yeah, to the point where even I find it hard to believe. How could you improve so much in such a short time? Could something have happened in the dungeon? We need to use more expensive equipment to check thoroughly." The loud protests of Lion's stomach forced him to stop. "All right, not right now. Can't let you starve for long just because of a checkup. We should probably continue chatting over a meal instead." He pressed the meal call button and excitedly introduced, "The food at the Magic Tower is amazing. People can only work hard if they eat well, right?" Leon smiled on the outside while thinking otherwise. Working people to death and not even feeding them made this a total sweatshop. A moment later, incredibly appetizing food was served on the table. "Enjoy your meals, thank you. Come on, Lion, try it out." "Yes, I'll dig in." He took a bite and was instantly impressed. "Wow, this is really good. You think so?" He cautiously broached the subject he had just discovered. Lord Hoffman has the potion in the next room, finished preparation for commercialization. You mean the hero's potion? That's right, it's nearly finalized. Why? Haha, surprised. This potion is a collaborative effort between the Grand Masters representing the alchemy industry in the Magic Tower and myself, crafted by the Tower Master himself. Hard to believe, right? Lions, you know it too. Healing through magic is lagging behind holy power lately. So once we have this potion, magic surpassing holy power is only a matter of time. That might be true, but if potions were commercialized like this, wouldn't the Magic Tower be running a scam? Leon raised a finger and reluctantly agreed. It's truly amazing. Have you tested it on living people yet? Of course, everyone who tried it saw outstanding results. Right? They definitely saw results. The potion was a fake, but it probably only worked the very first time they tried it. Mass production is scheduled to officially start in about a week. The words leaving his mouth made Leon jump in shock. A week. No, this is bad. At this rate, the Magic Tower would be no different from a scam den selling fake medicine. Meaning afterward, the Magic Tower scam den would be branded a fraud, swindling consumers. And Rixel would end up called the master of a fraud tower. How long until commercialization? If we run things parallel to that, a week is more than enough. He tapped his fingers continuously on the table in anxiety. Oh, this is really bad. Right now, he couldn't think of a way to stop it. If he came forward directly, his hero powers would be exposed and grandfather was away on business. Besides, if he solved this himself, Rixel's standing would undoubtedly be shaken, and he had no intention of eyeing Rixel's position. Good grief, a hero's potion that anyone could use, but turning a blind eye wasn't an option either. He had to go back and figure something out. Would it be okay for me to come back and check again later? Of course, once officially approved, the immunity potion will be supplied to the Asteria family first, so it's good to study it in advance. Oh, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for what? Instead, feel free to drop by and visit often when you have free time. And if you're interested in the Magic Tower heading down this career path, before he could finish his sentence, Leon hurriedly declined and bolted out. I must be going now. Was that old man trying to stealthily shove him into the Magic Tower through the back door? Never. Oh, very well, then see you next time. Yes, sir. Have a safe trip, Lord Lion. Walking down the hallway, he wrestled with intense inner turmoil. Commercialization was only a week away. His hands clenched tightly with determination. Without shaking Rixel's position, he had to resolve this situation smoothly at all costs.